Picture some nobody with zero talent, no magic at all, just a guy staring down the world like it doesn't care. Cutting himself off completely, he lived alone up in the mountains. Because 2 years ago his girlfriend, Arya, left him in the dust for a truly talented hero, which lit a fire in him and sent him jetting across the world solo, crushing countless monsters in his path. And he keeps getting stronger, so powerful it sneaks up on him before he even realizes it. And just like that, he bursts back into the city, harder, tougher, and far stronger than any hero left standing. The story kicks off with a tiny, lost elf staring down a towering dragon like it's his last chance to survive. Panic rips through her, she launches into a desperate scream, terrified out of her mind. But our main character crashes in at the very last second. He just strolled up and casually greeted the drag queen like it was no big deal. He stared down the dragon and demanded it chill for just a second. He tells her the girl probably stumbled in by accident, so there's no reason to blow up. But the furious dragon roars a warning, now he's going to devour them both. He barrels straight into the beast and drives one devastating punch home. And he left the dragon sprawled out, utterly defeated on the ground. And Sienna, the little girl, stared in stunned disbelief like her world just flipped. Stunned by how he casually tore through an S-rank monster like it was nothing. He flashes a grin and introduces himself, Wazoo. And then he hauled her to her feet on that monster-riddled mountain. As they were chatting, he suddenly felt it, an arrow streaking through the distance straight for him. With insane reflexes, he snatches the arrow out of the air at the very last second, and screams for the shooter to finally show their face. An adult elf bursts into view, gripping a bow like it's about to sing. And Sienna erupts into screams, begging him not to attack. He's talking it all through, saying this guy hauled her away from the dragon on that mountain. Salona, the elf who pulled the trigger, was still giving off major "I know more than I'm saying" energy. But because of him, Sienna is still alive. She pulls him back to the elf village, using gratitude as the perfect excuse. When they finally rolled into that massive village, the place hit them like a wave. The moment they heard he lives on that mountain by himself, every single elf went wide-eyed and stunned. But even with Salona as the village guardian, she didn't trust him. No, not an inch. The elves marched him into their fruit forest and showed him every glowing treasure between the trees. And the moment he grabbed the very first fruit to bite into, everybody lunged in to stop him. He snatched the one poisonous fruit that would drop him dead in an instant. He completely brushed them off and still devoured the fruit anyway. He turned and walked off, leaving the whole crowd in stunned silence, because somehow he was still standing. Salona stared him up and down, baffled that the guy who could beat dragons looked like he'd never even been touched. No scars anywhere. She held her breath till nightfall, then finally went searching for answers, slipping into his room without a single sound. He stepped inside, then whipped out his guild card, scanning it like it was the key to uncovering who he truly was. The card flashed a clear truth: he was a 16-year-old human. But then she spotted something completely different, and it made her suspicions explode even harder. So she made up her mind, tomorrow she'd spill the whole truth to everyone. Next morning, Wazoo jolted awake after a full night of solid, deep sleep. Salona snapped him over with a grin and demanded a chat. She leaned in and whispered, "I know your secret. That he still hasn't updated his card in 2 whole years. And that's the real reason. He's a wanted criminal and everyone knows it." She bowed her head and apologized, but then the Guardian's switch flipped and she had no choice. She had to protect the village no matter what. Wazoo snapped, "It's not fine, she's got it twisted. He isn't a criminal at all." So he could dodge the flood of memories from 2 years back. He finally throws in the towel and walks out, calling out his goodbyes to the other elves before he goes. She hated how harsh she sounded, but she knew she had to do it. After marching for a bit, he dropped into a seat and started spiraling in his own thoughts, way too deep. Then it hit him, he was getting way too soft over everything. Suddenly, 2 elves barreled toward him at full speed, screaming that the village was under attack by Gazuna, while some wannabe, the guy gunning to become the next guardian, caught everyone's panic in his wake. They pleaded with Wazoo to turn back and rescue Salona before it was too late. They bolted back at full speed, like nothing in the world could slow them down. Arrived at the last second, ready to smash into the fray and rescue her during the battle. Kazuna got swallowed whole by revenge after everyone treated him like he didn't belong. He slams his power to life and summons every monster under his control. Wazoo snaps at them to calm down, he's got this guy handled. Now he pauses and takes a deep, shaky breath like he's about to face the moment head-on. He plants a single palm out front and slams the giant monster's charge to a screeching halt. Salona stood frozen, totally unable to believe what she was seeing. Watching a regular human, no magic at all, somehow hold their own. Could wipe out every last monster with terrifying ease. Realizing he's stronger than any man she's ever laid eyes on. Kazuna was totally stunned at how ridiculously fast his monsters got wiped out. Especially when every last one of them was stuck at rank B. Without even a breath to think, Gazuna snaps up a protective dome the instant trouble hits. They sealed the area tight around Dual Salona, cutting off Wazoo so it couldn't interfere. Desperate to prove he's the real deal, he chokes down his own magic orb. And then he morphs into a gigantic, unstoppable monster. He rockets toward her at full speed. Salona slips the attack at the absolute last second, barely dodging disaster. And she thrusts her sword straight into his neck. But that wasn't going to stop him. He snaps one punch through the air and she gets blasted flying. With a crushing grip on her neck, he snarls that she's about to join the pile as nothing but another pathetic dead elf. And the whole village is about to watch her meet her end. Wazoo suddenly rockets forward and hammers a punch so hard it cracks the dome and sends it exploding into pieces. The monster spits bastard and demands why he's fighting tooth and nail to save her. Wazoo shoots back that he just couldn't stand the thought of watching her die. With zero hesitation, he swings up and smashes a massive punch straight into the creature's face. Still fretting over Salona, he charges over and checks if she's really okay. But the monster suddenly strikes out of nowhere, smashing through his defenses and leaving him completely helpless. The creature rips into full power, swinging everything it has to smash Wazoo into the dirt. But then wham, an arrow slams into it in the back. At the very end, it was Salona who drove the final shot home and stole the monster's life. Wazoo lies on the ground and then, like a ghost returning, he feels something he hasn't felt in years and it terrifies him. He remembers the last time he felt this way, how it ended in betrayal, and he snaps to action, sprinting for his life. Later, she climbed up into the tree and just stared at the branches, stunned. Why did he leave without even a word? Her friend blurts, "Wait, Wazoo forgot his guild card." That card only wakes up when the owner bleeds into it. She presses a single drop of her own blood onto the card. Even though the card wasn't hers the moment it hit, it still sprang to life. Out of nowhere, the card starts talking to her and demands to know what she thinks she's doing. It freaks her out because that card is radiating straight up divine energy. Seizing the moment, Salona presses in, trying to dig into Wazoo's life, only for the card to stonewall her and refuse to answer. When she threatens to toss the card aside, the divine voice finally cracks and gives in. But it's basically pleading with her to make sure Wazoo never finds out about this conversation. 2 years ago, everything kicked off, and we had no idea it would explode like this. Back when he was still living it up in the big city. But he'd rather stay out by the walls with his girlfriend Arya, soaking up every second together. One day, she finally broke her silence, and the words he'd been starving for hit his ears. "Let's get married." This was the happiest day of his life, because he'd wanted it forever, and after every rejection stacked up, the moment finally crashed into existence. But a year later, his girlfriend was dragged into action and summoned to hit the road with the heroes. Wazoo burst after them, desperate to catch up and go with her. But the main hero lunged in, shut him down instantly, pulled him aside and flat out told him he was way too weak to even come along. And honestly, it's not even worth their time. In that exact moment, our protagonist clenched his resolve and chose a path that would change everything. By the time Arya came back, he was about to be ridiculously, dangerously strong. Another year slammed shut and suddenly rumors ignited. People swore the heroes were coming back. He and his sister Kagane were absolutely buzzing after hearing the news. Without even a beat, Wazoo bolted out to find Arya after all those years. The whole city threw a non-stop party, celebrating their hero's triumphant return. And just like that, right there in the middle of them, Arya strolled along with the group. Wazoo finally barreled into the crowd, and the chaos swallowed him whole. When he looked up, there she was, the woman he loved most, standing right beside the hero leader. Then the moment hit, and it absolutely shattered his entire world. And Arya was kissing another man, right there in front of the whole city, leaving everyone in shock. He was completely shattered. He snapped around and bolted, never once looking back. Right then, he snapped. There was no way he could stay in the capital any longer. For him, every last spark of life died there. Every memory he had with Arya turned to a blade, pure gut-twisting pain. And it felt like her face was haunting every street corner of that city. That same day, his sister tore through the whole house, hunting for him like her life depended on it. After tearing through every room, she finally realized he was gone. That's exactly how Wazoo's epic journey kicked off. Strolling around like a ghost, empty inside, with zero clue why life even matters. And after that, Wazoo wandered off like he was lost in a haze, until he ended up on that same mountain he'd known forever. And after a bit of time, Wazoo was suddenly on. He can't even take another step, he's seconds from dying. Tumbling into the snow with a brutal, breath-stealing impact. He remembers every single thing that happened before, every detail like it's still burning in his mind. That mountain is packed with monsters so brutal and powerful, they'll tear you apart without a second thought. And people swear that even the elite knights can't handle this. Wazoo accidentally stepped right into it, like the universe dared him to. But right then, at that exact One moment and a weird little. Weirdly, I kept staring at the protagonist, like something about them didn't feel right. It finally clicks, he realizes the snow isn't just falling, it's swallowing him whole. No, at that moment that little M's. The monster lunges to rip out the S it can get its hands on. Snowflakes kissed his skin, and the warmth chasing behind them made him glow. Right out of nowhere, Wazoo starts talking, begging that he needs to eat something like it can't wait. I don't know why, but this tiny dragon's got a backpack on, like it's out on a quest. He grabbed his stuff and hauled out something that looked way too suspicious. He slides the suspicious food into the protagonist's hands. He had no choice but to do it, just to choke down that slop, and even thought he was about to kick the bucket. But he couldn't shake it, he didn't come there to die. He didn't just get killed, he never went down alone. After fainting again a little later, Wazoo jolts his eyes open. His eyes widened as he realized he was still alive. And just when things couldn't get any crazier, an S-rank monster is literally perched on his head, like it owns the place. Honestly, it's just a tiny dragon that kept him safe and somehow seemed to genuinely adore him. Then, just minutes later, Wazoo prowled around the area, but no matter where he looked, he couldn't spot a single strong monster. Still, he had to hunt down anything before the hunger crushed him. So he starts pacing around the whole place like he's searching for something. He stumbles on a hidden stash of mushrooms. And even a bone, yeah, he actually eats it, and I'm still sitting here like, why would anyone do that? Because he's starving, every bite hits like pure heaven. Alright, he's got to do everything he can to smash monsters, level up, and earn his place. Because then a boy grabs a card while his curious dragon watches, and he discovers it's a guild seal that reveals his status like a living scoreboard. It's the kind of evidence that screams, he's built for adventure, and it goes back as far as he can remember. Yeah, look, his strength sits around 1,500. Suddenly, a noise rips out from the card and someone blurts, "Wazoo, can you hear me? Don't worry, everything's going to be okay," and he's convinced that from here on out, his path is loaded with good things waiting just for him. And yeah, he's got it right there. Wazoo cuts in again, demanding to know who that voice belongs to. He reads the card and it's basically screaming, "Before you forget, remember this blessing I gave you, so you've got to accept it." And yeah, it turns out that card is kind of a goddess. Even I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Because when they shifted the kid's status, everything flipped, and instead of numbers, there are now words, and honestly, doesn't that make it way more interesting? Because he also unlocked a crazy power. If he ate something from a higher level, he instantly leveled up even more. Levels? Wazoo is so clueless he might as well be a drum. He still hasn't understood a single thing. So he figured that out, and boom, that's why the food tasted so insanely good now. And once he'd eaten those mushrooms, he spins around and stares at that card one more time. Little by little, his abilities kept shifting, and he couldn't stop the change from creeping in. And Wazoo can't help thinking this has to be some kind of mistake. Because if it's not, then we're dealing with something insanely overpowered. And then the goddess leans in and demands, "So how far are you trying to level up?" So if he keeps unleashing that freaky devourer ability, yeah, this is about to get real. He'll get stronger than a goddess, and when Wazoo hears that, he just can't believe it. Honestly, since he arrived, he hasn't run into a single monster, and the goddess tells him it's because the creatures are terrified of the aura blasting off him. Suddenly, a massive creature erupts from the shadows and roars that this is exactly where the little dragon was. It was fine at first, then boom, the damage hits hard and the creature's mother's show turns into a straight-up disaster. Arrives, and the dragon's jaws drop when it spots a human standing on the mountain. Mountains echoed as the order snapped through the air, "Disappear fast and don't look back. Hurry up or King Ragnar will personally come for you." And right here it calls for the little dragon, no questions asked. Dragon orders Wazoo to back off because she's the one who saved his life in the first place. Ripping the monster up by its tail, he lashes out and the tail flies, hurled so far it disappears into the distance. Seriously, the kid is freakishly strong. He lands a brutal hit and the creature drops like it got knocked off the world. Calls to the ground, still not getting it, and Wazoo. Heizu freezes, shocked, and blurts out, "Is that okay?" The dragon and the protagonist both stare because neither of them even understands how he pulled that off. A little later, it looks like everything's finally settled, and then the dragon speaks. Says the little one's name is Mir, and yep, she's his daughter. Daughter too, she's clearly itching to see what's out there beyond her world. And man, when those two giant dragons showed up, Wazoo practically lost his mind, because he swears he never thought dragons could look so much like humans. Humans, then he blurts out, "Is this its castle?" And the black dragon answers, "Yeah, but it doesn't look like it has a real home. Back home, if he wants, he can use it anytime he wants." And Wazoo rushes in to thank him and apologize for all the trouble he caused. The dragon boasts that his power is unreal, its flames couldn't even singe him. He asks if the protagonist's really human, and the kid shoots back that he's at least 88%. Then it presses harder. Does he count as a hero, or does he still have to run off on an adventure with his friends? He shrugs it off and says, it's not like I'm chasing some big goal or anything. Ragnar leans in and asks, straight from the heart, so why isn't he marching off to smash the demon lord yet? If he's got all that fear to crush, conquering a whole world won't be some impossible dream, it'll be inevitable. Hearing that, our boy goes totally quiet. What he'd witnessed in the capital before everything went down. He blurts out that all he wants right now is, right now he's nothing but a friend. If someone stood by him with pure love, all the way from the bottom of their heart, then he'd leave those feelings behind and come roaring back to where he grew up, flooded with memories he'd never really forgotten. And that's the royal capital. But now he's absolutely terrified. Fear hits him hard. Just thinking about getting anywhere near that place makes his body shake. But if one day you've got a precious friend you can trust, then you can face it. Trust me, if you keep going and end up running into the hero again, you won't feel this crushed and heartbroken the way you do right now. Now the two surprised dragons lean in and tell him straight up that he's been through hell. But it turns out his daughter was seriously obsessed with Wazoo. So he's done with this mountain, now he's striking out on a whole new journey. Now he's going to hand Mir over to him. And finally forge real, lasting friends. And with that, the story rips past the detour and snaps right back to the present. The moment the goddess wraps up every last detail for Salona, everything clicks into place. Mona snapped that she'd done something truly cruel to Wazoo. She can't even begin to picture the kind of pain he must have felt after losing the friend he loved. Watching it happen right before his eyes as she left love for another man. Before that, she let loose a barrage of cruel words that cut like knives. He shoved his feelings down in front of a crowd, like he was marching to a public execution. Honestly, to be straight with you, she was being brutally honest. She couldn't bear the idea of letting the protagonist go alone. Still, she swore to her parents she would guard this with her life. The forest felt alive until other elves crashed in, insisting that if it's true she needs to stop working. Don't stress, since she'd been acting weird, he rushed over to check on her, and somehow he caught the entire story firsthand, and now Salona is staring at her like, so what do you mean by what you just said? And the girl fires back, telling him she has to stop lying to her own heart, and that her village isn't helpless enough to need her guarding it every single second. Sienna even said the same thing before. Now she's got no choice but to jump into the protagonist's harem. Then the other elf leans in and tells her, take good care of that card, okay? It's 100% her call whether she jumps into that guy's harem, but she doesn't risk a thing by handing the card right back. Wazoo, because this is huge, and the second he heard it. And just like that, this girl is already locked in, way more driven than ever. Saying she'd chase after the protagonist. She starts to walk away, then turns back and thanks them for everything, leaving the rest in their capable hands. Then when the two catch sight of the girl walking out, they freeze mid-move. If the guy there grilled him about whether Salona had always been like that before. She's getting there, but the elf insists the only thing on her mind right now is Wazoo. She's convinced she has no idea what that suffocating feeling really means. But all she can think about is one thing, she's dying to learn more about Wazoo. After you've finally dug deeper into who he really was. She's convinced you'll feel it too, and she'll know exactly what this is the moment it hits. She's kept her promise to her parents, she'll protect the forest. But she can't help thinking how terrified they'd be if they were alive to see what's coming. They'd push her to do it all over again, no question. She just asks Wazoo to hold up and wait for her. On the edge of it all, the poor protagonist fought his way toward the city gates, desperate to get inside. But yeah, of course he can. There's no way they'd let some shady stranger slip into the city without proper identification. Wazir admits he's been through hell and now he just wants one thing. A bed to crash on and something small to eat. Yeah, it's short, but trust me, life's brutal, and it never lets up once you're stuck with the sidelines. At the mighty city of Linek, he'd been gone from the elves' village for days on end. Honestly, he has no clue how he ended up there after everything that happened. But even so, he can't forget Salona. After everything he'd tried, he still got shut down again, rejected one more time. So yeah, you kinda expect it, don't you? Right? Because right after they met, he went and asked her to tag along with him, and now Mare is trying to help. But he waves it off, saying it's fine now. He'll need to push closer to them first, then finally invite them next time. Because building a harem is exactly a walk in the park. First, he has to fix the guild card he lost, and yeah, there's no way he's heading back to the elves' village. And just when he finally reaches this giant city, things get worse. He can't even get inside. He steps in, then glances to his side, and suddenly he's left wondering what he should do next. He spots a tiny little girl. A girl sprinting for her life, chased by something she refused to face. Dude, she had a giant mammoth chasing her right behind her, like right there. And then right when things couldn't get worse, boom, it got worse. First, the girl barreled toward Wazoo. And he called out to the little girl, begging her to come closer. The beast was already lying there, eyes wide and sleepless, and Wazoo asked if she was okay, while still doubting the protagonist could have taken that thing down all by herself. Alone now, she thanks him for the help, asks if he's a traveler and offers, because of her gratitude, to have him stay right at her inn. Our boy blurts out, "I can't even get into the city." Since his guild card is gone, he can't take it in or help anyone, no matter how badly he wants to. At this point, the little girl tells him, "You can get your guild card back," and all he has to do is match the data recorded in his hometown. And since life never cuts you slack, he has to scrape together 5 gold coins. And yeah, no wonder the kids got barely any cash to spare. The girl snaps that this is a total disaster. She wants to hire someone as strong as him to be her security guard. He pulls her in, then Wazoo leans in and asks, "So the city's really that dangerous?" It's dangerous, and she fires back that the inn is packed with adventurers who just want a real night's sleep, or a hot meal after their mission. But before long, troublemakers with bad manners start stirring things up, acting like they own the place just because they're strong. Wazoo snaps back, asking if she wants his help because if that's the case, it's totally fine, especially now that the girl is accepting it. With a shaky breath, she admits she'll do everything she can to persuade her father. "Mom, he's insanely strong, let him handle the rest." She tells him her name is Lula, and yeah, I didn't like it from the start, because she's basically the poster girl for the end. He steps in right now, and Wazoo makes his move by introducing himself because he's not just taking it today. He'll inherit it again in the future. Everyone races back to the entrance again. And I can't wait to see how Wazoo is gonna pull this off, because if things go wrong, it's gonna be wild. Get in, somehow this kid pulled it off, and even he stood there in total shock like, "I can't believe I actually did this." Because he had no criminal record, and they even confirmed his registration in the city of Isco. His Skola steps up. He's got permission to enter with a temporary pass, and now he has to do everything he can to make sure Rage knows he's grateful. Reagan didn't understand a thing, so Wazoo blurted, "Who's this guy?" And the girl smiled and said it was her father, the owner of the inn who cooks up amazing food. Then she added, "He'll hand over his card after he proves himself, so he's gotta go all out," and Wazoo caught every word. He blurts out, asking what he's supposed to do right now. Then she tells him straight up that her father will hand him a job he could only take if he were already in a guild, so for today, he's just got to rest. Today, Wazoo snaps, asking what she's talking about, and the little girl just says it could mean wiping out monsters or fixing some other problem. He'll face the problems head-on, and you can bet he's not getting stopped by them. Right now, he's stuck as an F-rank adventurer, and there's no way he's walking away with anything worth bragging about. But once he climbs the ranks, everything finally levels up. Better rewards, bigger opportunities, and maybe he'll even form his own crew. Suddenly, the girl explodes with excitement and demands that she comes visit him, right when that happens. And Wazoo, smart enough not to miss a thing, realizes she's been aiming for this all along. Switching gears, he leans in and asks what kind of job she's aiming for, and whether she plans to pour all her time into it. But before long, someone pops up and asks, "Lula, did you bring another guest?" And I immediately shut it down because I really don't like that girl's name. Then she blurts out an apology because a giant creature had been tailing her, and that guy swoops in and saves her. She's grabbing the protagonist's attention, thanking him with the biggest smile, while the girl stands right there. The girl told him, "You got here at the perfect moment. My husband's in the middle of getting cooking, but the poor guy just wanted a quiet room to rest," and she bluntly says. He shrugs it off like all good, insisting he doesn't even need to stress about the money to pay. A few minutes later, everything still felt like it was about to explode, right on the edge of the next twist. Later on, the kid wound up in a tavern, stuffing himself while looking around at all the adventurers packed in the room. Some girls are standing there, and once they set their sights on you, you just can't say no. He's completely lost, like he has no idea what to do next. "Why won't you let go, my boys?" Dude, you can tell he's taking that plan to build a totally unhinged harem seriously, like he's not joking for a second. Honestly, and then he snapped, like pure rage had nowhere to go. Imagining how smooth life could be, just enjoying every single moment. He's fully locked in, then out of nowhere, surprise hits him like a punch. He's stunned because the food is ridiculously good. But the other table didn't see it that way at all. Turns out they were acting all rich like, "Yeah, we've got everything," just so they could sneak a bite of a commoner's food. To remind themselves that their social rank sits at the very top. He clocks them as the rude ones, and the thought hits him hard. And since they'd already cleared him a room, and once he steps back in, he'll wipe out the entire problem by himself. But right then, that little girl showed up, calling out anyone who dared to mock her father's cooking. The guys keep hurling insults, and they swear her dad's going to have to relearn how to cook, because apparently he's terrible at it. And just when you think it's true, Lula snaps back, saying it's all a lie because her dad's food is the best in the entire world. Suddenly, the whole world feels surreal, Then someone hurls the bowl and screams that it's all ridiculous. From the back, he watched the chaos unfold, and that pesky extra shoved in, asking if he wanted to get involved, while secretly doubting anyone had the guts to do anything at all. Anything, since they're a rank from a crew called Black Blade. Plays on, and that little girl stayed jittery, blurting that she didn't care, even though you could tell she absolutely did. She demanded they apologize to her father right now. Rage kept climbing in his chest as he hovered right on the edge of doing something. And then boom, the protagonist steps into the spotlight. For years, silence dragged on, then the man finally snapped, "Who are you?" He says that and Wazoo shoots back, "Now you're just an F-rank adventurer." An adventurer steps in and then boom, he gets an extra set too. Says that if it's really like that, he'll teach him something so interesting it'll blow his mind. It's interesting because the kind of people who act like that usually don't last long. Out of nowhere, this man snaps into a full-on rage and charges the protagonist with a knife. And the wildest part, it just shattered on its own. And suddenly, it's like the story slams shut in your face, everyone's caught in the same awful momentum, like it's being pushed forward no matter what. The guy froze in shock, then blurted, "Wait, what kind of ability do you use?" He kept reaching for it, but now Wazoo was burning through the last of his gone just like that. Ideas flew out of the room as he tossed one of them straight out the window. They won't slip out of this that easily, no chance. Before anyone could blink, the whole crew had already broken out and spilled outside the cage. The cave and the MC just stood there, calm as ice, watching them like he already knew how this was going to end. And the scar-faced guy claims he's got a special power. He just needs to figure out what it is first, then it's game over for everyone else. Right in the heart of the city, the guy hurls a fire spell out of nowhere, and Wazoo erupts in flames. Fire roared, and right after that, the cave swallowed the heat. Chaos erupts and he leans in like, "So do you get it now? This is what an adventure feels like." Adventure blazing ahead until the dust finally swallowed the path. So right then, Wazoo was right there. Phased, the guy just couldn't get it. He understands nothing, then he charges back in again, this time with everyone at his side. One at once, Wazook. Everyone keeps swearing that attack won't stand a chance against him, and I don't buy it. On him, right in that breathless moment when one of the extras trips and drops to the ground, right in front of him. He suddenly crashes into that little dragon, poor thing, had its food snatched right out of its paws. Then he stumbled and face-planted straight into the puddle of water. While the other extras were still yapping and talking, he was busy with something. Wazoo, the tiny little creature, was seething with pure rage. Curious, how dare they mess with it? It's food, and the moment they take a bite, it lights everyone up like a match. Fire, Wazoo rushes in to stop Mir, warning him he's about to set the entire air on fire. While everyone else argued, those poor guys in the corner had already turned to face him. As the charcoal burned, a bunch of guild members just watched the whole F***K go down. The fight ends and suddenly everyone's slamming their hands together, congratulating. Wazoo, Lula shoots him a grateful smile, saying it's awesome they finally got what. Wazoo all smiles, dodges the topic and blurts that the food his father cooked is. Right after that, the girl's mother snaps, "I hope you learned your lesson because you're not showing up there again." There I went again, and honestly, deep down, I knew it was probably not going to happen. Meanwhile, in the alley, someone's watching the protection like it's the best show in town, waiting for the next move. Maybe he's got the kind of handsomeness that makes you trust him, so I'm thinking he could lend me his power. Right after that, a sudden flashback slams onto the screen. Back when Wazoo was out in the elves' field, he swore he never expected to stumble on so much good stuff. Good things, then Salona blurts out, and everything changes. Make sure you're 100% certain that everything's wide open. He shrugs and tells you, if this is happening because of that wild fruit I just ate, then it didn't do a thing, no effect at all on. Meanwhile, Salona couldn't shake her nerves, and she kept darting her eyes to the side like something was about to blow up. Right there, out of nowhere, a giant lobster crashed into the scene. She suddenly appears, and the girl begs everyone to head back to the village, swearing she'll stall the threat and hold them off. Wazoo grabs his attention and says he can't just walk away. He won't leave her alone in a mess like this. She pleads with everything she's got, trying to drag the protagonist out of danger and make him leave. Go ahead and leave, but he's absolutely not going anywhere. He's staying put, of course. Day came to a stop, and he barked at the lobster to come out. Salona snaps, "Why are you poking it?" Because they only need one thing right now, time until. Right up until the village elves finally show up. Wazoo blurts out whether, just maybe, they won't wipe them out, and Salona admits she'd love to be the one to make that happen. Yeah, but trust me, it's nowhere near that simple. Easy, suddenly that lobster lunges and clamps onto the boy with its claws, right then and there. It's a claw, but he stays ice calm, calmly saying that. Still gripping the monster's claw, Salona blurts out that no matter what, that thing is insanely dangerous. It was deadly, and still, man, that kid ripped the little creature to pieces. Now I get it, this isn't a lobster at all, it's a scorpion. And the wild part, it still didn't work on the boy either. So Salona just stands there, watching it all unfold with zero clue what's going on. Anything, then the scorpion snaps into motion and goes straight for her. He's not letting her go either, he steps in to protect her no matter what. Then the elf demands point-blank why he did it. He went for it, then the scorpion just crumbled into pieces. A little later it was all over, resolved, done, and the elves couldn't even believe it. Just the two of them and they still crushed that giant creature. Everyone's dying to know what kind of magic the boy has, because the moment they catch a hint, the whole world leans in. The boy grips it, but there's a catch, he's just a... Right then, the protagonist stood there with that little girl. Girls rush in, then Wazoo wakes up, and she blurts out that she's absolutely blown away by everything she just saw. Before that, the kid wiped out that whole group in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, but... Meanwhile, Wazoo swears he didn't do a damn thing. Mir had just dropped one chilling command, everyone on fire, and somehow that was all it took. Yet Lula swears she watched Wazoo's power with her own eyes, no doubt at all. She glances him over, then flips the conversation, asking him if he remembers why he came to the guild today, and he tells her he's here for a mission so they can remake his guild card. Then the girl blurts out that the guild master can't wait to meet him, so he's gotta give it everything he's got. Best she really wanted to go with him, but she had to grab more food for her. She leans in and promises she'll keep him from getting snatched by another monster ever again. Then, as the deal lands, someone else steps in to take him away. Someone will come pick him up, and right after that, a girl steps in to take care of the protagonist. No way, she just walks up and drops it, "I'm Emma." Then she reveals she's the receptionist at the Adventurers Guild. The guild, yeah, our hero snaps bright red and blurts out, "You're saying I'm beautiful." Beautiful, and right then, Lua grins and says she'll handle everything else. Wazoo asks why the receptionist is there in person, and she snaps back that the guildmaster is summoning him. Because Wazoo's clash with the Black Blaze crew last night is the juicy story she came to bring up, and the guildmaster wants to hear it straight from him. Meet him, if that happens, he'll have to swap clothes, so she offers to help, but Wazoo says he can dress himself, but she couldn't care less, and starts tearing off Wazoo's. His heart sank as he realized the clothes were exactly as bad as he'd feared. A little later, the boy's already halfway through something big, fighting fate as the words trail off. He straightened his clothes as he strode through the city, talking nonstop to the girl beside him. He's convinced he can't pull off walking beside a beautiful girl so early in the morning, because he's never had a girlfriend in his whole life. Then Emma flashes a grin and says, "We're here." He burst in and realized this was the Adventurers Guild of Lilac, the city's gateway to destiny. Now they race up to the top floor and burst into the master's room. As they climb the stairs, Emma snapped that he should stop staring so hard. And while she focused ahead, Wazoo spun around, clocking all kinds of people, including demihumans everywhere. Humans, then out of nowhere, Emma starts gasping, confessing she basically never climbs stairs. Wazoo shoots a quick glance over his shoulder. He glances at it, annoyed because it feels like he's about to fall into this temptation all over again just by looking. Now minutes crawl by and then they finally burst through the door, arriving at last. In the guild master's room, the protagonist leans in and takes a long, curious look around. You look and there he is, stuck in that classic pose, then the man. And he throws his gratitude at him, because the second he arrives, you can tell he's been waiting for this moment. For him, it's Reagan, leader of the guild here in Lena City. Limbic, at this point, Wazoo's already clocked it. The moment hits and he understands. And that's the whole reason this hits so hard, because that guy is literally the father of that little girl. Reagan turns to Emma and with real gratitude thanks her for bringing that young man here. He shifts the focus, then says he finally understood the whole mess because of Lula and Kayla, and he's not holding back. He genuinely wants to thank him for saving both of them. Right after that, Wazoo leans in and demands, "So you're really Lula's father, huh?" The guild leader snaps back, Lula is his daughter and Kayla is his wife. Life and the protagonist can't even wrap his head around it, because his wife and daughter are insanely beautiful, like they must have come from some past marriage, while this guy honestly looks downright ugly. Ugly, right? But the bald guy there snaps that Lula is his daughter, and he tells everyone he married Kayla because their love was real, so he has to watch every word from here on out. Next time, still, our little boy refuses to believe it, because this idiot has a wife and he's out here alone. Alone, the boy's in agony, and to make it even worse, the guy in front of him is the owner of the... Turns out his life kind of got cut short back then, so he really doesn't have much to lose, and right after that, the guild leader admits he's been through a brutal life. Then the protagonist shifts gears and demands his guild card back, but Reagan snaps back, he didn't bring him there just for that. All because he tore down the Black Blaze single-handedly. Listen, no one's stepping up to carry out their mission, and somehow he doesn't get blamed for it either. Blame doesn't change it, he didn't call him for nothing, he called because he needs him. Our hero shrugs and says he's only rank F, and the leader just smirks. Yeah, he knows, but he's got the power to take it. To take down a ranked group and walk away spotless. So yeah, this job fits him like a glove, and even though he's still young, he tamed a dragon, and right away Wazoo, completely lost, blurts, "What do you mean?" "It means right here, Reagan's." Reagan says that around 2 weeks ago, a merchant on the road spotted a chilling dragon shadow crawling across the mountain. He can't promise there won't be anyone harmed out there, but he knows the dragon could still go after humans. So he pushes the boy to study it inside and out, and if he can manage it, to tame it. Wazoo blurts, "I don't even know if I can get A," and the whole payment falls apart in his hands. He thinks he can roll with a dragon just by bringing Mir along, but because it's way too dangerous, he'll have to do it. Right after Reagan thanks him, she'll hand him 30 gold coins as a reward. And then boom, he grabs the coins, gets all pumped, and you realize the boy isn't just anybody, he's an aristocrat. If anything goes down, just go beat that scary. The dragon roared, and then the guild leader challenged him, saying, "If you're really that confident, go on, handle the rest yourself." Then Wazoo casually demands a map, because anything else would only slow him down. Reagan tells him, "I can get you one from the receptionist." And right as Wazoo starts calling the guy Bald, things get tense. Bald swears he'll get there no matter what. Meanwhile, the guild leader still had something gnawing at him. No way, there's no planet where this kid just one-punched the dragon and walked away like it was nothing. Punch, and now all he can do is sit on edge, waiting for that report with bated breath. A little while after that, the protagonist finally got his hands on it. He's got to use that map, but first he still needs food too. And ever since yesterday's incident, Mir's blown up in popularity, with people weirdly calling him a dragon tamer. A few minutes later, everything starts to change. Wazoo was already there for it, before anyone even thought to start. And Kayla leans in and asks, "Did you just?" She just found out her husband is the new guild master now. Now he doesn't have a second to waste on small talk, so he dashes off, convinced Kayla is genuinely a kind soul. She's out there, but just when you think you've got a shot, bam, she's already taken. Suddenly someone barrels into the boy, and with his head bowed, Wazoo blurts out an apology, and then can't help pushing, "I've gotta know. Figure out who this person is, watch how they size up the whole situation." In that moment he blurts out, asking if someone is chasing her. She's being chased, so she darts into hiding like right now. Sprinting into the alley, the girl vanished, while the people outside frantically searched for her. In Wazoo's words, somehow he couldn't shake the weird vibe coming off those guys. Anyway, she's safe, so she can walk out on her own, and then the girl leans in and asks, "So you're the guy who beat that ranked adventurer, right?" Wazoo insists it was only his dragon who wiped that whole group out, and he's nothing but an F-rank adventurer. Soon after the shock hit, the woman leans in and says, "You've got a seriously interesting name." He yanked her name right out of the picture, like he was tearing a secret off the wall. At some point, she's got to pay back that debt, but Wazoo says it can wait after. But after all that, he's got one brutal mission left: slay a dragon. The girl's shocked, right? This kid is actually about to take down a dragon with those tiny scrap-like tools. Still, Wazoo tells him he's headed back to the city, and Tada smiles and says she'll thank him later. But for the boy, none of that changes a thing. And honestly, just being able to know more about her feels amazing. So yeah, until that moment, he's got to stay sharp and keep those bandits at bay. Then the girl blurts out, shocked, "Why would you go that far for a stranger?" A stranger blurts it out like it means nothing at all, and she just stands there with this lonely look that says everything. His face said it all. He couldn't stand the thought of leaving someone with that look all alone. So yeah, he'll grind as hard as he can to get back fast. He grins and promises he'll see her later, the girl. The protagonist grins back at them, like they just cracked the whole situation wide open, saying he's a total weirdo. Then not long after, some random night starts closing in on our ears. Hero steps forward and introduces himself, "I'm Orlando." Then he leans in and hits you with it, "You don't remember me, I'm the one who interviewed you at the gate." He flips the subject, presses the question, "Where are you headed?" And without missing a beat, Wazoo answers way too naturally that he's just going to kill a damn dragon. The guy panics, begs him to at least grab a sword or spear, but Wazoo steamrolls right past it all. Orlando says, "Since you're leaving the city of Linux, give back your temporary pass. Sure, your dragon could be tough, but you're basically begging to die fighting it, so at least form a team." But our boy had already vanished, and he insists, no matter what, that he at least has to believe this kid will crawl back alive. And just a bit later, Wazoo closed in on the mountain, muttering that it was still very far from the rest. Reagan swears there's supposed to be a tiny mountain sitting by that lake. Stop yapping already and hurry to that blessed place. He reached that place, but the tiny dragon snapped. He couldn't take it anymore, and he needed to eat something right now. Wazoo drops the food bag to the ground, and the dragon lifts its tiny head to something. 1 second it's right there in his hands, and the next, poof. The bag vanishes, then snaps back like nothing happened, and I'm totally lost. Wazoo's eyes went wide when he saw the power. He blurted, "Wait, I didn't know you could do that," then asked, "So is that magic?" And besides, it's this impossibly cute little creature that just grabs your heart. This creature can store it, and now it's convinced it can't live without it in the. And in the end, maybe it all crashes down to this. She'll have to be his bride after all. Later on, Wazoo strolled through that place, surveying everything like it was his next move. And he stares at the sunset and blurts out, "This is amazing. Wonderful, the world's massive." And he's left wondering where he'll ever find someone who will stay his friend forever. Forever anyway, they finally charged into the exact right spot. Looks like Reagan is talking about that sacred mountain, but there's no dragon. He walks in and glances to the side, then spots a cave. Cave's getting closer. He can't help wondering if that blessed dragon might be within reach. Is there? Because in this scene the guy storms into the cave, mutters that there's still nobody around. Then what happens next is gonna blow your mind, and so. And then bam, a massive creature crashes onto the scene demanding, "So you're not with." No way her husband couldn't have sent him there. And if that's the case, he better choose every word carefully, because he'll never come back. Return all of this no matter what happens, even if it's what the protagonist demands. So she makes the request, and our hero's thrown for a loop because she's literally the mother of his dragon, and right after that, the protagonist steps into his next move as everything starts to change. Desperate, begging her to calm down, snapping questions at her. What the hell is she talking about? And are they dealing with some kind of ing truth here? A fight, she snaps that it's way worse than any fight you've ever seen. She's had enough of the fight. She's decided to leave him for good and head straight back to her hometown. Wazoo blurts out if she was raised around there, and the dragoness nods, then leans in asking if the protagonist came too. Ragnar was the reason he showed up. Near right here, our hero finally admits he didn't come for glory at all, just to sniff out a rumor about a dragon he'd heard about. He heard the rumor drifting in from the nearby town, and still, he never believed it could be her. So now all he has to do is march back to the guildmaster and report that it wasn't a violent dragon. Then the whole case shuts down for good. Soon after, the dragon mother finally steadies her breathing and tells him she should. He really shouldn't have spiraled into that painfully embarrassing rage. Rage flares inside her. Then Wazoo shifts the conversation and demands to know why she came back to her hometown. After all, that mountain castle isn't just standing there, it belongs to her. Back at her home, she snaps that it was her husband's fault because when she's stuck at home with a mountain of stuff to do. He just cheated on her with a young dragoness. Then the moment it lands, the protagonist snaps with pure fury because it's, "I can't believe this man cheated on his gorgeous wife." Then out of nowhere, the dragon mother leans in and asks if he knows. Beauty, he shoots back, yeah, because he's certain she'd be stunning if she just showed herself. So that's why she shot back to her hometown, called her mom, and now she's just stuck there, waiting for what comes next. Wazoo finally clocks the whole picture and straight up asks if there's even a shot at peace. Then the dragon mother snaps back, "There's nada." It's totally doable, as long as he swallows his pride and apologizes. Wazoo fires back, asking if she's talked it through with him the right way. She shrugs it off, says the reason for his cheating doesn't matter, and Wazoo can only assume there's no solid proof at all. Bring Ragnar here and then they can finally talk without sparks flying. This'll calm the townspeople too, and once we start talking too. If she doesn't want to be alone, she can stay right there, supporting as well. Hearing this, Mel blurts out she can do whatever she wants. And because he's the one asking, she's basically got no real choice but to show up and meet him. Right after that, the protagonist says that castle's a bit too far for comfort, and begs Mir to stay put. "Stay put, trust me, he'll handle everything from here." He runs toward the castle, says nothing, and just keeps staring. He goes on about what a truly kind guy he is, like it's undeniable. A man who'll never abandon someone in trouble. Alone, and just a little later, everything changes. "Finally, you showed up." Stormed into the blessed castle, desperate to find Rags. Magnar snapped his eyes forward, ready for whatever came next. Ahead, the poor guy was sprawled on the ground, totally down for the count. Ground shook under his feet, then he closed in fast and demanded, "You okay?" "All right." The dragon jolts to his feet in panic, shouting, "Where Esmir?" And Wazoo answers like, "Everything, so much has happened." She's back with her mom because Mel vanished after her husband betrayed her and cheated. Then that dragon shakes his head and insists it's obvious he never fixed a thing, demanding to know where Mel is now. Wazoo says he can tell him everything, but he can't stop thinking about one thing. What's he gonna do the moment he finally finds her? Don't worry, Ragnar is going to hunt down a way to bring her back, no matter what it takes. Wazoo fires back asking how he's going to apologize to her, because for him it's personal. For him, a dragon king never apologizes. He just needs to tell her to come back soon, and that's where the words get. Right after the protagonist snaps that there are already enough problems between them. Then this time, it's a hush-hush fight locked between a husband and his wife. First things first, he demands to know exactly who she was cheating with. When he's confronted, the dragon snaps back that he didn't do it, and the guy standing beside him is named Carol. A stunning female dragon flaunts a body so gorgeous it feels unreal. Her beauty turns heads with every dragon around, and she's tried again and again to pull him over for a meal. Because his friends were right there, he couldn't just say no, but he insists he never did a single thing. At this point, Wazoo says it's painfully obvious she'd blow up, and back then, he ate up every second of flirting with her. Then, no matter what, that still doesn't explain it for Ragnar. Explain why this Dragon King can't just stand there. He has to apologize to her no matter what. Wazoo steps in and tells him to drop that title and set it aside. As I pictured Mel one day grabbing a meal with some other dragon, my mind ran wild. What if they got close, real close? Ragnar offers him food, but Ragnar still refuses to eat. And even let poor Wazoo finish his damn sentence. And last of all, he leans in and asks her straight, would she really forgive her if it all came to that? The dragon claims it'll most likely not happen. No, and Wazoo says that's exactly what she'd been thinking, and it's what would have bothered him. Thinking, but yeah, he's going there to tell him where Mel is, and Ragnar immediately asks, if I apologize, will she actually forgive me? The protagonist blurts yes, on one condition. He won't touch any more advances from that female dragon, and he'll apologize with his whole heart. Then he has to promise to take care of her once peace is made too. When everything's finally settled, Wazoo asks to crash there for the night because he's been walking all day just for his. And right on cue, Wazoo tells Wagner he's still got Mir only. So Wagner blinks shocked and wonders how someone like him, who clearly understands women inside and out, still can't land a single one. Love and Wazoo begs you not to bring it up, because every time someone talks about this kind of thing, it wrecks his heart in the end. And Ragnar leans in and says, if I were a dragon, everyone would be lining up to ride my fame. Popular, now the world moves on because a whole day slips by. At last the time comes, Ragnar has to swallow his pride and finally apologize to his wife. His wife suddenly Wazoo snatches up The dragon chuckled and said, come on, this way is way easier than flying. He soared down and went straight to him, asking him to. He straps in and, no kidding, launches Ragnar straight through. You only catch the poor dragon's tiny star as it slips away into the sky. Wazoo steps into view, grinning as he insists, this way I'll get there before him, guaranteed. For him, anyway, he completely blanks on the fact that he promised Mel he'd be there as her witness, so now he's gotta rush there fast. Just a little later, the hero bursts into the cave, desperate to know what went down. Something went down and then, yeah man. And it's getting worse by the second. Every last doubt is gone, there are literally 3 dragons right here right now. Trembling, Wazoo swears that the wrinkled dragon must be the same woman who flirted with Ragnar. But right after she says that, she admits he's got a crazy amount of courage to treat her daughter like that. Ragnar, still calling her his mother-in-law, insists it was nothing but a misunderstanding. He stands there and the old lady grills him, asking why he didn't go to Polly. He should apologize right now, but without that human to help him, he's probably not gonna be able to say sorry at all. I'm human and I've also heard a ton about. Facing the protagonist head-on, she flashes a grin and he leans in, asking if something's wrong. Wrong? Now the old dragon admits she finally gets why not even she can measure the limit of his strength, and Mel quickly flips the conversation, saying she always planned for Wazat to marry Mir once she's grown up. Ragnar erupts in fury, snapping that he hasn't accepted that idea yet. And later, his mother-in-law swears she never once let him lift his head. Her name was Megel. And she used to be the Dragon Queen, while Wazoo-s convinced it's Ragnar's fault all along. He's swallowed up by guilt and grief right now, so he has to fix this mess, starting by pressing them, so what do you know about this betrayal? Then boom, an incident. Mel snaps that she already knows the entire damn story. He doesn't even stay mad at him for it, somehow it's all forgiven. She didn't need speeches, she just wanted him to show up and apologize to her the exact same way. Way too much chatter was flying, like my ears were getting hit at full blast, right on the wazoo. They look shocked, then they snap, so you're selfish like that, tell me, can't we just make peace already? First off, he's got one thing to do, talk to Ragnar for a minute. A little later, the two burst outside. Ragnar drags him into the cave and right away Wazoo blurts out, so what are we doing now? Then he immediately asks if he's already apologized to that guy. He tells her and the dragon snaps back, yes, but now his pride is front and center, so our hero swallows hard and vows he'll have to figure out how to make her happy from here on out. Ragnar presses him, have you ever dealt with this? And Wazoo shoots back, of course not. No way, this is just the exact line his father used to say, back when he still had the words to pass down. Anyway, he's basically asking, is there some fancy high-class restaurant for dragons around here? Like, where do we even eat? Ragnar answers right away, of course not. That's not even the question, what game he's playing. Mid-planning, Wazoo says, When it gets like this, humans grab their partner and head for a restaurant, good food, no stress, and it's the fastest way to make them happy. Then the dragon finally gets it, staring them down and asking if humans really have things like this because, wow, it wants proof. Wazoo says yes, but come on, how do you haul giant dragons into a tiny city? The dragon leans in and insists, if that's the issue, then you won't have any problems at all. Problem? Soon as that hit, the two headed back to Mel and confessed that he truly regretted every mess he'd caused. This time, his mother-in-law pushes him, demanding what he'll do next. And Ragnar snaps back that he's done with any contact with that dragon, starting right now. So step back from this and she'll make it worse by bringing other guys into the picture. Just don't forget to spoil Mel. Because if you really take care of her, your relationship can finally grow solid. Stronger then, to make it right, he decided to sweep in with an apology and invite the two to a play. In the middle of it all sat a human city called Linux. Linux, once she hears that, Mel practically bursts with joy, grinning like, I never in a million years thought my husband would turn out this considerate. At least one person, she's dead set on visiting that. One of the dragons leans in and says, it's been forever since I got to spend time with Mir. And then, like the world's finally giving her permission, the thought hits that maybe it won't be so terrible to let her old body rest, especially with everything. She says it all worked out, calls it the perfect treatment for an idiot like him, and tells him he'd better never ever forget it. With everything finally settled, that crushing feeling still clung to him. Wazoo's grinning, but the moment he asks how they're even supposed to get into the human city, yeah, you already know what's coming. Coming up next, right? That old dragon swears these aren't ordinary beasts, they can shift into humans with terrifying ease. Easily, then a light suddenly blazes on them. The dragons shrank one breath at a time until they were barely there. And then out of nowhere it shrank fast, like the world just suddenly tightened around it. Finally, the creatures burst into human form. At that moment, the protagonist crumpled into total, soul-shaking embarrassment. Marist grinned and swore those two were going to look absolutely stunning. Then Megal lined in and demanded, show me the way to the city of Lin. Of Linux, then Wazoo got blindsided by something completely unexpected. Else because his tiny dragon never got the chance to transform on him yet. Still far across the city, Salona kept tearing through every corner, desperate to find Wazoo. She's been gone for 10 whole days since she stormed out of her villa. The village buzzed with whispers, and everyone kept wondering where the protagonist had gone. Could be, but no way, this can't possibly be true. That kid slipped out of the L village on a ship and sailed straight into a place just like this. So yeah, he's definitely in hot water for skipping his guild. Her guild card was burning in her hands, and she was determined to race it to him as fast as humanly possible. But she has no clue where he could have gone. And from that point on, it's this huge game-changing thing. City, and if he is. Nope, he wasn't there, and if he had been, he probably would have bounced to another con. They wondered if the continent's distance could still let them meet again, this time for the second try. Wow, this girl is totally head over heels for the MC like always. Side by side, they tore through their adventure, and they held on tight through every single day too. Better than Salona freezes up, all shaky, blurting that there's no way this could. Besides, if that happened, Wazoo could just scoop up new companions and build his harem from scratch. The case, and when it's all said and done, she might not even end up in his heart, let alone be allowed to stay by his side. She shuts him down again because she already rejected his feelings. And with all this time passed, the idea of ever joining his harem is officially dead. At this point, I'm straight up lost. One second this girl's begging to join the protagonist crew, and the next she's acting like she doesn't want anything to do with them. Wazoo probably forgot she ever existed, and now she's spiraling into something even worse. Her worry spikes, then right on the heels of that she suddenly catches two people chatting. Then the chatter rolls on. Right there is Lula with another guy, and it looks like she's out grabbing food for her. She starts to leave again, then stops and tells him, I'll be back, like she's already coming back for round 2. Again tomorrow, she barely passes the elf before a strange noise snaps through the air. Noise. She jerks her head up, eyes widening as she finally clicks. Salona was a star. Because there were still some leftovers. While the bread's still warm, she hands pieces to the girl and tells her she always grabs a few, because her father never once complains. Complained, then Salona snapped when she heard it, and the rest cut off mid-breath. Lula's like, fine, she'll accept it, but she's gotta pay for it. Then she snaps, if that's the deal, she should stay with it a little longer. She stepped in, and sure, she wasn't trying to brag, but everyone knew the best food gets made right in there. Salona hears the whole plan and shoots back, honestly, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. Bad idea, then it happens. The two start introducing themselves, trading names like it matters, and Lula leans in to ask if she's in. An elf. Once she blurts out, yes, the girl gets it all. They're all grinning, so many people stream past her, yet almost no one has ever actually seen an elf, and Salona says her folk usually don't leave their villages. Then Lula blurts out, so why are you here in this shop? Salona cuts in and swears it was all about hunting down a man. Alright, if that's the case, the little girl steps in and offers her help, because tons of people flood past her every single day, all craving more info about this. Then Salona blushes and blurts that he's cheerful, insanely kind, and surprisingly strong. But deep down, something about him makes her want to shield him no matter what. And she can't even ignore the fact that he's basically gorgeous, even if he's a grown man. Lula hears it and stays silent. Then she tells me she was actually expecting details, his look, some telltale trait, so I'm like, nope, because Salona says he basically dresses in. He's in black and there's even a tiny dragon curled up on his shoulder. Lula hears it and blurted out, asking if wait, could this dragon actually be named? Lula spots the mirror and blurts, wait, were you looking for this? As Salona confirms, yes, it's exactly that. The elf snaps in shock, blurting, how do you know that, right on the spot. Then he says that name and the girl shoots back, I'm the one he's staying with. She told him face to face that he'd lost his guild card and now he's working with her father because of it. Listening to it all, Salona finally exhaled, relieved they hadn't run out of chances to see each other again. And just like that, Lua jumps in. If that's true, they'd better head for the city of Linux real soon. Soon, she snaps the conversation in a new direction and asks if she really trudged all this way just to hand that card to the protagonist. And she shoots back yes, because deep down she knows she'll be the one in trouble if she doesn't. Lula cuts in, saying the elf village is pretty far from here, so she asks if Salona used some travel power to get there. Salona admits she just walked, and Lula's blown away, claiming that means she must really love Wazoo. But Salona shoots back that she's not even close to being wrong. He's wrong, and he's nowhere near ready to jump into the boy's harem yet. Yeah, she probably found someone else by now, but the girl insists Wazoo is out there traveling solo with Mia right now. So we're hearing it, Salona gets all bright and breezy like, I'm only saying this so I can make you happy soon, and you can tell she's determined to turn those words into a real promise. Soon after, Lula blurts out that Wazoo slipped out of the city because of a job tied to her. No matter what she did, she'd always be greeted at her in like family. Meanwhile, Salona stood frozen in place, stomach twisting with nerves. She couldn't stop asking herself if Wazoo would accept her when he came back. Because if that didn't work out, if it comes to that, they'll ditch everyone else and head off together, just the two of them. Then her heartbeat explodes into a frantic sprint. Right, she's totally head over heels for our boy. Kid, a few minutes later, everything changed. Later, Lula lanes in and tells them, we're almost there. With her heart pounding, she stares ahead, and there it is she spots. Dude, the main guy was right there. Then Salona just snatches the moment with a quick. She glanced for a second, then spun away fast, cheeks burning with embarrassment. Blushing hard, she realizes, oh no, there are a few more people there too. With him, an old, wrinkled woman, and this guy with spiky hair who looks like trouble the second he shows up. A girl because he's already there with her. Right, with this crew, he was sure to meet brand new people. New companion. Right when it all finally clicks, it's no shock, because he's so dependent on others that this was always coming. Right after that, Lula lanes in and blurts, what are you doing? Because she's got to go meet Wazoo. She answers, it's all fine, like it doesn't even hurt, because she went all this way just to hand back his guild card. Oh, and just so you know, she's got more tricks up her sleeve. Ready to spring into action, Lula is the move, because you're asking her to deliver the card. Right after that, she storms off without a word, leaving Wasi hanging. Wazoo is completely lost. Lula's left staring like, wait, what just happened? Salona, she's late, real late. Later, Salona can't stop herself from asking why she ran, because all she had to do was talk to him like a normal person. Honestly, it just kind of slips out, because it's actually supposed to be way more than that. Because she just wants to apologize and then ask if she can join the group, yet she never even got the chance to do something as simple as that. She couldn't stop staring, completely baffled at why she'd act like a total idiot with him standing right there. He drew near and her nerves snapped tight, because she felt alone even while someone was there. Lonely as hell, yearning to figure out what that burn in your chest even is. Yeah, my friends, that's love. Love, until now, she never even realized it. So yeah, let's see what's coming next, right? She says she realized this before, and honestly, she's probably got a crush on. Antagonist, whoa, I just bit my tongue in the middle of all that. Now, a few minutes later, right inside the guild. Was sipping tea, staring her down, and basically begging her to tell him she actually wants him to believe that wild story. Story because the people right in front of him are nothing special. So the Dragon King's family, plus Wazoo, straight up tells everyone, yeah, I know it sounds hard to swallow, but I've got the proof. To believe soon after Megals. Michael snaps that this conversation is going nowhere, and he presses Ragnar to transform a. Already done downstairs, you only get. A sudden tremor shook the place, and upstairs a giant silhouette loomed, watching the guild. Guild leader Ragnar finally dropped the act and revealed his true form. Now I'm dying to see Reagan stare and just not buy it. Believe them because the protagonist just said he's pumped for the rewards he's about to get. Right as we were about to move on, he shifts gears and asks if I know any great restaurants nearby. A few hours later, everything changed. Later, everyone had already vanished. The moment was gone. The guild crowds in and Wazoo blurts that Reagan's gonna personally lead them through the city, one step at a time. Tomorrow's creeping up fast, and it feels like everything's closing in. Right up to the Dragon King, he begs him to do his absolute best to make his wife happy. Then he insists they should stay put at the inn he's at tonight. And tears spilled as she finally told him she'd met an elf named Salona. She hauled his card to that place to deliver it for him. Card and Wazoo team up and the trouble begins to brew. He held his breath and asked quietly just in case whether Salona was still around. Then a little while later, things kept moving right on from where they left off. The Dragon King's family strolled around like they owned the whole world. He tore through the city streets, and the sights just kept exploding in front of him. So yeah, somehow they've got to figure out how to get through. The time meanwhile, someone just hit it. That toy man drops in, and boom, the old lady proves she's a straight-up crack shot. She goes on, eyes blazing, saying humans really have a habit of thinking about some wild things like it's nothing. Some interesting stuff going down. Mel swears she's going to join in too, but she's so wiped out she can barely keep her eyes open. And when she tries to shoot at the teddy bears, she just can't land a hit. Hit any, and the attendant starts yelling. He calls her again and tells her she can keep that prize as his consolation. He veered to the side and suddenly spotted this massive building towering in front of him. Emma closes the distance to Taylor just a little while later. She told them flat out that she'd never be able to show them, because Mel and Megal were freaking out, and it all started when Hagrid had been here. Betrayed her, he couldn't even catch his breath as those words hit, and he knew exactly what this case meant. Kayla scrambles to dodge the talk, pitching a move to something far more exciting, anything but this. Locked in, no way to slip them the truth about that bill. Because this place is the most infamous, talked-about brothel in the whole city. 2 minutes later, the whole crew was crammed around a table, devouring food like it was the last meal on Earth. Reagan turns to the dragon and blurts out, "So this body, does it look anything like a human's?" Now the humans and Wazoo are saying the only thing left is one missing piece. So yeah, he's got to step in and help him track down whatever it is that's got Mel absolutely on edge. Nerves are eating him alive, but one way or another he's going to. Ragnar's hands start to shake, and he blurts out a desperate plea to not be left there. If they're alone, Wazoo snaps that he's done leaning on everyone else, and he's the one who kicked off this whole mess in the first place. Everything's going to work out right at that exact moment. That moment Kayla and Emma jumped in, helping them with everything they could. So yeah, by the time they finally roll in, they'll probably be way less nervous. Us anymore? Then Reagan leaned in and demanded to know if Wazoo had taken his. He shoved his guild card back to him because he's helping him re-register, then begged to meet at the association tomorrow. Because right after the protagonist exits the restaurant, he's grinning like he got his life back, but something in him still lingers with doubt. Salona had traveled from miles away, but she still refused to talk to him, so yeah, she probably can't stand him. Then boom, the crazy card starts blabbing again, claiming he overthinks Salona while totally ignoring the fact. The goddess tilts her head and asks if he's really not happy to see her again, and he snaps back that he is, then pushes her to tell him what happened with. As they stand with the elf, the goddess pivots fast, asking Wazoo who's tagging along now that he's been gone, then Wazoo shrugs it off. He's only their guide because every one of them has their own mess to handle. Then the goddess snaps that Salona totally missed the point, and Wazoo, blank and clueless, blurts, "So what is this whole story supposed to be?" But then the card flips the whole story, making it clear that even in this city, some kind of evil still lurks. Back at the restaurant, Mel and Megal were already dealing with the bad people. Already tearing into it, he looked genuinely thrilled with every bite. Food, she gives her thanks, and then the old lady leans in demanding another plate of food right now. Of meat, because in the end, she's going to swallow her anger and forgive him for forgetting. Snagging everything after he handed her a truly luxurious moment. Like this, her mistake was not getting it at all, and she should have trusted him from the start. I trusted him more because he's not the kind of guy who'd ever raise a hand against a female dragon, yet she still flinched and got nervous in that moment. And you can bet if she catches him doing it again, she won't let it slide. Wazoo shot a hug, and the very next day he was standing right outside the guild's door. She was absolutely crushed. She'd promised she'd earn 30 gold coins, and it hit her like a punch. There are only 5 coins, and then she blurts, "Okay, the guild master told us to cut it down, reduce it by 10 coins, so we can cover the Dragon King's part." Party took the last coin, but the MC shocked everyone. He somehow managed another 10 for lodging and 5 for food, and there was no money left, yet he still pulled it off like, "I can't believe we went there broke." She tells him that it isn't just bad luck that showed up after her rank jumped from F to C. Now she can finally grab missions with way bigger rewards. Still, it wouldn't shock me if she shot straight to S. She can literally go toe-to-toe with a dragon like it's nothing. Normally, once she climbs to C, she'd have to take the next test, but with power like hers, they might just let it slide and overlook it. Look, she can't stop thinking about it either, because now she finally has the guild card in her hands. Yeah, so now she's forced to slam into tons of missions, and then she quickly dodges the topic right, telling him the guild master promised, "I'm taking you to an awesome place tonight, consider this thanks for your help, yeah." Yesterday she drops those words and our hero's left totally clueless, and then Emma leans in like, he's probably already figured out where it's supposed to go. Should be, a little later, Wazoo had already come storming back to the. In the end, he blurts that he's going out with Reagan today, so he tells Mir he needs to leave. Kayla pushes her to stay with them, and tells her to leave Mir behind with the people next door who rented a room nearby. They're heading to her, and that tiny dragon crew is staying right there. Wazoo, totally fried, blurts that this is exactly what Emma meant about the whole accommodation. Everyone throws gratitude at the protagonist for his help, and for now he lets the moment land, accepting this conversation. He starts chatting like Reagan S waiting on me, and then bolts out for a walk. But that tiny dragon refuses to leave him, and Wazoo says he'd rather do anything than let him go. He won't keep it going for long, he leans in and begs her to stay. 2 minutes later, the MC started pacing around like he was itching for something to happen. Reagan S out here asking around the city where everyone's headed, and when they look worried, he just waves it off. Don't sweat it. We're going straight to the entertainment district. And yeah, I already see the trap coming right. That place is packed with spots that can turn an ordinary night into something spicy. Wazoo thinks they're hauling him off for drinks, so he blurts an apology right away like, I can't handle much. But the guild leader just smirks and says, oh, there's a lot. He's got a whole night worth of plans. This is the reward for safely finishing the investigation. So he has to introduce the guy to 1 or 2 girls and make sure they burn through the night at the place they're headed. Basically the best brothel in the entire country. City, our boy starts shaking and begs not to drag him into cheating on his wife. But Reagan laughs it off, swears he'd never do that and only wants to visit to the owner because he's Kayla's old adventure buddy, and once he hit his 15th birthday, everyone treats him like an adult, even though he's only 7. So he can't keep pretending anymore. He has to own up that he's tried that weird kind of service before. But Wazoo shuts down, turns all shy, and insists he's never ever done it. And Reagan's quick to point out, if he's never seen a place like this before, it probably means he hasn't really grown up yet. He's all grown up now, and this guy never lets an opening slip. Poor kid's already lost. Lost hope. Then minutes later, the two slid into the inn, and Reagan said he'd brought. A suit-wearing guy shows up out of nowhere at the door and announces, "You're here way earlier than I expected." Early on, the guild leader introduces the MC and says, "You're the kid who walked out unscathed after taking down those rankers. And yeah, you're the same one who can stare a damn dragon down and match it head-on." That suited guy leans in and tells him, "I've heard a ton of rumors about you," then drops the name Garrett, the owner of. He stepped in and told them to come inside, then snapped, "What's wrong with the prodeg?" The protagonist stares at Reagan, and Reagan says that kid had never seen a place like this before, dropping down and taking a seat on the couch. Garrett leans in and declares he can pick any girl he wants. She finds gorgeous ones everywhere, tons of styles, but the NC is trembling with him anyway. Embarrassment, then the owner hits him with, "Ain't you a man?" like, or you just can't handle women. But Wazoo won't fold, he's still a man. Stayed silent, clinging to the only comfort he could find. Salona, then out of nowhere, someone pops in and blurts that they're talking about something truly interesting. The man blurts out that she's the most beautiful woman in his whole house, and she instantly tells the protagonist, "If you don't mind, I'll gladly ride along with you." Accompany him, and when he finally looked up, he realized exactly who had come to stop him. Our boy froze in place. I still can't wrap my head around it, because the girl was the very one he'd met before. She's smiling again because he finally remembers, and that makes her happy. Remembered, the owner leans in and demands to know how. That's how it all started. She swears Wazoo rescued her the moment she hit her breaking point, like it was right on cue. Garrett's just watching her, and he can't believe it. She's actually interested in shopping too. Clients, she insists it makes them way closer. And honestly, this conversation just took a wild turn. The MC was about. The little princess trembles right there, then asks if she's really not that pretty, so Wazoo turns bright red as a pepper and insists. That couldn't be farther from the truth. The boy's mortified and chugs water like crazy, and then Garrett asks, "So everything's okay," the girl says, and she lets slip she heard Wazoo is kind of a big deal. Ripping strength coursed through him, then out of nowhere the poor guy got crushed. The poor MC sputters, chokes hard, and drops to the ground like a broken puppet. 2 hours later, the blessed one jolts awake to find a massive. He cranes his neck and spots a weird little oddity staring back at him. your view, and let me tell you, the girl was right there beside him, and now I'm like, wait, I want to. Wanna see? With a shady little grin, she's thrilled that he's awake, and Wazoo's whole body shakes as he blurts out what he did, while Tada just says, you passed out after drinking. Taking a few sips right after I handed him that glass of water. Wazoo peeks at the glass of water, blurts out, where are we? And she snaps back, we're actually in. In her room, she just sat there. Meanwhile, Reagan had bolted a long time ago after demanding they take care of it. Of him, right after that, the MC rushes to apologize for everything, but Tada waves it off like it's nothing, and she's used to it, so she pivots fast, dodging the real question and asking how he's feeling instead. He's got this feeling brewing, then the boy blurts out, she's fine, then bam, right as she slips in, man, she hits you with the same energy. Wazoo's brand new self blurts out, wait, what was all that supposed to mean? She jumps in and says, I'm getting ready for work, because if they're going to know each other, they've got to start somewhere. So yeah, this is the only way it ends, with the better choice taking the lead. That's how it all plays out. Place works, and the protagonist, yeah, he couldn't stop thinking. He just wanted this nightmare to be over fast because, like I said, the meat always lands on the vegan's plate. A little later, Tada flings herself at Wazoo like she's making a move, saying she can do whatever she wants while he's convinced he isn't ready, then blurts, go for it, kid, it's yours. Right then, the MC snaps that it's moving way too fast, and Tada blurts an apology she just never imagined he wouldn't be interested in. And women, Wazoo shuts that down fast. He's not trying to jump to anything, he just wants to know them better, so he won't hand his body over that easily. He drapes a cloth over her, then tells her face to face that someone this beautiful has to learn to value herself. He bursts into laughter, and the MC shoots back, asking if he just said something weird. Strange, and then she blurts out that it's the first time any client has ever said something this weird in a brothel. He's weirdly kind, and it's hitting her hard that she tried to trick a person like him. Honestly, she'd already seen him mow down that whole crew at the inn before. War happens, and Wazoo won't stop pestering Reagan to introduce him to her. Then Wazoo finally snaps, surprised and asking why she pulled it off, and Tada's like, yeah, give me some of that strength. The MC wonders if this is tied to the people who followed her back then. And suddenly he realizes this is way bigger and far more serious than he ever imagined. He thought, if that's true, then we've got nothing to fear, let him handle the rest. Tada immediately pressed him, asking who he had to defeat and whether there was a reward coming. Wazoo told him to relax because he didn't. She needs money, but she won't hand him that kind of payoff, and she still hasn't repaid him for the last one. Then Wazoo goes, I've said it before, I can't just walk away and leave someone wearing that lonely look. Alone, yeah, that's exactly how she is right now. Right as Todd just left, at that exact second, everything changes. Embarrassment hits her hard. Right then she blurts out, hey, can you? If her loneliness is stamped all over his eyes and he can clearly see it, it hits her right in the chest, making her feel a bit of. BMC grins and asks to hear her story, and she agrees on one condition. He has to share what happens afterward too. Honestly, she's here to wipe out her father's debt, and Wazoo immediately thinks the people tailing her are nothing but loan sharks. Sharks? Tada snaps back, yeah, because they're terrifying and they'll gladly throw a bunch of people aside just to kidnap them. Kidnap her, so she clings to the protagonist like hope itself. And even now her mom and dad are grinding to get them out. The money just to help a little, and somehow it all pushed her to take this job. And when she heard what was coming next, after soaking it all in, Wazoo snaps, I'm gonna have a quick chat with the loan shark, but Tada shoots back that he can't just go picking a fight with. With this man, no matter how strong you think you are, you're done. Strong as he is, if that happens, he's not staying in the city. No way. Anymore, she's definitely not strong enough to stop him. So she's set on keeping him from having to deal with even more mess. She just wants his protection. But don't think she's backing down. She's determined to knock out her father's debt with her own hands, and still, they're not going to let her slip away that easily. She's asking him for protection. Protection was all you did, because you just stood there and watched. Stillness hangs in the air, then he blurts it out, no, I'm not going to get in her way. She tries to push through on her own, but the moment danger closes in, she has to call him. He'll reach her on the spot wherever he is. Because once the moment hits, he's going to show up fast and help her. And oh man, I can already tell this is gonna be the first of. You can tell she's not joking for a second. She's dead serious about the harem. She couldn't stop herself. She dug into this decision like it was the last clue in a mystery. He's got her eyes locked on him, so he vows to back her with everything he has. Then Tada just smirks, grateful as the protag's words hit. He dodges the topic and they pounce, asking why he became an adventurer, what he wants to do, and he admits he just wants to create a harem, and the girl swears he'll knock it out fast because he's such a good person. Wazoo just snorts. He's heard that exact line before, so why is he still all alone? Right in that instant, she blurts it straight to his face, asks if she can be the first one to join his harem, and I just knew things were about to blow up. We're about to see it, hear this, because our boys are getting ready to go. She's stunned and she admits it's obvious she's joking because he'd never want a dirty woman like her. But Wazoo snaps back, that's not true, and Tada shrugs, I thought so because he's just so kind. Before the ink even dries, she leans in and asks what they're doing next, because time is running out fast. The protagonist begs for more details about the places in the city, especially when you start talking about chasing mouthwatering spots and hidden gems. They soaked it all in. Then boom, time slipped by and suddenly the two were there. Daylight hit and Tado snapped into motion, right as everything turned weird. She jolts awake, spins around, only to realize she's still in the same place. I can't believe not a single thing has happened, total silence, and it's freaking me out. It all played out from the very first second to the final beat. From start to finish, the protagonist hadn't done a single thing. Anything, there's the boy in the corner, just drooling like he can't even keep his mouth closed. Asleep, at that exact moment, Tada's memory snapped back like thunder. Tada remembered. He braces himself and remembers every word the protagonist said. Had said, because if you're this beautiful, you've got to start valuing yourself. Beautiful person, and she couldn't believe it. This was the first time she'd met someone who cared as deeply as she did. A little while later, our little boy jolted awake. He jolted awake and scanned the room. Tada was gone. It was gone for good, only a tiny N was left. A tiny note is left behind. She's telling the boy to come back again because she wants to hear the rest of his story. Stories, and the protagonist smiles, saying he's just glad she had fun. But now it's time to head back to. He headed for the inn when, bam, someone shouted that just because he'd spent a night with Tada, he had no right to get all smug and full of himself. He's so full of himself that he's convinced his sister would never take a nobody like him seriously. Seriously, when Wazoo hears this, his spirit just crumples. She nods and swears she's totally right, and the girl just stares because he doesn't even bother to deny it. Either way, he better not ever show up there again. Just then, the protagonist shuts it down. He says he can't, because Tada herself ordered him to come back to L. Later, she stares at the letter, shocked. This is rare, she whispers, because her sister was actually wasting her time on a nobody like him. And it hurls the boy out of the place. She just tells him to leave while Wazoo tells the girl to chill, no need for all that aggression. And she fires back that she's heard the owner say he's incredibly strong, but strength doesn't mean he's trustworthy. She wipes him out with ease, and then, right out of nowhere, she starts talking in the third person. He makes it crystal clear. Nenya is the only one who can save her sister from those awful ones. Bad guys. Then just a little later, Wazoo was already back at the. And just like that, it was the end. Until he popped back the very next day and Mare's fury went through the roof. Wazoo snaps back that he only vanished for one night, swears he didn't do anything weird, and tells her it's impossible, she was just jealous. Jealous as hell, he doesn't even have to wait. Mir starts scratching his F and boom, he gets the answer instantly. With his face turned away, the protagonist blurts an apology and tells them they should go grab some food. Something great, and a woman named Tada had tipped him off to a bunch of seriously interesting places. Suddenly someone in the chaos yells, hey wait. Just when our hero thought the road was clear, boom, Tada shows up again and Wazoo's stunned like, wait, I didn't expect to see you here. Tada blurts that she's on it already, and it sounds like she's about to say more. Shopping, the one beside her isn't just company, it's her body. Nenya, our hero, steps up and says hello, but she barely even looks his way. Hold up, right then, the truth hits him hard. He's finally convinced he's actually being disloyal. The girl screams for the little doctor. She grabbed the dragon and asked, can I play with it? Later, she can shove the idiot next to her to haul her shopping. While Wazoo's completely lost at what's happening, and Nenya snaps at him to shut up because she wants to move in closer. Her sister, I honestly adored this girl, yeah, I mean it, hub bidding thee. Now it was just the protagonist left with the top. He finally said goodbye. The girl insists her sister was probably just trying to give them a little breathing room. Alone for a while, then let's be real, they should hit the road and go for a walk. Then earlier, she was already picturing a shopping trip, snagging supplies for the other girls back at the mansion. Honestly, she doesn't have much to spare, but every single one of them has been kind to her, so she wants to give them a little of her greatness. Gratitude still hanging in the air, and just a few minutes later, the two show up at a jewelry store. And Tada insists that little shops like this are usually way more careful with their own. Their work is packed with some seriously wild surprises, and the girl just keeps staring straight into the eye of the devil. And just when you think it's nothing, the protagonist spots something strange. Something because someone out there is watching them like a hawk, straight from in. A stare, then out of nowhere, he suddenly catches up as someone bursts forward from behind. Tada looked over her shoulder and blurted, so what were we doing back there? That's exactly how it was going. Then the protagonist turned to her and begged her to stay there a little longer. For a moment, he pushed forward toward the. In that alley, a whole crowd swarmed around. Wazoo steps in and blurts, so what do you guys want? They're all itching to figure out if the guy's a loan shark, But when they press him, he just shrugs and says he honestly has no idea. Now that that fierce girl is gone for good, catching the top spot is finally gonna be easy. The protagonist snaps his foot into the guy's side, and he spins around like a baby left loose, wheeling, wobbling, and helpless. Beyblade, everyone's in shock over what just happened. Out cold until the protagonist was right there, watching from the shadows. In the corner of his vision, a warning flickered, This is a total nightmare." Then out of nowhere, a voice from the alley yells that they understood everything. I heard it straight from the owner, and from everyone else too, that he's brutally strong, but what they're saying barely scratches the surface. Wazoo hears it and immediately fires back, "So you're testing me with those?" And once you answer yes. Yes, she had to test if she could truly trust her sister. To him, sure, she had a plan to rescue her if disaster struck, but looks like it never came because she didn't have to lift a finger. Honestly, she can't believe it. The kid wipes those guys out in seconds. Seconds tick by, and right after that, Wazoo leans in and asks her if she trusts him. Nenya speaks up, and even though it pains her to say it, she admits she can feel it. He's way stronger than her. Then she lines in like, "So tell me, is that kid really worth hearing the whole truth?" "Truth, yeah, that's it, Tado. Debt isn't real, it's just a sham cooked up by the townspeople. Boss, for years he kept shaking Tada's family with a debt that was never real, pure torment nonstop. Existed and then, at the final moment, demanded a ridiculously huge price she could never afford. Pay, he wanted Tada from the start, and now everything's falling apart just because of that disgusting man." Beginning, not long after the scene flips to mirror, and you can tell, he's sitting there looking completely crushed. Mel looks crushed and confesses she truly loves the protagonist, and Megal drops the bombshell. Wazoo stayed out all night, even after promising he'd come back. Soon after hearing all those complaints, Ragnar's rage exploded and Then he rings up his daughter and drags her for a stroll through the city, because if she wants anything, he'll buy it for her, no questions asked. Megal hears that and says it's just heartbreaking to watch a father try to steal his daughter's attention, like he's got nothing else to use but that awkward, stumbling G. He keeps buying gifts, but his wife insists it's all true, no matter how many presents he throws at her. He's not getting his respect back as a father. Father the dragon insists he only wanted to lift her spirits a little, but Mel fires back that if that's true, he needs to figure out a better way to do it. Just a little later, Ragnar was pacing around, scanning the place like something was about to go down. As he races around the city, boom, Reagan suddenly comes into his path. Reagan sat down to talk, and they immediately grilled him, because the protagonist never came back last night. After a few minutes, Reagan leans in and lays out the entire story, straight from start to finish. Ragnar tells the tale about how he then brought him straight to meet this Tada, and for Regan this is the scariest moment of all. Because if Wazoo is guarding her, then no matter who comes after her, she'll always be safe and able to hold her ground. Be safe, he says, and the Dragon King backs it up. Because with Wazoo's strength, this really shouldn't turn into a problem, not after even his own daughter gave him that nod. Still, rage burns in his chest. He went off on an adventure with his daughter alone, then snaps that he can't imagine she'd feel down just because the protagonist isn't around. There, he tried to brighten her mood, but she steamrolled right past him and ignored him completely, and it all led to that. And boom, his wife and his mother-in-law started hounding him too. Reagan hears that and shrugs, saying he doesn't really have much to add, but then he drops the truth. He's got a daughter, and the more he spoils her, the harder his wife tears him up afterward. Still, daughters always end up growing their own wings. It's just that, until then, all you can do is spoil them as much as you can and pray they actually like it. Then out of nowhere, Ragnar blurts that he feels it too somehow. Brace yourself, this feeling is about to hit, and you know it won't last for long. Seriously, they're going to love it. Because somehow, even with one being a dragon and the other a human, they still managed to form this real friendship. Somehow, a few hours later, the two were pounding drinks at the bar, and Ragnar couldn't believe a human could understand that much. So much is going on, and then, bam, our hero shows up, breathless, apologizing for being late, and urgently asking where May are. At Ragnar nervous, he tries to blurt out what he's been holding back. Something just won't come out. Just when they go to speak, Mir suddenly bursts in and wraps her arms around the protagonist, hugging them tight. Antagonist drove his fist into him. Ragnar can't even process what just happened. Happening now, Walsu fires off a plan to ask Mirror out to me. She's trying to make up for it, but somehow that mistake still sticks to her. Reagan hauled himself out through the door, leaving the rest behind. Men swears his daughter is head over heels for the protagonist. Agonist right after that. Even after that, Lula pops up and announces it's time to get dinner ready. Dinner time, Ragnar shows up, standing there like he can't breathe, because this is really the guild leader's door. Daughter, the girl promises, I'll help cook dinner today, so if the Dragon King wants, he can. Ragnar hears that and practically explodes with joy, because every last bit of his bad feelings finally starts to vanish. He was desperate to stay close, begging for one more chance to spend time the same way with his daughter before it all slipped away. Then we snap right back to the present. Wazoo heads back to that jewelry store we saw earlier. Tada blurts out, "Wait, what's going on?" And where he's headed because he's totally playing her boyfriend to the bone, acting like her. Her bodyguard can't just ditch her, no way he's leaving her alone. Alone, closing the distance, he leaned in and begged her to never do it again. The protagonist stayed silent, like he was holding a storm back behind his teeth. It hits him, he can feel that crushing weight hanging on his arm. She brushes his arm off and then tells him, "Don't worry anymore, I'm fine." Anymore because no matter what happens, he's going to stay right there with her always. On her side, wow, that boy's getting way too bold. When Tada hears it, joy explodes across his face. He shot a grateful look at him, thanking him for those powerful heart-on-fire words. Suddenly, the goddess starts talking right into in your head, you're dead sure Tada is definitely hiding something. Writing something, she's already in debt to the lord of the city, and it's all just fucking. They're ready to risk everything just to keep Tada safe. What her parents are doing right now is pure protection, no shortcuts. In this situation, she didn't just back down. She took a brutal, absurd step and sold her body. She may have taken a hit, but she still scored allies, and right now, everyone's pushing forward, fighting on with everything they've got. They scramble to gather every shred of proof about the debt, racing closer to the truth, until the city's lord steps in and refuses to let them go on. So yeah, he keeps firing mercenaries at Tada, and that's exactly when the MC finally steps in. He storms in, and since the man who broke her is guilty of the unforgivable, he swears he'll make Wazoo right, and right after that, the attendant walks up and asks if they want anything. She blurts anything, and then swings around to the shelf, saying there are tons of couple products. Couples and Tada. Hearing that, it's so embarrassing it makes you want to disappear. Wazoo catches him mid-fluster, and the embarrassment hits like a wave. So the girl blurts, "Wait, can I at least act normal by holding your arm like this?" Like that, so get this, our hero has zero clue what's going on. Anything because she's just a normal person. But here's the twist, she's even more. Tada looks even more gorgeous than most, and yet he's shaking with nerves, insists no, that's not true. Then the memories hit him all at once, like the whole case just snapped into place. Don't forget a single thing she did back then. Long ago, this poor girl lived under constant pressure, every day heavy with fear and stress. She kept going through life just to cover a debt that never even existed. Because back then she swore her heart had died after selling her body, but right in that instant, something inside her finally stirred. Moment staring at there it is, this girl totally seems into it. The attendant leans in and says, "There's a phrase written down. Etched into it is a promise. On the man's ring, it declares that he will protect. And on that woman's ring it's stamped, she's got eyes only for." She sat there secretly stunned. Could someone as tainted as her possibly pull off something like this? That wish, there's no escaping it, no way around it. Around it, the girl is completely smitten with the M's. MC didn't wait long, right after she called, she moved fast. He hammers the Wazoo, begging him to put that ring on. Ring on her, a few minutes later, Tada can't stop thinking like, wait, this is huge. It feels so weird, like right when she's next to. To Wazoo, she's got that she's a girl in kind of feeling. Head over heels, in no time at all, she turned to Wazoo and asked if she could do this as a gift, not because it meant anything grand, but because she just wanted to thank him for always acting as her guardian, yet the MC swears he usually goes even harder, fighting more like he's got something to prove with his own. Tada tells him, "Look, if you're worried you'll break it, just wear it when we meet again," because in the end she doesn't want to stop him in any way. In his battles, and Wazoo swears he'll wear it for real the next time they meet again. They meet again, and Tada swears it's a promise, but her cheeks burn as she can't believe she just did something that humiliating. A little later, the protection finally kicks in. The antagonist yanks Tada into another body. The bodyguard is getting ready to leave, and she grabs his arm, thanking him for everything like it means the world, right before he walks out the door. For the ring, promising they'll cross paths again soon. 2 hours later, the protagonist burst back at the inn, still scratching his head. Why on earth was Mirror so damn irritating? Irritation flares in her, and she shoots a finger straight ahead, pointing to He barreled into the ring and unloaded non-stop punches right into Wazoo's stomach. And that's when the Dragon King snaps, roaring that if Mir wasn't so stressed, he'd have punched him in the face himself. He'd even traded rings with a girl named Tada, somehow after winning over his daughter too, and Wazoo swears it was just something he accepted, like he never really meant anything by it. Ragnar treats it like a gift, but admits he has no idea what'll happen next. If he keeps playing her body, they might accidentally end up getting close. When Mayar hears all that, her nerves skyrocket. Then Majel cuts in and says they should just trust what the protagonist said. But if it's a lie, even if he's invincible, he'll rip through the truth, summon every dragon he can, unleash maximum power, and lay down punishment. Our boy is shaking from head to toe, and he blurts out that he can't even stand the thought of imagining it. Then, just like that, he leans in and tells me he's got a little gift waiting for me. Mirror, she's been helping him non-stop, and now it's his turn to figure out how to repay her. He paid her, then the little dragon got handed the necklace, and it burst into tears. Our boy leaned in and asked, "Do you not like it?" By any chance, Medjol tells him not to worry because she was only. He was over the moon with it. Then, a little later, the sky finally brightened into daytime. He jolted awake and misery hit hard. Mir had been squirming non-stop, leaving him wrecked and sore. Just as he tries to get up, Emma bursts in out of nowhere, demanding to know where the protagonist has been. Stepping into the room, Wazoo was. She stumbled on a seriously mind-blowing video. Emma leans in and asks him, "So what kind of punishment are you craving?" But the boy just couldn't get it. Standing there, he finally faced the truth of what he'd messed up. Wrong. Just a little later, the girl broke down everything to our group. Our hero blurted out that something poisonous. Right out of nowhere, something surfaced in a swamp inside Linux 4. Forest, so far they've walked through it without a single loss. But if they can't fix this fast, everything could go bad. And yeah, this hits hard, because even the city of Linux won't escape it either. Iwazu insists that's exactly why she's hunting for adventures. She's got those vibes all over her. Poison won't touch him, every toxin slides off like nothing, so he can just ignore it. Ima cuts in, asking exactly how far he can go, so he won't spiral into worrying anymore. Wait, he can nullify it, but this kid shrugs off literally every toxin there is. Still surprised. Emma declares he's not just scary, he's a monster straight up. Monster, but hey, anyway. Alright, this time we're on a hunt, track down the poison before it strikes. In the swamp just a few hours later. Wazoo stood at the city gate, bragging that where he was headed was supposed to be rock solid, full of raw poise and unbeatable composure. So he can't bring Mir along. If anything goes wrong with her, it's on him, so she has to stay in the city and wait for him to come back. Right after Mel says there's no way a poisonous swamp could have just popped up out of nowhere, it's clear that something is at work, probably someone told the boy, "Hey, stay sharp and be careful." Careful. Meanwhile, Ragnar stayed silent, and when he finally spoke, it was clear something felt horribly wrong about all. So yeah, he should bring him along, and the surprised protagonist blurts out, "Wait, are you immune to Poe?" And the dragon begs loud and desperate that they don't slap cuffs on him. He gets it completely, he knows he's strong, and yeah, it's totally fine to lean on others. They land on him a few times more, because hey, he's the dragon. Dragon King this, Dragon King that. Wazoo just shrugs and says it doesn't matter what he claims. He says it's because in this form he literally just looks like a total joke, like he's completely useless. Father, hearing that, Ragnar shrugs it off completely and says I've always dreamed of tagging along with the protagonist, plus I can zoom through the forest like it's nothing very. He snapped back to his real form in the blink of an eye. He asks if it won't be way easier this way, and with no other choice left, our guy gives in and agrees to travel. Megel watched from the shadows as they barreled toward the blessed swamp. From far away, they swear it can't be real, because a poisonous swan has no right to be there. That swamp could twist the air like this, and trust me, not just anybody can. Anyone can pull that off, so if that's happening, something seriously bad is about. As he neared it, the story snapped to a grim city alley, where those same adventurers the protagonist had already messed with were waiting. If the dragon wasn't trailing right behind him, they were ready to kill him, and the other guy laughs it off as just a rumor, except somehow Wazoo is a dragon. Meanwhile, a hooded stranger is charging toward the alley. I can already feel it, this is about to go terribly wrong. Hang on, wait for this, we're getting closer. The man grins and swears that orb keeps getting stronger every single day. Right now, he's finally figured out how to unlock its powers, and he can do it without paying any nasty side effects. Effects the adventurer unleashes. He fires back, and the guy answers flat out that he's nothing but a murderer. He finally blurts out the one thing they can't ignore. What happens if he tells them the so-called invincible adventurer in the rumors also has this red orb, because he's not just talking, he's carrying it too. He was sitting there with the item, already plotting to sell it for a massive price, somehow right in this. He looked at the city and it just broke his heart, so if that's what it takes, he'll slash the price and give them a discount. Discount leaning in and asking if just maybe they don't want to. He wants power, because if they can get it, they'll be strong enough to smash even the Dragon King. Somehow he talks the adventurers into buying this blessed. Pearl flashed a bright smile and thanked them for the purchase. The hooded man then leans in and asks if maybe they have any idea where the city lord's man is. Mansion looms right on the other side of the kingdom, where everything is waiting beyond. The protagonist finally stumbled into the poisonous area. The swamp's wafting this vile stench, so nasty you can smell it even from up high. It's like that purple miasma is poisoning the whole forest, trying to twist every tree and creature to its will. Even so, he has to claw his way out of the forest somehow. With Ragnar dropping to the ground, he grins and says, If the forest is only this small, then my firepower. One deep breath should be all it takes to end this problem for good. Wazoo says the real problem is this: if he turns this into a wasteland and burns the whole place. That's a pretty heartbreaking fate, so for now they'll drop the doom and hunt down the source instead. When he hears that, the dragon's eyes widen in shock. Realized no way around it, our boy is really something. Still calm, he couldn't help but wonder, where on earth did he get that kind of confidence? So this is it, your perfect shot to dive back into a human body, get close to him, and finally uncover just how strong he really is. Strength is like when they... Ragnar marches up and shoots Wazoo a question. Does he really feel nothing as this miasma crawls around them? Because even he's getting uneasy, and there's no way small animals could survive even a single second in this. Still, this guy's adaptability is wild, so he pushed the question like a fuse: where does his strength even come from? But the protagonist isn't fully sure about that either. That's it, Mare pulled him out of the, and now all he's left with is that one terrifying truth. Just as death crept in, his body started freaking out with strange new changes. He can't tell if it's the food that Mir served him, or if that goddess who appeared out of nowhere inside his guild is to blame. Ragnar stares at the card and goes, "So, tell me, when you died, did you have any wish you couldn't let go of?" He's on the brink of death, and Wazoo snaps back that all he can think is, "I don't want this to be the end." Right there, he only wishes his life wouldn't fade out like some pathetic death. No training at all, just pure starvation, so he shovels whatever he can find straight into his mouth. Even now, every weird thing he eats keeps flipping his status around, but he still can't tell if this is strength or just something else going wrong. Stronger, and when Ragnar hears that, his eyes widen as he blurts that he's lived for centuries, and this is the first time he's ever heard something like this. From everything that's happened so far, Wazoo's got powers that might let him pull anything he wants right in, like a magnet with a mind of its own. Hearing that, our boy snaps, "Wait, do you really think so?" Because he still hasn't got a single thing. Ragnar leans in and asks if, by any chance, Wazoo isn't actually his friend. Then Wazoo instantly turns beet red with embarrassment. And Wazoo realized he'd better stop stuffing himself with anything dangerous from now on. Now the dragon fires back, asking why, because it makes him so much stronger. The protagonist snaps, "I know, but fear crawls in. What if this power gets so absurd that he stops being human? This guy's pretty humble, huh?" Just like that, the two were closing in on right as the scene was about to cut off on the verge of what came next. A lonely lake stretches out, and the dragon opens its mouth to say the next word, the M that changes everything. The miasma is rolling in hard and getting worse fast. Stronger, meanwhile, a weird creature was lurking, staring him down the whole time. Watching them, and suddenly it feels like something is about to give. Right there, in that tense moment, the presence just shows up. Wagner begs them not to touch those fluids. They're poisoning the place and spawning even. Swamps, our boy leans in and asks if it's really just a game of defeating the. They devour that guy, and the dragon is already begging for answers. How are they going to kill it without ever touching it? Wazoo blurts out that he needs to know. To find out if that body is nothing but a hollow shell made of poison, because it'd be great if he could at least land. Then boom, right in the face. Honestly, he thinks it. He's sure it'll fail, but screw it. He has to gamble anyway, and right as he lands the punch, the protagonist shoves the sticks into his hands and whispers that he can feel it. Somehow he flicks the hand upward and the creature explodes. Wazoo still locked in his vision just. He grins and says the goddess must have blessed him. Now it feels like he can land a brutal punch. Ragnar's staring at it, completely lost, like he doesn't understand a single thing. Standing there, he demanded, "Tell me, why can't you stand it? Why do you keep asking me if I couldn't let it go?" That monster can't just stand there. At least show some real attacks, because he's acting like this is his move, like he did it for a reason and expects it to land. A joke, then bam, our boy suddenly finds. A red orb plummeted down from the sky straight toward them, like trouble on a timer. That creature, and yeah, the elf he already crushed, he definitely had one of those. Those two, then. Ragnar leans in and demands, "Have you seen this before?" And Wazoo hesitates, like maybe it's all just his imagination. But right when it gets going, imagination slams to a sudden stop. Breaking right on the spot, right after the dragon snaps that it's over. Yeah, he's done, but Wazoo still insists he has to deal with this poison, no excuses. In Amos's story, people build barriers around the swamp once it's big enough, then torch it to ash. And it's pretty much exactly what Ragnar was. He kept pushing toward the lake, and when he got close enough, he dipped his fingers into the water. He dipped his finger in and took a tiny taste. Man, this kid is absolutely unhinged. Crazy, the dragon panics and demands he spit it out, because the boy is standing there like he's been struck dumb. So what happens next? In his vision, he spits out, "It tastes sour like a lemon. I'm totally lost." He smashes his head down, and suddenly I understand nothing at all. Straight into the puddle, and he swears, no doubt about it, that he's definitely going to To take it all, then just a few minutes later, the kid was literally. Wow, look at the size of that guy. Belly, Wazoo swore it was really great, even if it was a bit. Being way too much while that poor dragon gasps that he almost died from. Even with all that worry hanging in the air, Wazoo can finally breathe. Because the forest is safe now and it won't touch the city of Linux. Suddenly, the ground around him started to tremble like it was about to break. Glowing lights blazed around him, and the protagonist couldn't make sense of it. You couldn't make sense of anything, because that light swallowed everything whole. Developing him right in the middle of that sweet rush of voice, thanks. We cheered for our hero, praising him as a truly kind adventurer. He was just hanging there, stuck in his thoughts, trying to figure whose voice it was. Rage in his voice hits the air. Ragnar snaps his gaze up, and the light refuses to shut off. Like a vapor fading away, Wazoo was already sprawled in the corner. Right there, the kid dropped out of nowhere, and Ragnar goes, looks like he pushed past his limit. At this moment, maybe his power just died, everything went dark. He slipped so far out of the everyday world that he started to look clueless about how normal people are supposed to act. Act smart and think through it, because honestly, he's the real deal. A person with a kind heart, hungry to use his power to save the day. He'll save others, and honestly, that's probably why his daughter loves him so much. So he has to spot and recognize the very man she's into. Daughter chose, then if that's the path she picked, he'll lend his strength whenever it was needed, and from now on they'd be best friends. Holy hell, that went from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat, no joke. Fast, a little later, the guild leader still doesn't buy the story. The story because Wazoo somehow handled that swamp without even setting a single thing on fire. No King burn, just pure damage control. Deep in the forest, the man spots the boy's pale face and snaps, "You all right?" And the protagonist just waves it off, saying it's nothing, only a mild stomachache. Reagan blurts out again, insisting he still can't wrap his head around how he ever handled that swamp without burning the. In the forest, he demanded, straight-faced, if he by any chance drank every drop of that swamp water, but he knew that was impossible. Still, he tried to apologize for dragging him through those useless missions, admitting he's way stronger than everyone else there, yet insisting he shouldn't beat himself up so hard. He shifts the topic and says he'll hand over the reward later, so Wazoo just needs to rest up tonight, because he's got something else to say next. Just then, Nenya burst in and blurted that Tata wanted to meet him. Reagan replies that it looks like he's clicking perfectly with those guys. Those girls, Wazoo insists it's nothing, like that's supposed to make it okay. Honestly, it wasn't much. They just showed up to thank him for surviving that poisonous swamp. The guild leader leans in and asks if he already knows about Tata's problem. Wazoo snaps back that it's tied to her debt to the city lord. They finally have the proof to nail him, and it's way bigger than Tata because he's been pulling shady moves in the shadows. Then it's decided, after they rebuild the case one more time, they're taking it to court tomorrow. Reagan's warning hits him, and Wazoo lights up, grinning that Tata will finally be a free kid, maybe even his first real friend. Wow, so the kid wasn't alone after all, huh? Reagan admits he was scared the city lord would pull something drastic tonight, so he planned to stick right by her side before he even knew how sick the boy was. Still, he says they should just let the rest of the city go. The rest of it to him, because this tiny flu sure as hell isn't going to finish him off. A little later, the MC stalked through the city with a guilty frown, muttering that he thought he was immune to every bad effect. Then stopped and demanded the goddess explain what just happened. Then boom, the card goddess suddenly gets insanely. So nervous she could barely breathe, she blurted, "What's going on in your head?" Because that guild card was her secret love hideout, and when she saw him bring another woman there, she just stared like, "Wait, I don't get any of this." No way. Right after that, the goddess blurts out that she was talking about the earth goddess. And wow, this breeze is getting wicked strong. Stronger, huh? The other goddess tilts her head, because Wazoo wished for a harem, so her showing up shouldn't be an issue. Then she sees what he's doing to save the forest, how carefully he's refusing to burn it, and you can tell he hits her right in the heart. To show her gratitude, she does something to return the favor. Her attitude is clear. She's determined to shower him with divine protection and bless him with her power. Section 2. Wazooda. Desperate blurts out that he doesn't want or need any more protection. Protection hits, and in a blink, the cards suddenly start to flare up. Starts to glow, and a bunch of his stats jumped up, just a little, but it still felt like momentum. Absurdly high, and the only thing that absolutely wouldn't budge was his human side. The class finally died down, and right then, Wazoo gets this sharp feeling like he's about to figure out what's really going on. What's happening? So yeah, he must have felt sick because he just leveled up. He levels up, and the goddess tells him, "You're right, consider it a blessing in disguise." Guys, his body will probably adapt fast, so he should at least grab some rest right now. Wazoo's all for it. But he still has to reach the mansion ASAP, and he can't waste time. Suddenly, our boy gets spun off course and slams straight into a hooded. A hooded guy stares at our hero and with a sharp edge to his voice says he looks way too pale, then asks if he needs some kind of medicine. Medicine, but he's got no fancy, high-level stuff with him, just the normal medication he might need. He calls it out right there on hand and asks if he wants to take a look. Wazoo hesitates, says maybe next time, because he's just trying to. Arrest him right now, then the man blurts out an apology and his gaze snaps too. At the wazoo, and that poor guy is standing there completely clueless, like he has no idea what's going on. Anything, then suddenly he bursts into laughter and goes, "Of course I wouldn't be the carefree type. Free as him, yeah, and his name's Shiro. Catch him when you meet and make him buy something." Need again, when he walks out, the protagonist is still grappling with what just happened, but honestly none of that matters right now. This matters more than ever, so do the smart thing and go protect them right now. A few hours later, the boy finally bursts into the inn, and Nenny ends up right there with him. He was so nervous asking why he'd taken so long, because everyone thought something had happened, and the worst part is, he still looked a little shaken. Pale and Wazoo insists it's not the poison shifting the story, and right then Milia cuts in. This is a make-or-break moment for them, so they need him to be completely perfect. A perfect shape because they've got no idea what could explode into chaos any moment. Then out of nowhere, the poor guy suddenly. The floor crashed under her feet and the girl went for it, trying to help, and on the other side. Monsters side by side, then a hooded god appears. A guy breaks the news like a gut punch. Even if you land 4 reds, it still doesn't work. None of those orbs even once shifted into what he was used to. Was still hoping for more, though yeah, this has gotta be enough to kick things up a notch. Even better, just a little later at the guy leans in and tells Reagan, "I've got a F ***** ing." As a full-blown problem when it came to the wild report of an adventurer who keeps tweaking his way through danger. "I just got back and goblins are." The Netherlands is pushing straight toward Linux southern borders, and it's happening in response to something. Reagan shrugs and insists goblins aren't a threat, but the adventurer cuts in. There are around 1,000 bearing down on them. At the very end, the protagonist was utterly drained, dropping into sleep right there on top. Tada sat there on his lap when, without warning, he jerked awake and swung the door open. He snaps his eyes open, and the girl blurts that he passed out on the way. On the way home, Wazoo shoots off an apology, and Tada snaps back that the swamp has too. It must have been brutally tough for him to pass out despite how insanely strong he is. Suddenly, the boy lunges forward, clamps his hand onto her shoulder, and, bluntly asking, "So you're really human, right?" A human is begging to be touched, and they demand absolute certainty, because they need to know they're still normal. Then boom, out of nowhere. Nowhere, our protagonist swings open the door. He yanks his mouth open and blurts out, "Is there anything?" A whole bunch of people just stared at him, and then things started to get heated. Nemia steps in like a bombshell, pulling everything apart just as he gets a little closer. To kill the mood, she steps into the room, and her eyes immediately catch sight of the hero snaps awake and blurts, "I'm happy," even though she's clearly not. Still too worried to breathe, she switched gears, asked the owner about it, and he told her that was. Wazoo fought through a wave of poisonous danger in that swamp, but Wazoo insists there's no trouble at all. This is the very least he can do. Nenya shoots him a sharp question. What did he really do to wipe out that swamp? Because in her eyes, no human could possibly pull something like that off. And Tada, clueless as ever, blurts out, asking where this is heading. Like, please tell me the protagonist isn't about to get a human right away. Then our hero grins and says he's just happy to hear that he still looks like a normal. A human is there, and the curious girl leans in, demanding to know the secret behind all of this. Strength is sure, but honestly it doesn't matter because everyone's got a secret tucked away, and I can't even tell if there's anything real behind all of this. I get why this power is incredible, but I can't shake the feeling that being this strong always makes me uneasy, like I'm holding something too dangerous for me. Don't worry, it's all good because he's still a human just like always, and you can see it plain as day, and from this moment on you'll keep believing it no matter what. Right after that, Menya glances straight into the camera, like she's about to drop the next bombshell any second now. He leaned toward the window and froze. There was a whole crowd of people outside and they looked like trouble. A crowd was packed shoulder to shoulder when boom, someone suddenly barges in and announces, "I'm in big trouble." Big trouble, an army of goblins is barreling toward the capital and they're demanding answers like, "Where is the?" Menya says the owner mentions how he planned to meet the guildmaster to shut all this down. When the monsters show up and everyone hears it, Wazoo jerks in shock and blurts out if Garrity can fight. Because the girl can't believe he doesn't know, given that Garrity and the guildmaster were insanely powerful not that long ago. Adventure's Tada leans in and asks, "So, are there tons of guys?" Goblins swarm in and the woman snaps back, "The count's already over 1,000, so when our boy heard that." The boy stayed stone calm, then calmly said, "All right, it's time to move." Tada suddenly closes the gap, inching closer to. Wazoo cuts him off fast, swearing she's not going to ask him to save the. He's got to put his money where his mission is. so forget the capital for now and just prioritize. Make sure he stays safe, don't push him past his limit. Wazoo hears it and snaps at her, telling her not to right there. Don't sweat it no matter what happens. No matter what comes at him, death can't take him, because once he's set to go, he'll walk out and leave the rest behind. Nenya's got the rest of it coming, he's just going to smash a bunch of goblins and then he tore off only to come right back. On the far side of the capital, everything was. Chaos erupted and everyone froze, clueless about what to do next. On one side, a swarm of orcs crashed toward the gate, while on the other, the adventurers fought tooth and nail to keep the defenders from breaking through. Orlando stops him cold, saying there are just too many monsters out there, and if they fling those gates open right now, they'll wipe out the capital, but the adventurers are still cocky, convinced they can take on every bit of this. He swings the gate open, then out of nowhere someone yells his name. With Wazoo showing up, he snaps, asking what this mess is and where it's all headed. The guy says goblins are outside, and when he hears how packed with monsters everything is, he tells them to push the gate, because if they don't open it, they'll get crushed. Open the gates, if you don't, they'll crush the capital, and the gate won't last another minute with this chaos. Even with all this advice piling up, it still barely scratches the surface, so let's wrap it all up. They've got no shot of surviving this time. Against them, at this, Wazoo asks where the hell they're going. The guild leader says there, but Orlando insists they're outside the gate, so now they've got to rush out, save them, and they know this all too well. But the capital is packed with civilians, and it's brutal to even try to measure human lives against each other. He can't decide between saving someone or staying helpless. Bottom line, he's stuck with nothing, and if only he were stronger. About to go down, so our hero steps in and begs them not to. Don't sweat it, he started stretching with calm, steady control. Gave him a second to breathe if they manage to thin that horde just a little. Once he lets them in, they can jump into the fight too, so when he gives the signal, they're desperate to find so they can finally open the gate. Then out of nowhere, the purse took a huge leap, and just as the kid, by sprinting, stealing glances at the down on the ground, surprise hits him like a punch to the chest. Because yeah, there are definitely a ton of goblins swarmed the scene, and they were gearing up for what came next, fast. With a single punch, he absolutely obliterates his opponent. It's basically a whole bunch of this kid, and yeah, he's absolutely cracked asterisk. It's honestly wild, and then he blurts out that he thinks he may have just screwed something up. Orlando hesitated for a split second, then someone demanded he open that gate. The gate now, and the kid just staring is stunned because the protagonist already took care of it. And just like that, he moves, then he quickly tells them, I'll leave the rest to the adventurers. And with no room left, they're forced to do it, period. They hustle hard and they don't waste a single second. At the very next beat of time, every last adventurer storms out through the gate, and Wazoo says he's gonna hunt down Reagan while I'm out of here with no time to spare or else. Orlando pushed a little farther ahead, like he already knew what was coming. But right there on the battlefield, Reagan stepped in, ready to feed him some. A bunch of orcs still. But those damn things won't quit. Stop showing up, keep asking Garrett if he's fine. He brushes it off and admits they barely managed anything with. They're hunting the Goblin King in the middle of all this. If they can bring him down, the goblins might finally stand a chance. But just like that, Wazoo bursts in and says, it looked like you two were having problems were piling up, so we hurried in to help. Right away we came to ask. Goblin chaos is unfolding, and Regan snaps that this time it's different. There's a monster called the Goblin King, and he's controlling and the MC snaps that if it's really that bad, they should take him down right now, but the guild leader slams in the brakes and demands they wait, because if they take down the leader, the rest of the goblins could scatter instantly. Then they'll start swarming villages at random, and that's not exactly a good sign. This isn't a risk they can gamble with, so they're done stalling. Right now, they're rallying everyone together to clean up this mess and stand their ground. One hit lands, panic grips the protagonist, he freezes with no idea what to do, and then boom, an explosion erupts out of nowhere. Garrett suddenly realizes it's coming from right out of the gate. Just moments later, there comes a guy with injuries so bad you can't even look away. Spits out a line like, you don't get it, this whole situation, then leaves you hanging. Everything went downhill fast, now they're slapping demonetization on it too. At the north gate, Wazoo leans in and demands what he's even talking about. And Garrett leans in and declares it's a match. A magical beast cursed from a human past, with a power that can conjure and command an insane amount of magic. Demons are packed with insane magic, so much their human bodies can't survive it. So they tear through that limit and transform into something far more terrifying, but in this. As it all spirals, they lose control of themselves and tumble straight into madness. Once you fall there, you're gone for good. Stunned, the protagonist blurts out, wait, does my look change too? And Garrett grins, you can tell already. At first glance, they don't even look human anymore. And when our hero spots what's happening, the idea hits him right there. Because Kazuna had pulled the exact same stunt before with the elf village anyway, he's got no choice. He's gonna have to head straight back to the north gate. This mess and across the city at the inn, Tada was pacing like a storm, desperate to find out. An explosion tore through the air. Wazoo might be in serious trouble, and Nina blurts that she knows because she's seriously terrified. But Wazoo's insanely strong, and she's convinced he has to be one of those. Tada is trembling, she gasps that something is wrong. Behind her, and then right as when she turns to look back, a punch slams into her and flings her hard. She doesn't even get a chance to react. Stunned that he never felt the creature coming at all. Then the thing showed up, and to make it worse, it had already snatched. Tada suddenly that ugly creature erupts into speech and declares, "Tada is mine now, the girl." Merle can't believe it, she blurts, "Wait, are you maybe the lord of the city?" And wow, the creature really is. Man, that's brutal, right after Nenya shot a question asking. He leans in and demands what kind of magic forged that form. Then the demon grins and tells him he's got now has. Tada's right there, so of course they're going to fall head over heels in love. And it crushed him with the brutal power of God, leaving nothing but despair. And on the other side of that, demons waited in the dark. On the far side of the city, those creatures couldn't wait to break in. Step through the gate right as the countdown cuts off mid-breath and everything goes silent. You don't even know what to do, and that's wild, because even the Dragon King's own family was locked onto the screen, while the protagonist, meanwhile. As he slipped through the back door, he kept moving forward. He barged onto the battlefield, and his eyes locked on a whole horde of orcs. He came barreling in, then out of nowhere he slammed on the brakes and stopped cold. Familiars remembering those faces, they realized these weren't random guys at all. They were the same crew that kicked him out of that bar. At the exact same second, all three of them crash in on him. And the protagonist fires back with just one single response. One punch while he's stuck in the memory of Garrett saying it's already over, because nobody can be saved, and the second they transform, there's no undoing it. Back, Wazoo blurts that he has no clue why they ever ended up that way. They can't slip back into being human again. Then he'll unleash every last drop of power to cut them off. Suffering crushed him, then in just a few seconds our boy bursts right through. Three at once, everyone in that place snapped to attention, stunned and desperate to find out who this kid's closing the distance fast. The protagonist leans in and asks, "Are you?" And the other adventurer throws their thanks his way, because now that he's handled it, they're finally safe. With the demons closing in, they'll be able to handle it. Wazir says, "If that's how it is, I'll go right back to where the guild leader is." As the leader starts to walk out, the adventurer can't help but stare at this kid and wonder, could he actually be a drag, or is there more going on? Dragon Tamer, just a few minutes more. Minutes later, Wazoo burst back to Reagan and practically shouted, telling him he wiped out every single one of those. Reagan cheers, saying it's great, but no matter how many reinforcements they send in, the goblin just won't budge. Problems forces, yeah, it all boils down fast. He's terrified that if the protagonist doesn't step in, he'll lose this battle, and then it all goes downhill fast. Put all their hopes on him the moment they heard that. This, and our boy practically combusts with excitement, blurting out that it was as he thought. The weight of everyone counting on him crushed him in a way he couldn't ignore. Totally, then right out of nowhere, he explodes into action. Finally, he glances back and Reagan shoots. What's wrong? He grimaces and says he's got a bad feeling about the shit coming. Right after that, Nenya bursts in there like she's always been waiting. Every single one bruised, bloodied, and wrecked to the bone. Still not getting a single thing, he blurts out, "So what happened?" And the girl is over the moon to have. She finally finds him and then she breaks down, apologizing, telling him Tada was kidnapped by the. Somehow that idiot got transformed into a two-winged monster, and then he was totally helpless, frozen in place. To stop him, she threw herself in his way, and with a shaky apology she stayed right there. She couldn't stop it and she failed to protect herself. Her sister, then Garrett, blurts out, "Okay, what does the guild leader think the Lord is gonna do after that?" He kidnaps her and tells her that if she keeps talking about that trash, he'll force her to marry him and make her his. The rest of her life, he's going to lock her away in that mansion, cutting off every last chance to reach the outside world. He'll keep playing until he's finally satisfied, and the second that happens, it'll be too late to save anyone. Garrett hears her plea to save her and blurts out that once that trash and guest clothes crashed the scene and swung by his business while he searched everywhere until he finally located Tata, and when he found her, she was lying there, slumped on the floor, barely holding on, barely past. As she's gone, he knows all too well she begged for this job just to help her parents. Parents crack the whip and pay off their debts. She'd rather die on the spot than ever admit she has to serve that disgusting city lord. Still, she ends up becoming just like his wife, trapped under the debt she couldn't pay off. Debt anyway, so I'm not even asking whether she really has to stay in a marriage she never wanted. Just once she found real love, and that poor girl still had to live with it like a curse, suffering through her entire life. Even so, when she finally scrapes together the money to pay, she pays off her debt and finally becomes a free woman, because from that point on, nobody will be able to love her, not even a little. Tainted body after that day. Nina clenched her fists and decided she'd do everything she could to keep Tada safe from them. From that guy's grip, he tried to get away, but in the end, he still snapped and kidnapped her anyway. That was her sister, the kind of person who always grinned, even when everything was falling apart. Once he heard that, everything in him snapped, so why would it be like this? Wazoo tells them, trust me, I know that feeling all too well. Perfect, then bam, a brand new adventure of. He pops up right there, smiling like he's got the whole plan, then blurts out, you can't. Unleash the monster, no more holding back. Even with reinforcements, they're drowning in numbers they can't possibly handle. Yet somehow Reagan still pushes the protagonist to go where Todd is. Tada is because he's the only one who can save her. Wazoo freezes the second he hears it because if he walks. If he gives in now, the rest of them could get wiped out. He was frantically trying to figure out which move was the right one, and he was begging anyone, please just give him the. He finally gave him the answer, then out of nowhere, a blazing light explodes across the sky and someone. Perfect timing, right then the giant dragon crashes into the scene and this guy never ever disappears. Then he blurts that he doesn't know what's going on, but it's clear Wazoo's got to get to that place, because he needs to be sure no matter what comes next. Of this place, like the air itself is daring us to go one step further. Hearing that, Wazoo's whole face lights up as he blurts that he'd never said anything like this before. Through everything, he's got one lifeline left, his best friend. The dragon stays totally silent, and then suddenly leans in to ask Regan, to make sure he knew exactly how huge the enemy army really was. Forces press in, and the leader snaps back that it's about 800. It's like, yeah, there's an 800-pound boss out there. And if that's real, then the Goblin King's probably lurking too. Then Ragnar snaps, I'm done wasting time, and vows he'll turn everyone into. Crushed into charcoal with a single strike. With one sharp breath, he wipes it away. Erases an entire army of orcs. When the dragon's raw power hits, every adventurer freezes in shock. Dragon King right after that. He insists he already said, he won't waste another second asking if it's Reagan. And finally understood, because right now people were shaking with fear. This incident hit him just like his own. He turns on his own daughter too, and the exact same nightmare repeats itself with her. Daughter Mir ripping through the sky as she flew over the. He leans in and basically screams that they have to win, no doubts, not a chance. While the battlefield roared, the city kept turning, alive, tense, and burning with rumors. Tada stayed locked inside that room, staring at whatever was in there. My lord, he isn't just a man anymore. She turns to him and declares, I already brought you, so don't even ask me again. He stormed up to that mansion, demanding to know what more he could possibly want from her. And the Lord tells her, you should have figured it out by now. After everything, you're meant to become mine. His wife stared him down, and the girl refused without hesitation. Refuses, right? Even if her body's filthy, she won't give in. Her body may be breaking down, but her heart still stays pure. Damn it, when he hears that, the guy freezes and slaps is saying there's nobody else around who'd stoop so low as to want to tramp like him. Like her harsh words, right? So basically, people were claiming her virginity got stolen by some guy, but Tada insists that never actually happened. After all, she fired first, and knew the real first time she'd been waiting for had to belong to the one she loved most, from the bottom of her heart. Her heart's giving everything, and it's definitely not backing down. Not him, she already has someone. When she loves so hard, she'll never ever be free. Hearing that, the Lord's rage explodes. He snarls that he'll find a way to force her to carry his children. Kids totally unhinged, now it's finally getting real. Badha, things just keep spiraling, and the Lord promises he'll pull it again and again until she has no choice but to give in. Then boom, he's back again, and the moment the creature strikes, the protagonist bursts in to save the day with one savage kick that sends it crashing out cold. That's it, kid, now I asterisk believe. Leave it in you, Tada. He clings to her, and with her in his arms, he blurts out an apology for being late. The girl grabs him and demands, why are you even here? While the others are still clashing and fighting out. Out there, our hero reassures her, everything's under control because everyone's teamed up and it's almost over. He's lost for a second, but in the end he makes it, thanks to Menya, who's telling stories again and stirring up trouble, yet it all works out, because at the end of the day, he's still her bodyguard. Yard Matt yanked his. Tugging off his shirt, he snaps that it'd be a disaster if he. To watch this happen and feel it hit like that. Hearing all of it, Tada blurts out, why are you being so kind to them? Someone just like her, but then, out of nowhere. Suddenly the Lord was still alive, staring at him in shock and demanding to know how he got into that. He steps into the room, and Wazzy blurts out that he slipped in through the wall. Still, at least 30 rank B adventurers are stationed around the mansion, and they'll shut down any intruder trying to slip past them. Then Wazoo swings the door wide, and all those adventurers tumble to the ground staring up like, wait, are you talking about those? So tell me, he's itching to find out how those guys are even hiding in the city's trash mansion while an emergency is going on. So yeah, there was only one move left. Punch their F asterisk 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 ing. Then the demon smirks and says it all doesn't matter. Because even if they're ranked adventurers, they're still just humans, no matter how strong they think they are, because in front of the power he's stolen, all that strength is worthless. Utterly useless, I couldn't make sense of any of it, and I didn't even know where to. He then swore his water was a serpent that cuts through everything, while his flame scorched all of creation, no exceptions. No warning, out of nowhere, the creature hurls a spiral out of thin air. Flames roar toward the protagonist, and he just stands there, no movement, like he can't bring himself to run. Move a muscle. Meanwhile, that hooded guy was just standing there soaking it all in. From afar, he never once pictured something like this would blow up because of that idiot guy he met. They met on the street and somehow, don't ask me how, this guy was insanely, stupidly strong. And somehow he even defended himself from a literal dragon. Dragon King, everything's spiraling, and twist after twist just keeps punching harder. But the Count's power hits different, stronger, sharper, and way more dangerous. He leaned in different from the rest and demanded to know, how was he going to deal with this because the fire is racing straight toward Y. Tatsu throws herself at him, begging him to flee with her right now. And then boom, out of nowhere a goddess shows up, but I have no idea who she even is. Who she is, and then it hits, she starts talking straight into his head saying she's water and fire at once, and that power is. It's pretty special, but come on, there's no way they'd let their boy get hurt, right? Then boom, the two show up right beside him and start calling the protagonist an agent. Evil's agent told him, do it. So he gives it everything he's got, and our hero snaps into a rock-solid defensive stance. And Tada clocking Woods. Stop, what do you think you're doing? Enough, walk away and leave her behind. Then he grabbed her attention and demanded she stop working, right there in her face. To worry because now he was completely overwhelmed. Dead silent, no twitch, no emotion, she just stares straight ahead. And crying like his heart just cracked once. He's desperate to find out why anyone would go that far just to help someone. Someone like her. Right as that hits, Wazoo tears the attack hits and the demon's left staring shocked, as it demands how he somehow stayed untouched. Unscathed, our guy shot back in answer to her. She asks and he blurts out that he did all of this for one reason, because he loves her. Wow, I never saw that coming, right? The girl gets. He suddenly cringes in embarrassment, and right then, the protagonist finally clocks what he just said. He said it like, come on, I never planned to confess in some weird situation like this. Like that, he shoots back with an excuse and claims he said it without any problem. Without even thinking, Tada blurts that he shouldn't fall for a woman like her, because she's not worthy of any of it, as her body's trembling couldn't hold back what was coming next. Your body's a mess, and for Wazoo, yeah, that's the problem. No way, that girl is stunning, like seriously gorgeous. Beautiful. Tada had the kind of charm that stopped everyone in their tracks, every single time. Many people, even the most despicable of them, still couldn't ignore what came next. But even then, our hero still won't back down, he keeps going. Doesn't mind, that's what you call unshakable. Call him a calm cuckold. Just kidding, even Faso. Facing her, he's locked in on certainty, he just can't stop himself. He's completely, hopelessly in love with her, and right in the middle of that, the lord of the city was on edge, because Wazoo had been slipping around with his woman ever since. Ever since he showed up, the moment he heard that the protagonist starts to sweat and blurts out, wait, what do you mean by your? His woman, one brutal punch. With one brutal punch, the creature crumples and even lets out that orb. Wazoo snatches the sphere and blurts, yep, just like I figured, because the exact same thing had already happened. Happened deep inside the elf village with. He popped the gas with a little boost and let it rip. A little later, the boy strode through the city, Tada cradled in his arms, heading straight forward as everything buzzed around them. Yeah, there's major chemistry there. Right after he drops her off at the brothel, he tells her he has to go check how everything's going. In the city, the whole crew suddenly crashes in, swaggering like they handled those guys. Goblins. Nina spotted them closing in, and she realized that her was hit with a fine too, and yeah, it's also painfully. On cloud 9, he sat there thinking like his mind was on fire. What if? When Wazoo hears this, a grin lights up his face and he says, that means. Because from the very beginning, she just couldn't bring herself to trust him. At the start, then it all spiraled, and by the end, everything turned out. They nailed the jobs, and then, like clockwork, everyone headed back together on. Thanks to Wazoo's hard work and the people of, the whole city was unraveling, and that day in Linux was so chaotic it ended up getting everyone subpoenaed. To crush it down and to Peace finally crashed back into the world, one bright moment at a time. Once again, here comes the next. The very next day, our hero was bouncing with joy because everything finally went back to normal. Normal because tomorrow's about to get crazy. He's gonna ask Tada out, and doesn't it hit different that he even remembered that ring? Womir's gonna be silent for sure. Rage boils in his veins, but he just has to go ask Tada to be his friend, and then say, "Roll with him, just hold up for a second, because before we go, there's something you need to hear." Next, the city lord was stuck in bed, completely bedridden and unable to move, caught in a harsh, helpless state. And Reagan snaps, "It's pointless. How are we supposed to know if we're even alive? Or dead, because there's no way he's getting up anytime soon and even." And he even tracked down some magic experts, but not a single one got anywhere near an A, none of them came close. Answer yet, they swore he'd be dead soon and the same. And just like that, the same wild story hits the three adventurers of Black Bull. Blaze, Wazoo shoots back saying that when he wipes them out, an orb shot out of their mouth, and the exact same thing happened to the monster he'd just defeated in the elf realm. In that village, Reagan calls it out and says it's flat out not true. He's probably connected to it because earlier he learned that once they get defeated, the orb gets ripped out of their body, and it all ends up. Soon after that, Orlando drops the bombshell. People in town are claiming they spotted those three guys buying some orbs from a super suspicious guy rocking. Pulled low under a hood, they didn't grind for strength at all, power came from outside sources, not from growing stronger. So that means there's someone out there handing out those red orbs to turn people into monsters. No joke, like it's nothing. A hooded guy in Orlando was trying to remember, then stopped, eyeing the question like, do I even know this? He knows this guy, and the wild part, he claims he once spotted that man with his own eyes. But with his face hidden under that hood, Reagan couldn't make out who it was, so Reagan says, if that's the case, then you. He's going to demand an investigation, and he'll force the whole situation to change. He blurts out so Wazoo isn't hunting Tada, and the moment he hears that, he's totally baffled, staring around like, wait, what's going on? And begging for answers on where Tada is headed. Reagan's jaw drops, Wazoo is still going, and somehow that twist blows her away. She doesn't realize it. While she left Linux with her family, she overheard that Garrett and his men were escorting them on the trip. On this trip, he convinced himself the two somehow would work out. The two were practically inseparable, and everyone just knew he'd go chase after her once he heard those words, the protagonist. Agonist is completely stunned because she never mentioned a single one of those. Nothing about it, he'll get it all straight from me. A few minutes later, the boy burst into the inn where Todd was waiting, right there. Tada stayed right there, clocking that Nenya was. She blurts, "Where'd Tada go?" And somehow that question turns into her doing her own thing too. She had zero clue what was going on. Tada had only told her to find him by his scent. So then he just went along with it, and yeah, kept following too. Wazoo asks if he can at least go, and the girl snaps back that it's for her sister's safety, and he's not bringing anyone. Her family, so of course she trusts the boy, she just can't do it. Staring at the chaos in front of him, the protagonist can't even make a decision, because the situation is already closing in. Laguna says he gets it, because living in peace somewhere comfortable beats the chaos every single time. Right after that, the sky flips, boom, rain crashes down, and it's like the world just kept going. Wazoo lanes in and tells him, before the rain even starts, he needs to get stronger. Now he's heading out, so she better take care and at the very least send a quick hello. Right after the girl storms out, the protagonist stays right on his feet in the middle of the room. In the rain, soaked and unstoppable. Once again, the boy got shoved aside. Damn, this poor guy barely gets a breath. Then the story slides out to a spot just a little beyond. Outside the city, he rode out with Salinist. She's still here, and when she finally speaks up, she admits she was terrified the whole time. Lately, it's like everything's pointing to one thing, maybe she should just head back to. She dragged herself into the village first, because she'd been chasing one dream from the start, getting into Waz. But the second she had her chance, it looked like he already had great company lined up, and that hits way too hard, because honestly, I wouldn't usually feel like this. I'd never sweat this kind of thing, but when it's Wazoo, I can. Forget it, just like that, another girl hops off the carriage. Back into the city, there's Tada, and her own family scrambles to stop her, yelling that it's way too dangerous. The girl was furious, because nobody had bothered to tell the protagonist a single thing. Anything, she knows it all too well, and she knows exactly that they'd finally lay eyes on each other. And now it's happening again, she'll be gone for half a year. The way she stomped out of there makes it look like she just cut him loose for good. She bolts, but her father snaps that they don't have time to hunt some mystery man. Then Garrett shows up and demands, "What's wrong?" Nope, Tada grabs his attention and demands they turn back. She's back on Linux and her mom fires off, "Why would you go that far just to see a guy?" And she doesn't even flinch, she blurts out that she has feelings for him, and at that exact moment, Salona was glued to every word of the conversation. She's shocked to the core, and even her own parents can't wrap their heads around it, but she's still reeling. To everyone's shock, they actually nod and agree to go back. Go back there, huh? Yeah, right back to the same place. Right then, Salona comes roaring in right at that exact moment. She leans in step by step, blurting out that she's dying to ask him something. Ask him something, then sneak a glance at Todd. Not as physique, you can see she's got a pretty solid. Way more superior than you can imagine, if you catch my drift. So yeah, Salona cuts in and asks if the wazoo we're talking about is insanely. With a powerful presence, black hair, and a look that's somehow totally normal. Mentada brushes it off with a normal look, until she snaps to attention, stunned, and can't stop wondering what Salona is planning. It feels like something's thinking, and it's trying to figure out your next move. Basically, they're chasing after wazoos and wanting in, no turning back. That's crazy, Haraman, and the guy is really getting. Famous, huh? Give it just a little while. They just stared each other down, both wondering what kind of deal they really had with the protagonist. Then Salona finally said, while they're yapping about Wazoo, it's basically guaranteed he'll step in and help someone. Somewhere out there, whoever it is would probably slip and go down. In love, then Tada smiles, and you can tell her heart got snatched too by. Salona says Wazoo keeps acting like a total nobody, like a mediocre fool, despite the fact that he's so strong he could defeat any monster with one punch, so it's impossible not to fall in love with him after being thrown into the hype. Tada says he's also super kind, like he's got the pure heart of a teenage kid. Jaya so surely that no woman alive could resist dedicating her whole life to someone like him. Then after they traded every word between them, went dead silent, because that's how you know they're already part of Wazoo's crew. Ju's got a whole harem, and trust me, things are about to get real. They're taking the whole mess into their own hands and sorting it out themselves. Oh, so that's what we're doing. Tada swings the conversation away and asks if she can finally talk about everything that happens between them. Slides past them, and the two of them keep talking like nothing just happened about us. And then right at the end, Mare finally fell silent. So yeah, it's brutally sad. Ever since Tada vanished, the protagonist hasn't even managed to get out of. Snapped out of bed, man, this poor guy was hit hard for real. Utterly crushed, like you know how it gets when things hit rock bottom. It was like that. Man, it's wild. Downstairs, Taylor tells everyone Wazoo's been stuck in bed for 5 days straight. He still won't eat right. And then Lua snaps and tells Ragnar to try to. To cheer him up, she asks if she knows why Wazoo's on this journey, because it feels like he's hunting for some companions to help him get back. He made it back to his hometown, then something went wrong, he got badly hurt and he had to flee it. But if he had companions by his side, maybe the fear would fade, his confidence would come roaring back, and he'd finally have what it takes to return. At least that's the one thing he can still hope for. Right after what he said, Mel snaps that they're not the kind of friends Wazoo was chasing. They're just sitting there, watching his future unfold as they go. With their daughter, Nebd snaps that this isn't the moment to step in. Megal has to figure it out on his own, because what he really needs to realize is that it make friends. Then boom, Orlando bursts into the inn and demands to know where the protagonist is. The antagonist is, and Lula practically growls that he's in the room. A kid blurts out that he has to find a way to talk to him, because he'd already heard everything from the guild leader. A few minutes later, he snaps awake and yanks Wazoo out of it, demanding, how much longer are you gonna keep this up? To keep himself asleep, but soon after, Wazoo pops up and starts begging for help. He demands what he's owed, and Orlando snaps back, you want a fair fight? Our boy was still on the ground, blurting that he obviously Still, he charges forward anyway, chasing after it like he can't be stopped. After Wazoo and the kid, things explode. The kid dodges, still half asleep. It's crazy. Ripping Orlando's stuff away, he demands, is that enough? Because all he can think about is getting to go right now. To go back to sleep. Then the boy freezes because he already burned through all his. Couldn't even make a scratch. Then Wazoo shifts gears and says he wasn't there just to lose. He pressed the question, what do you want? Orlando can't help but wonder, after making that move, does it finally make him feel more energized? So when you're crushed by sadness, you'll feel a whole lot better if you step out, move your body, and our hero says it might be true only when his opponent is stronger. Yeah, like Reagan daring him to do it. Orlando just shut that down and said he came to talk about, because anything boring like that, yeah, he'd hate it. But listen. About Tada, then boom, Wazoo's calm shatters and stress crashes down on him. He kept pressing, begging, never to mention it again. Tell him that name, because he's desperate to know why he'd come here to rub salt in his wounds, and the kid snaps back. It's because Wazoo's just stuck in bed, refusing to get up, and like seriously, he can't even bring himself to just watch, because if he's not doing well at all, you know he's about to say something. When he hears it, the poor MC completely falls apart, because he's always known his face was handsome. But it's clear Orlando isn't judging him the way you'd expect. Amanda was spilling the real reason he's not straight up. He's not doing well because of his situation right now, and because of what that man just did. And pities him so hard she leans in asking, "Who do you think you are?" He is now, and when he watched him wipe out those goblins, pure disbelief hit him, because he finally realized there's someone out there this strong. In this world, he doesn't just respect him, he respects him from the very bottom of his heart. Deep down, part of him screamed for it, yet he still wished he could. To be just like him, not some guard on the side, but something far bigger. A man who's more than just himself. He fights to protect others, and that's the only dream he's chasing. He can't keep his mouth shut once he sees someone he worships slam himself into his room all because of a woman, yet Wazoo insists it has nothing to do with her at all. So he'd demand answers. Why should he be stuck hearing this from someone like him, and from Orland too? Orlando says he has no clue why he thinks of him that way. But somehow, he still can't help but count him as someone important. He calls him a friend, boom, just like that. And the MC is hit with instant shock, realizing they've somehow gotten close out of nowhere. He finally realizes it, and the guy blurts, "That's exactly why I need you to come back." Everything snaps back to normal. Wazoo's like, "Wait, can I answer a question?" Orlando and a whole crowd hype him up as super strong, but deep down his heart strength just doesn't keep up with his physical fit. He's all raw physical strength, but deep down he doesn't trust himself, so he hunts for friends to patch up the emptiness. They tried to fill the void, but even then they still turned on him, throwing him away again and again, and every time it happens he slinks into his room, watching everyone else keep riding with friends by their side, while envy burns hot inside him, aching for the same bond. You can tell because he's got so much, and it shows. With all that strength, nobody follows him, and somehow it all turns miserable. Over time, Orlando snaps, then suddenly he throws a punch right through the moment. The protagonist blurts, "What kind of thinking is that?" Because he's basically admitting his power is useless. Honestly, he doesn't even need to care because nobody wants to follow him. After all, he's the one who saved the city of Linux. And while everyone is busy praising Ragnar, the truth is clear. The real hero is him. And on top of that, he saved the woman he loves, so yeah, he can't stop feeling proud of that. Sure, the girl vanished, but before she did, he still got her to smile, and he kept asking if that's still not enough, unless he's the kind of guy who just doesn't care about her at all. He'll steal her happiness away and demand she be his friend. And when that hits, he turns to the protagonist and asks what she thinks about all this power. Spent hours helping people along the way, one step at a time, cracking tough problems and lighting up everyone's faces with smiles. Once again, the world's beloved hero, just a traveler asking, "Isn't that's not just incredible? So many people would kill for it," which means he's got to be that guy. When he hears it, our hero's pulse spikes with excitement. He blurts out, totally hyped, like, "It sounds incredible, seriously. Quite interesting." And then he blurts out that it's all. Everyone just agreed. I don't even know how it happened, but at the same time, the Dragon King's family kept staring at every single thing that. A bunch more chaos unfolds. Then just like that, the scene flips to the next moment. Rushing to the guild hall, Ragnar refuses to believe that the two of them are ditching Linux. Before they went, he'd already trained Orlando a little, and somehow even managed to snag some skills, because if the protagonist is saying it, you asterisk no asterisk, he's dead serious. Be ready, Orlando wants to become a knight, so he has to head straight for the royal capital. It came out of nowhere, but now Wazoo is way more hyped than ever, and this is the perfect moment to start a journey. But just a few minutes later, Lula's heart sank, because she learned the bad news that is walking out. Then she snaps, "Man, I'm not joking, a regular customer is walking out, and the girl just can't let go. She wants to look at that money, huh?" Right after, Kayla marches in and tells him to do. He poured everything he had into this, and someday he'll have to come back to Linux. The guild leader steps in, shoves the prize into his hands, and bluntly says, "This is your reward for the mission." So far, it's basically the badge every member of his crew used to carry back when he was still in. An adventurer should rush it to the guildmaster at the adventurer headquarters in the capital, because you're about to get something seriously awesome. Interesting items. Long story short, his older sister is a total hothead. Our hero hears it, and his whole body starts to shake. Immediately, still, they were already packing up, telling goodbye to everyone they'd met in the city of Linux. Seriously, that kid really stuck around there for ages. While Ragnar didn't just come back, he rolled back into town with his whole family too. While the castle falls into chaos, the protagonist speeds off toward the royal capital with his tiny dragon. In Orlando, everything looked normal, but the kids still hadn't uncovered the truth. Why was Todd secretly a follower? Chasing her every step, and wouldn't you know it, the girl really did show up. Came back, huh? Then Garrett leans in and says Wazoo's got a seriously wild future ahead. This kid's incredible, but even then, he had no idea he'd ever get close to that. Beautiful girls. Meanwhile, Nenya huddled in the corner, muttering that if she'd known it would turn out like this, she would would have brought him, except now it's tough to even make out his face when. The moment he said it, those two girls instantly got the gist. She tries to catch what's going on, then asks straight up if she just happens to be a candidate for the protagonist's harem. Menya faceplints into embarrassment, blurting that she's only a bodyguard stands there, and Salona shoots back that nobody can predict anything because he might catch her attention with his charm any second. Seriously, that dude. And the worst part, he doesn't even realize any of it yet, while everything else is falling into place. And on the other hand, on the flip side, the protagonist stood there, right in the middle of it all, staring destiny in the face, and then Lando blasted his way forward after he crushed. Defeating that monster the kid was finally out of. Running on empty, he blurted out if he could. Catch your breath, you're stunned. The protagonist shoots a question back. Come on, was I already exhausted after only wiping out 30? A swarm of 30 monsters crashes in, then the guy pleads, please do. People might compare him to that wild, abnormal energy. But he swears he was just joking, even as he insists he's way stronger than they ever were when they loved him. Orlando shrugs and swears he can't feel a thing or tell the difference at all. Compared to him, it's night and day. This guy's eating with envy, and he's about to. Even when death is breathing down his neck, the goddess's divine protection kicks in and it supercharges him like crazy. Lazu says. He knows his stats are climbing for one reason, because of. The goddesses were who he prayed to, but it was Mer who yanked him back from the edge of death because she'd already given. They fed him, and once that was done, he could ingest it any time from then on. Anything, and the absolute worst part. Strange stuff happens, and somehow he keeps getting stronger, like it's feeding something inside him, and honestly, it all points back to his dragon. Even after he slaughtered 30 monsters, his stats didn't budge, like the system laughed in his face. Increase more, and Orlando swears that when Wazoo explained how he'd gotten stronger, it hit like a punch. He honestly felt helpless, because somehow he was still able to grow more powerful without even needing any. After pouring so much time into it, he finally clocked the truth. He doesn't show off or any effort. And that's his power, and attitude like this doesn't just pop up overnight, which is exactly why people trust him. Our hero swears that But even so, he's still got barely anyone in his corner. Around him, and Orlando can't believe it. He's stunned by how different this side of him really is. That tiny bit of humanity hits him harder, because when danger storms in, a normal person doesn't just freeze, they reach out for help. And once he realizes this attitude is exactly what he loves, he starts craving to become that kind of guy, no doubt about it. Kind of man too, so when he heard it, Wazoo leaned in and asked. He leans in and asks, so when we hit the city, are you planning to become a knight? In the city of Mambande, he has to climb the ranks, get promoted, and finally become someone who can command the whole place. He'll march command troops, and for the next 50 days before they hit the royal capital, he'll hammer him with lessons, because there's no way he won't. Stronger, Orlando admits he was forced to smash his way through monsters, and he was taught nothing, and Wazoo swears it's because he's a little too strict in there. In training, and right when he shifts the focus, it's already time to crash because sleep is important. To rest that day, she tells Mir to set everything up, then busts out this wild spacetime ability and hurls a whole bunch of backpacks. Wait, isn't this kind of skill supposed to be useful? Orlando freezes in shock, then blurts out, so can you even transform or what? He's saying she'll turn into a human too, because his family's done the same thing before. Ragnar claims she can't transform yet, but she might end up doing it anyway. Doing so someday. Then the guy fires back that even if the protagonist gets dumped, surrounded and hunted by a pack of women, this little dragon for real. And he fought his way back to save his wife, then never leaves her side. And there she was, his wife, standing by his side from the moment everything began. From the very start, this conversation keeps rolling on and on until soon enough the night slips away, then suddenly it's morning already with the The protagonist snaps awake, and right then he suddenly, hearing that sharp sound, someone blurts out, what are you trying to do? And then right after that, apologizing, they admit it was just what they were told to do, and right after, Wazoo jolts Orlando awake, whispering that he caught something. Some people are going at it, I'm not understanding anything. The moment that sound hit their ears again, the kids suddenly. The family bolts into the woods, and just a little farther in, they stumble on a cluster of men huddled together. And wow, this scene feels straight up forbidden, doesn't it? Cool dude, then this girl steps in and tells them to stop. Stop this right now, because what you're saying is straight up garbage. And if they're itching to have some fun, having fun with someone, that's where it all has. Had to stay right by her. The human shot her a quick look and then held it. Suddenly, Wazoo hits Orlando like a bolt out of nowhere, bursting onto the scene and realizing it was packed with a bunch of women. Women in danger without a moment to breathe, not even one. They waste time, two of them, just drifting along while it drags on. The whole group stands there, locking eyes with the crowd, bandits included, and Wazoo grabs Orlando and demands he take on the three armed men. The kid wasn't confident at all, but the protagonist points out that with his power now, it's different. He can totally pull it off. He leans in close and reassures him, promising, "Don't worry, I've got you, I'll handle it." Then like clockwork, two massive guys step in and demand what he's even rambling about. "Dude, we're just talking about it, Wazupper." Feigning total ignorance, he blurts out, "Who?" They ask who he is, and the guy smirks as he claims his gang is occupying that area. "Yeah, the one you're thinking of, they're called the Gondo." Brothers and Wazoo telling him, "You do." He has no idea who they are, yet he's got no trouble taking them on. Slams them down, and right then Lando swings in too, chasing that armored guy like his life depends on it. He dies, and wow, this kid is honestly something else. A little later, the bandits got wiped out completely, every last one. All been defeated, and the protagonist, snatching a bottle of water, races in to help out the situation fast. The other girls, there's even one tied up too. Tied up, and Wazoo leans in and asks if she's okay. The girl grabs our hero's arm and tells him she'll set her free, but here's the snag: this girl is literally too big, and it's kicking the hell out of him, making it impossible to keep up and stay steady. Escaping freedom, she bursts free. Then just minutes later, the girl finally introduces herself to the world. She strides in and introduces herself, then blurts out, "I," like she's setting the whole story in motion. She's the second princess's right-hand assistant in the kingdom of Mambond, and everyone around her is her people. They're her subordinates, and she's got one painful mission first. She has to apologize for everything that went down. That hit him hard, watching something so humiliating unfold. Wazoo blurts out that they're on their way to Mumbondi, and you can practically feel the next move coming. Day after day, it looked grim, but somehow luck stayed on their side. They finally tracked them down, and right then, the girl's hand suddenly started trembling. The moment it starts to glow, they snap to realization. A chilling voice rises out of it, demanding an answer. He blurts out, asking if she can hear him, because he's desperate to know if she's safe. As Floyd said, she and her subordinates were. They were under attack, plus, they just arrived at Mima Village and they were already plotting to. They start plotting how to meet up there, and then the next scene jumps to a new city where a girl excitedly says, "We just arrived at Mima Village, so they have to meet there," but right then, a whole bunch of arms show up. Armored goons suddenly burst onto the scene. Finally, he found her, the girl's name was there. Then there's Nimashima. Before he can even catch his breath, the other human there suddenly shows up, and right in the middle of that smoke, everyone snaps into a run, and the man can't believe it. With all these enemies closing in, they're still trying to make it. They've got zero chance. They've got one desperate shot: scramble to that house on the outskirts, slam up barriers, or hovering there, praying Cassie shows up with reinforcements. Reinforcements crash in and rush to pull them out, right on time. They'll get you soon. Right now, all they can do is wait for the barrier to fall, and then they finally get investigated. The investigation hit the finish line. Just a little more, and they'd finally be able to complete it. They push through to finish the mission, then out of nowhere, everything just stopped. Namishima perks up and hears something, some noise in the distance that sends a chill down her spine. A hiss of noise crashed from the window, then the protagonist tore through those armored guys, and the girl apparently watching everything unfold in this encounter, staring right at it in total shock. Fate hit him like a lightning bolt. He fell head over heels at first sight. "Wow, I'm feeling that rush building up like a storm in my chest." The vibe now, Hera basically said, even if you don't know his name, just watch what happens when you Staring at his back, she'd completely lost herself. Right after that, the story snaps back a few days earlier to a place called. It all started in Oishi Village. Our hero was up to something, and there was a reason behind it that made everything click into place. Everyone gathered there, staring in total confusion, and Orlando leans in and asks if they're getting anything at all. "They're still alive." Now Wazoo hit you back with a reply. He answers that there's no house or anything to keep them safe, so the kid straight up digs them in the ground. Devour every single one of them. It was a downright tragic mess. Then out of nowhere, someone suddenly called. Races of voices start calling for the girl. Earlier, she'd just spoken with the chief of Oishi Village, and now she's set to head toward. Send Linux in so those bandits get punished as fast as humanly possible. As fast as he can. Right after that boom, the girl on the horse snaps with surprise. And the protagonist stares. She promises she'll be back for sure, so when the moment hits, she wants to know a little more. Little about his journey is known, and while that's happening, Wazoo is all in. Embarrassment hit like a wave, and then to Orlando, and as the story kicked into gear right there. And then boom, our poor hero gets crushed. Orlando's power play shoves the girl out the door, and the moment she leaves, everything changes. Fernando was totally mortified, then a girl interrupted and said that under Captain Kess snapped the command. Everyone stays put in the village, no exceptions, to keep things running and carry on. I can't help but watch that bandit from here, Being stuck and not allowed to roll with him is seriously driving me nuts. From that day on, but when they finally run into each other again, they've got to figure out a way to leave. Wow, this guy is something else. Wazoo, parked in the corner, just watches and goes, Orlando's got all the girls, but the truth is, he'd saved them before too, and then like he said before, the real issue is probably his face, so he might need to do something about it like right here. Soon after that, Kessie shoots a look at them. They locked eyes and refuse to look away. She flashes a teasing wink, and our boy can't help but steal a look at about finally finding the right words. Wow, the kids just blew me away. So he's totally hopeless, huh? If you ask whether she's his type, he can't even give an answer, but somehow she still feels cute, at least I think so. And with your strength, this wouldn't be hard at all. It's tough, so being chubby is the rare exception. That's a downright disaster. Asked her if it was fine to skip, going straight to where her master waited, and the girl just nods, then swings up on the horse and rides off. They could ride as hard as possible, but even then it would still take a whole day to reach Mema village, and as long as that barrier holds, they'll probably be safe. You'll probably be fine, but still, let's hurry up, because the horses were already waiting and the protag. The antagonist interrupts, scoffing that there's no point, because he'll just run. She doesn't get what's happening at all, and then all you can do is watch. See the dust, because the protagonist had kicked up a whirlwind of it. She'd already vanished and she couldn't believe the force. Then Orlando was suddenly there in the corner. Everyone was green with envy, then just a little later it was already unstoppable. Night had already swallowed the sky, and the three were waiting there by the campfire, and Cassie leans in, saying it's kinda late. But he still wants to thank them for helping, and Wazoo just shrugs it off like, nah, it was nothing. We were only headed to the city of. Like even on Mumbin too. She veers the conversation and asks who she's serving. Because seriously, is that person so important that she'd like to? Like, I want to ask you to summarize it, or is this where we land the whole thing? Wants to become a knight, so once everything's settled, he's ready to walk away and leave him in the dust. With the words hitting their ears, they tighten their grip, because what they held in their hands suddenly meant everything. Cassie leans in and tells him, if that's true, then he needs to talk to you too, Namisha, because after all this chaos, we're ending it, and that's the whole point. This isn't gonna happen in a blink, it's gonna take time. Wazoo asks for more details and she shuts him down, because once he finally meets Namisha and earns her trust, maybe asterisk, then she'll spill what really happened in that incident. In this country, they pushed on until just a few hours later, they finally rolled up in the village of Mema. Orlando blurts out, we just got here and the sun's already gone down and and when Tassie hammers on that door, there's nobody there, just her, yelling that she's from the city of Mambond. Then just moments later, a woman. She swings the door open and the girl blurts out that 2 days back, a swarm of red-armored soldiers flooded in, surrounding the house outside the village, and then the residents ended up getting trapped. Terrified out of his mind, and the moment he hears it, Orlando and the protagonist. They traded a tense look, and then the guy blurted that there were people in red armor out there among those bandits. Cassie didn't hesitate. When they grilled her about whether she recognized them, she claimed they'd slipped out of the country in secret for one specific reason. They're already deep in an investigation, and now they want to shut down their searches completely. At all costs, then they have to rush to the house outside the village right now, because on the other side, a squad of armored guys is closing in around them. They close in on the house and their captain snaps, telling them to wrap it up fast, surrender and head back right now. Come on, say it already, this whole thing is pointless, and no matter how hard they wrestle with it, the rescue isn't coming, and it won't be long before their magic power runs out. Then the power dies out, and from out in the distance, the protagonist begins to shrink away fast. This crew stared them down, and yeah, they're rocking bright red armor. With the numbers on their side, Orlando leans in and asks what they plan to do, and the girl snaps back that there's no other choice, so she'll be the bait. Wazoo watches everything unfold and asks if the stuff wrapped around the house is a barrier, because it's been fading, thinning, and weakening by the second, so maybe they can't afford to waste any time. So as soon as he declares those men aren't bandits but knights, he rushes forward right after the words. Who were trained, then Wazoo snaps into action the moment he hears it, begging them to just do it in silence, no sound, no hesitation. The girl shoots him a piercing look, and our boy doesn't stop for a second, just keeps going. To chase them down. He closes in fast and slams a punch into him, and the rest tumble down with them. Fall asleep too, nobody knows what's going on, and that crushing disappointment just won't let up. The appointed protagonist finally clocks the truth. He's absolutely terrible at hiding. Sneaking around, trying to stay unseen, then a whole swarm of knights comes crashing down on him. He bursts in all at once, but the kid is still there, like he never even moved. First, they've got to line up and sync, otherwise it won't work. A sacred sword hangs right there in the window, waiting for the next move. Inside that house, while everything's quiet, someone's secretly watching and the girl can't stop gushing that it's incredible. Cassie brings these people to rest. Rescue them, yet somehow that kid still looks like a total normal kid. A normal person outside the house kept sending the guys up in the air flying with everything they've got, grinning like they can't lose. After every night's defeat, Cassie shows up and tells the protagonist, "I didn't know who you were." Was so strong that even the barrier buckled in response. The barrier slams open and the girl bows said, "I'm here," like she'd been waiting all along. She's racing in to save her, then throws back her shoulders and introduces herself, dropping her name like a promise. Her name is Cassie, and and the second she swings the door open, that girl. Before that even happened, Cassie just couldn't make sense of any of it. She keeps staring like she's trying to burn a hole. As the protagonist fires the question, "What are you doing?" What's his name with Wazoo in the mix? As he steps in, she swings into the spotlight and tells him her name, right there like it matters. The name is Numisha and our boy. Boy snaps in shock because it's the exact same thing. She names the country, then without a second thought, blurts out that she's the kingdom's second princess. Kingdom of Mambond just a little later. Night had already swallowed the world, and the protagonist was sat right there practically inches from me. Right beside that girl like the universe just shoved them together, this room is in. Even that tiny reason still burned in him, he had to know why she was right there so close, and then Orlando blurts that Captain Cassie told them everything, but nobody expected to walk into this. And just like that, the legendary second princess of the Mambundi kingdom emerged. Kingdom Nemesha hears it and begs them to stop talking so stiff, so they can finally feel at ease. If that's true, they'll. Wazoo just leans in and says he'll sit on the other side, and that kid never once takes advantage of the moment. Then Namisha drops that she's genuinely curious about the world. So he finally throws them into the mix. But wait, that butler is still hiding something, and it named Floyd, saying he'd watch the hero wipe out those knights and straight up bury. Plopping them into the earth, yeah, he was genuinely blown away by it. With his sharp taste and his Wazoo, and meanwhile, he still didn't even see what was coming. Namisha can't even make sense of it, so she grabs someone else and begs, "Tell me what's going on." To introduce herself, and the maid blurts. She calls her name out, Kumia, and you can tell the girl is a total wreck with nerves, until she smiles and says, "It's an honor to meet you." "It's a pleasure to meet you." Wazoo and Orlando lock eyes with her, and they can't help thinking it's the funniest way to talk, and then she bows, but our hero doesn't move. He's still right there, refusing to leave. He just stared at it like it was huge. Yeah, you know exactly what I mean. What I mean, right? Cassie's and Namanishas are great, but that girl that's a whole different universe. Wow, if he still didn't notice, I'd start to. Right after Orlando introduces himself, he blurts out that he's traveling with the protagonist. Then they smash out of the city of Linux. To head for Mambond, Namanisha asks if they're adventurers, and he admits he's just a regular soldier with one dream: to become a knight, while Wazoo, a real adventurer, tags along with him to keep going. They're headed to the royal capital, and Namanisha's sure they helped Keys and her people crush those guys in red armor, but the girl cuts in, saying that's a. And just like that, it all unfolded. Every piece of armor closed in around them, sealing them in on all sides. Still trapped inside that house, they got crushed completely. Wazoo beat him, plain and simple. But after all that, he's still the kind of man you can count on. Giving a sidewind, Wazoo says. She keeps her mouth shut, and then just like that, the goddess starts to glow. He starts calling him non-stop, begging for forgiveness. Then he storms out. They slipped through the door and without wasting a second, asked what the goddess wants, because things were getting really bad really fast. A super important meeting, then out of nowhere, the car burst into the scene. A card flares to life as he starts dating a skill called Danger Detection went off, and then, like a switch flipping back on, his humanity started snapping into place again. Meanwhile, the Earth goddess looked straight up thrilled, but the other goddess was pissed off. Wazoo is getting escorted by a slightly chubby woman and a lowly guy with massive balloons that look so fragile you want to guard them with your life. The goddess is freaking out because the girl's got a giant bumper, so anyone with the same kind of thing gets considered. Her enemies, the two goddesses, press on right after smashing through their threats. Keep arguing, then Orlando. Hearing all that chaos from the other side of the door, the boy can't help but wonder what's really going on. Boy was doing, at that exact moment, Nemanisha blurted out that she wanted. "I'm dying to ask, just tell me, is Wazoo by any chance a thing?" Chance has a girlfriend, no kidding, huh? Another one for the harem. And before, she was basically throwing herself at him like that's why it might. Orlando drops that warning. Yeah, it made him a little angry, but the kid's really just nervous since he's not used to being a women closing in on him, and the girlfriend he kept trying to explain, really. Honestly, he doesn't, but even with that, despite his. When he shows up, it's obvious he has no presence at all, nothing to see, nothing to fear. No confidence at all, then it all goes downhill fast and he gets hurt. He bruised like crazy and right now, he's still dealing with it. If it's a story about women, he's straight up hopeless, pure pessimism from the get-go. He couldn't shake the gloomy feeling. During all of this, I swear, no idea why the girls look like they're about to. Somehow he's happy, then just a few minutes later, the antagonist slinks back in, demanding answers. Why did Nimonicia and the others bolt out of there? The royal capital, she warns that if she talks, it'll drag them straight into this mess, and our hero shoots back that it's okay. Back in her country, King Javelha Mambande and Queen Maralna Mambande had three kids stood there, and her older brother named Navlio, the future king, her older twin sister. Anna, she's the youngest, so the Mambande family goes. Floyd declares Navlio is a beast at running the country from the inside. Domestic chaos, sharp diplomacy, hard strategy, and then almost like she's playing chess at genius level, once a war kicks off, Naralina will finish it. She crushed every enemy that stood in her way, and with combat skills so deadly, they started calling her the Valkyrie. Of the blood rain, she's so absurdly strong, she scares other countries into backing off, but the youngest sister, she's got even less than you'd expect. With kindness and compassion spilling from her, she relied on barrier magic, and that's why they crowned her the princess of the sacred blood. She's in countless fights, but then her father and mother collapse into unconsciousness, hit by some mystery illness nobody can explain. Up until now, then, just when her siblings were supposed to stay as one, the oldest and her other sisters suddenly clicked back together. They turned into sworn enemies, then tried to end themselves and got ready to unleash a war, so there is. It felt like there had to be a reason behind it, because this whole mess suddenly landed on them. Their family, then they rallied their group and brought the whole thing to an end. Once Orlando finally gets the whole picture, he snaps that even when those armored goons try to. He lunged in to stop them dead in their tracks. Says they're not the real reason behind it. For their problem, and the chubby girl snaps back that even though the main problem was sitting under. Investigations already underway, and they know exactly why the two brothers became enemies. Still, before the dust even settles, she needs to do one thing first. He demanded answers, then asked if either of them was wearing anything out of the ordinary, like a weird accessory, say a necklace. Because that's exactly when the two snapped and turned into enemies. Necklace? Right after that, the girl blurts out that it matches the exact thing the leader of the adventurers is looking for. At the eastern headquarters, the guild declared. But once she hears that, the girl snaps back that it's exactly what the guild head at the eastern headquarters told her. In the royal capital, Halya, right at the heart of the headquarters. I told her, and while I was saying it, the protagonist was right there, hanging on every word from the background conversation. Realizing this, Relia is Reagan's older one somehow. Nimonicia's older sister just stands there, clueless, while the chubby girl blurts that the cursed tools were meant to be sealed away in a. They broke into the locked vault thinking it was over, only to realize they hadn't escaped at all. They were still trapped inside. Stolen, that bracelet is cursed with a mature power. Unleash the puppet curse and clutch the necklace like rage itself had taken control. Wow, this already smells like disaster, and I can feel something terrible is coming. Using the curse tools isn't a one-and-done deal. Every time you swing them, the power control tightens and gets stronger, and that's when you find out what this is really capable of. So if he loses control, everything will spiral, and the moment the girl hears it, she blurts out, "Who made my brothers use these things?" Before anyone can answer, they need to. Cassie pushes to smash the curse first, not chase the real culprit, and she makes it clear. As long as the tools are yanked away, the way forward is open. Moved or destroyed, everything should be fine. Then Nimonicia falls silent, nods to herself, and admits she's capable of doing it. Wazoo jumps in and says they are doing that. Are her brothers, so approaching them should be a breeze. Right now, the two literally. He won't recognize her, and she's been hanging around with them for about 6 nights straight, so getting close to her is a total nightmare. Wazoo snaps that if it's really like that, then they'll smash their way in, no hesitation, just force. But the chubby girl fires back that those guys aren't anything like the ones in red armor. And when she lines them up, she says they're basically on the same level as them. As a ranked adventurer, Orlando thinks the same. If they let our boy lean on his strength, he'll nail that task for sure. After all, this kid's got grit. It's straight up abnormal. Then the girl's eyes light up, begging him to do it, and the protagonist, cocky as ever, shoots back that he'll wipe them all out. All easily. Not long ago, he even warned them. If they really want to take him down, they'll need some kind of divine blade, but it looks like no one's got it yet. Can't hurt him anymore because he just unlocked the power to shrug off that kind of attack. Sort of a blade, and just like that, he dodges the topic and changes the subject. Saying he's got even more than that, something extra you can't miss. A younger sister, so he can finally picture just how brutal it feels to have siblings. Still, they couldn't stop hating each other. Still, he can't shake the feeling that she's bright, independent, and unstoppable. Until her own brothers don't recognize her anymore, and that confident spark turns into something hollow. A bit lonely, so she's probably stuck in this really. She's going through a brutal time right now, then she drops the bomb. She left the country for her family, determined to end it. To investigate the problem, so don't miss this, she is. Utterly mind-blowing, he straight up asked whether the Mambande family siblings were. So yeah, so close. Orlando hears that and snaps, now I'm hitting hard, but then the girl. They thank him and right there the requirement clicks into place. This is a. She pushed beyond the guild's walls, chasing one mission bringing her. She stares at her brother's back and swears she wants the protagonist and his crew to hunt him down and destroy him. Shatter those cursed tools. Asking if by some wild chance he's gonna accept it, and our boy just beams a massive grin like he already won. He'd say, of course, but Orlando slams in one catch. He wants to become a knight and you can't become one out of thin air, so he's only asking for one real shot at it. A real shot at becoming one. Right then, the girl nods immediately, saying he earned it. After all, he proved his power by rescuing Cassie and her people. Subordinates Orlando kneels. And with gratitude surging through his chest, the protagonist. Magnus tells everyone it went perfectly, because his future's locked in safe hands now and there's nothing else he even wants. Anisha jolts in shock, blurting, wait, are you serious? Because if that's true, I'm about to decide the Ray. Literally be her, wait, what's wow? I never saw it coming. No, wasn't for someone who didn't understand. And before anyone could stop her, the girl blurted out, anything at all, really, and then she said. Paul admits it's a good thing he cares about Orlando's future as a knight, but he doesn't need to dress it up so formally. He can just call her. So just say her name and keep the conversation going, don't hold back. Wazir shrugs and says it's kind of like more casual. It's tough to pull off, and then Nisha shows up. Asia inched closer, just tell me what you want to say. Grins anyway because what else is there, right? The protagonist. The antagonist gives in, smirks, and asks if she's truly happy with everything. And the girl shoots back that. So yeah, she is exactly that, and now they've got to rush to the royal capital too. Tomorrow morning he storms off and casually notes that the men's room is separate. The butler reassures them it's totally fine to stay there, since Orlando and the others are headed out to a. In another room, Nimanatia suddenly bolts out. He rushes in on Floyd and wham, lands a punch that launches the poor guy straight into the air like he's weightless. Smash, she's flying straight through the wall. Wow, isn't that girl? A day later, could it really mean this? The protagonist, poor guy, he just wanted to crash and sleep, but when there's no choice, what else is there, right? Wazoo freezes, stunned, and blurts out, wait, how did I end up looking different? Today feels totally different from yesterday, and it's short. Right after all that, Floyd bursts into the scene. All right, it's time to bail, he rises, and out of nowhere he blurts that something feels seriously off. Something feels off about her, and the butler blurts it out. I forgot to tell him her name is Kamua. She's not just similar to the others, she's the same person over and over, and that's what they call it. Personality, but even when she talks like that, she still comes off as genuinely good. Kind-hearted soul, and then, out of nowhere, the girl bursts in with a brush in hand, swearing she's going to scrub his battered body clean. The protagonist shakes all over, and he blurts out that he can do it. Right a little later, the boy is in the bath, muttering, those people are really. Floyd got hurled out the window and still walked away unscathed, like he's not even human. But yeah, he's not exactly in a position to say anything at all. Keep staring, and Wazoo blurts, why are you staring at me? Stared at him like that probably because he was shirtless, but Wazoo insists he's got nothing to hide. So yeah, it's all good. But if he could stay in human form like the Dragon King, then I swear it'd be pretty amazing. This is straight up embarrassing, and the way he prefers it is so much more the way she is right now. A few minutes later, Wazoo had already pulled on. He slipped into his clothes, and Manisha's eyes snapped to his cloak right after. The clock was slanted, like it had given up on time itself. Samir's nerves spark into panic, and before anyone can blink, he lunges in and hugs the protector tight. The protagonist locked eyes on the girl, and envy burned so hot it felt like it might explode. Jealousy flashed in their eyes right. A little while later, back in the royal capital. On Capital Mumbande, the protagonist group bursts into the spotlight. Right on cue, full chaos ahead. Right there, the whole group huddled up. Then Nemanisha declared, I'm going with Wazoo to smash this curse. Wazoo slips past her brothers and steps into the city, and just like that, he's stunned because the capital is supposed to be this jaw-dropping kind of place. The royal capital sprawls into one massive place, split into three parts, the royal castle, the noble wing, and the outer wing. Switching gears, she demanded to know where the hell was. Wazoo hails from, he throws it right back, saying he's from the capital. Capital Escua, so yeah, he's seen scenes like this before, and Wazoo even claims he used to live up in the mountains, meaning this whole thing is totally foreign to him. This kind of place, then Nemanisha hears that and instantly thinks, so he's been chasing an adventure this whole time. After quite some time, Wazoo tells him Mambond is way more prosperous than Escola, and that makes the girl light up, because the royal capital only really took off after her father rose to power, turning it into a trading hub for rare goods. The boy's stunned and figures her dad must be an amazing king, and Nimonisha just smiles, saying he'll know for himself once he finally meets him, since her father doesn't exactly notice him yet. She acts like a royal, strides up to the gate and demands they wait, because she's about to go talk to the gates herself. Suddenly, wow, the gate rips open and a carriage rolls in at full speed. She storms out and Nimonisha's gaze pins her in place, refusing to blink. Her eyes shut tight and the moment when she swings them open, he's right there beside her. Then the second she warns it's dangerous, someone yells for the girl and the words hit hard, "It's been ages since you left." They finally cross paths again. Wazoo leans in, goes, "Wait, who is it?" And Nimonisha answers, "It's been forever, huh? Ever since she spotted him, Duranga, right?" The girl demands, "Are you really coming to visit my father with that chancellor?" And he nods, "Yeah, my father said so," like it was the last piece of proof she needed to believe. Change the topic and he presses the question, "Who is that man?" When she's with him, Wazoo suddenly freezes up. Then she casually drops that he's insanely strong. She's a strong adventurer. Then her brothers start fighting, and to keep herself from getting trapped in the crossfire, she hired a bodyguard, and since she'd interviewed him already, she was about to drag him through the castle for a tour. Duranga heard it all and suddenly everything clicked, but to him, this guy still feels off. "It doesn't look all that strong, wow, I can already tell this isn't going to end well." To end well, huh? Nimonisha just gets a punch of fate right there. It's a little irritated and then she blurts out that they're leaving, because if nobody here can fight, she tells him to hire a bodyguard. Right after that, Duranga casually says he wants to talk about his marriage, and Wazoo's jaw drops. Then the guy blurts that his father-in-law is against it, so they've got to do something to pull it off before it all falls apart. To get his approval, right then, Nimonisha yells for Durango. He shot one more glare, pure bloodlust burning in his eyes. Ripley throws out a final goodbye, like it's the last heartbeat before everything changes. 11 minutes later, he was back on his feet and marching on. As Wazoo strides through the castle halls, he can't help himself. He wants to know if he's allowed to ask a question, especially since he overheard Duranga bringing it up. Nervous as a leaf, Nimonisha blurts out that Duranga is the Duke's son, right in the middle of this marriage. Duke of Frebond, this kingdom used to have two royal bloodlines, the Mambin family and the Jernabond family. Jernabond was the first king, but fate cut him down before he could. With a successor on the line, his cousin, the Duke of Frebond, stepped in and backed Mambend, right up until his engagement to Duranga's father named it, and that decision was forced on that person. Named Zeiss. Still, once her father wakes up, she's going to beg him to break this engagement, because she refuses to. She can't stop thinking about marrying him, so she shifts gears and blurts out, "Hey, do you remember what I said?" Said before, because the reward for helping her will literally be herself. Meanwhile, Wazoo is already thinking about what she's about to do right in his head. She has to be kidding, but the girl insists. Once she's claimed him as her prize, she'll do whatever she wants. The boy's got his hands full with the princess, and the MC can't afford to be timid for even a second. Then boom, a swarm of butlers crashes in, grinning like they've been waiting forever, thrilled that the princess has. She comes back fast and doesn't waste a second, then drops the bomb. She's figured out what caused the fight between her two brothers. Yeah, she needs to reach them like right now, but the maid shuts her down fast. Her brother ordered them to keep anyone out. Anyone even tried to approach him, especially if they were his own relatives and a handful of hard men. A few minutes later, Gerald pounded up to the door of the inside the guy's room. Nimonisha tells him she just needs to see her brother. From a distance, they finally agree. She nods and says, "I can't go in there," and then he cracks the door open, and in that instant, his sister is right there. His sister just showed up, and the boy was radiating pure intensity. He let loose that shadowy aura, and there wasn't a single sparkle in sight. In his eyes, Sue froze when she realized the guy wasn't even looking her way. Staring at them, Nimonisha suddenly snaps, like he's being puppeted, forced to keep checking them over and over non-stop. Wazoo cracks open the documents and takes a hard look. And then he spots the bracelet on it. On his wrist, Nimonisha leans in and tells her brother is seriously awesome. The guy who always steps in and instantly soothes everyone around him, always. Always guarding the things he cherishes like they were treasures meant to never be lost. They were his own, begging again, once more for our boy. To save him, the boy just grins and right in the same. The moment hits, he's already moving. He burst into the room. He strides up to his sister's brother and reaches out, putting his hand. With a hard grip on his wrist, he snapped the bracelet clean in half. Wow, what a punchline. That easy, then the man snaps back, and everything turns around as if nothing ever went wrong. He snaps back into consciousness, then immediately collapses into a faint, and that's when the soldiers finally arrive. Wazoo rushes in, trying to calm him before he fully spirals, just so they can finally end this mess. But out of nowhere, one of the knights suddenly lunges to kill her brother, obviously. No way the protagonist would let that slide. A flying kick lands, and when the dust settles, the protagonist mutters, "Yep, I knew it." Because this guy is one of the people who were wearing the red armor. No time to breathe. Then the other soldiers swoop in and slam the man to the ground as they shout that he's under arrest, saying he was using Nimashima's brother as a hostage. Then suddenly, everything's okay again because the enemy has. Soon after that, Nimashima closes the distance fast, moving in closer than ever to her brother, and he snapped back into control, regaining consciousness. Snaps back and he realizes he's been getting puppeteered, then begging for forgiveness for wrecking so many things for his young. But Nimashima swears that as long as he's finally safe, it doesn't matter. Later, Navilio rushed to thank our boy, saying he stayed conscious even while he was being controlled, but his body. He wouldn't respond, so once again he thanked him for breaking his curse and for being. His sister's power hits him like a punch, then suddenly he bows, ready to give everything. But Wazoo waves it off, saying he doesn't have to. Navilio steps in, though, and insists he has to do it because it's a matter of respect and form. A burst of gratitude hits first. Then the fight erupts on the spot, both sides staring, waiting to see who'll bow their head, and it turns out I'm not the one who'll bow anything anymore. Namshima storms back in like he never stopped because he's here to help Wazoo, but Navilio beat him to it, already getting it instantly. He leaned in and asked if he could call the protagonist, just by the sound of his name. So yeah, then he can go ahead and call him brother-in-law, and while Wazoo thinks this guy is really nice, he's still part of the royal family the Mashima gets. Wazoo shoots a glance, then blurts out that he's going to save the others, like he's daring fate to stop him. And the other sister jumped in too, asking if that's where she is, right there waiting. Across the castle, there's a woman who's been trained to fight. Training with her sword, then she snaps at the maids, telling them not to. She refused to get any closer because she might snap into action. The maid blurts out, if you do it by accident, you kill them, right before she panics. She refuses to touch a single bite her body. Suddenly, the girl burst into the scene, like the story just snapped into motion. She smashes the plate. What the heck is going on? Total chaos. She yells that we have to bring her brother here, because she's about to end him, no question. And this time she tells him. Meanwhile, everyone's staring at the chaos from a distance, and Navilio's saying she's getting more deadlier than before. Maralna leads the country's army, so getting to her won't be a walk in the park. Even though she absolutely loathes losing, there's a delicate side to her when she takes. She yanks off her armor, then snaps, Wazoo, I need your help. To help her claw her way back into consciousness. Yeah, you know the type. Our guy just grins and tells everyone he needs to leave trust him with the rest, because in her head she's desperate to know the full truth down to the last detail. Wait, what is this? It's like somebody's been puppeted and forced to move. She fought to control her own body, and ended up hurting everyone nearby, and now she's terrified. Did a magical curse steal her control? Or is her heart just too weak to keep from breaking? Then she realizes she can't outlast this force. Almost immediately, a voice in her head begs her to pull herself together. Can you feel that question hanging in the air? Wondering if she's truly the strongest person alive. She stares at the life around her, then pauses, wondering what she's supposed to do next and whether she even has the power to pull it off. She was alone. Then, out of nowhere, she snapped back to consciousness and thrust her gaze upward, staring at the protagonist like he'd just torn through the dark. He stood right in front of her, jabbing the tip of it toward her, guiding her with terror. She'll figure out who he is because she's going to beat him. But while it's happening, her mind is screaming for the boy to back off because in the end, she still has to do it. Doesn't want to hurt him, and soon it's going to catch up to them. Right after he starts wondering where the necklace he's staring at could have gone. Looking for was, while the boy dodges like his life depends on it. He slips past every strike, and he can only guess this attack is playing dirty. Inside the armor, almost immediately he lunges into action and tries to blast the Wazoo. Nemanisha shudders in fear, then her brother steps in and asks her to make her lane in because the boy was like right on the unharmed. Our boy blurts out, stunned like this was supposed to be the thing he'd never survive. From the princess, closing the distance toward her, he declares, now it's mine, my turn. It was his moment to strike when she lunges to strike, but the boy dodges with zero effort. He slips every attack like it's nothing, then snatches the moment and grabs on. He yanked the sword free with his own hand. He tore off her armor, and somehow he still managed to spot the necklace. We're telling ourselves, come on, it's not that bad. And it fits her perfectly without wasting a single second. The antagonist shatters it, and the curse explodes into something worse. Gets pulled up and Narlina's eyes widen as she realizes what's coming next. That awful dread started to drain from her body, then she slipped and fell into the his arms, but then trouble hit something s off with her, and he can't stop staring, trying to figure out why her body's overheating. Oh man, things are about to get wild. Wazoo's confused as hell, utterly lost, and blurts out, "So, are you saying if she's okay?" And she shoots back that she's regained her strength. Gasped back into consciousness and blurted out a grateful thank you to him for. He's basically like, "Why are you still standing there?" And she finally admits it, saving her is what he did, but then the protagonist checks in like, "What's wrong?" And she reveals it's her first time getting hugged. They got pulled into a hug by that man, and somehow, it didn't feel so awful after all. Feeling this, and besides, she wants to know his name. Meanwhile, Nemonisha and Meyer were absolutely furious, but their joy still blazed because their sister had. Marylna finally hits the reset button. She apologizes for making things go bad. She's making everyone panic, and her brother blurts that it applies to him too now. Because once they're finally back to normal, the danger doesn't disappear. They should be happy, and the girl says it like it's the only truth that matters. That's exactly when it all clicks. Then the siblings finally at last were. Wazoo gives them one sharp look, and just like that the group falls in line, right as Nemonisha. Anisha calls him over, practically bursting with joy and thanking him for bringing her sister back. She snapped back to normal, but she doesn't think it's a good sign for them, because now they're hugging and it feels like trouble on the horizon. And now she's seething with jealousy. Our hero hears it and his heart drops, panicking, "Am I about to get nailed for disrespecting royalty?" But she says that that's not how it went. She hadn't done it yet, and her brother rushed in, telling her to calm down, because Wazoo was only holding her back so she wouldn't fall afterward. Marylna says that it still didn't go right. No matter what he did, it just wasn't enough. Nemonisha brushes off the thought, blushes like crazy, and swears those two just happen to want the same things. Coinciding with it because sometimes, back in the day, she handed Nemonisha a teddy bear, and that little gift spiraled into Nerylina wanting it for herself. Wanting it so bad they ended up slugging it out, arguing over it as the dust flew. Yet after that day, he started handing them the exact same stuff, and when the protagonist hears that, it finally clicks in his head. I'm finally getting a grip on what's going on, and the video hits me with a shocker. This time, it's only one guy, and I can already tell there's about to be a whole showdown brewing. Nerylina tells everyone to chill, saying she won't steal Wazoo away from her because they're not kids anymore, because they already figured out what to do. Wazoo was trembling like crazy, the boy, because once it happened, they'd just share. That boy's had enough. He can't take it anymore, and right here, the two of them blurt out their request at the exact same time for Wazoo. Zoo to be their man. He didn't get a single thing, and Nevaleo tells him that's the perfect way to end this mess. Things were calm, and even the brother nodded along. My God, then, as he changed the subject, he warns. Their father is about to wake up any second, and he'll be thrilled to hear this. Whoa, so many bombshells just dropped. And Nerylina leaned in and told the protagonist to talk like it's no big deal. She strolls right up to him, and without letting him breathe, she pushes him to spit out her name. She blurts his name again and again, then switches gears fast, apologizing heart-pounding for scaring every single maid. Without even blinking, Wazoo grabs Nerylina's attention and barks that everyone needs to rush to where their parents are. They're out cold right there on the other side. On the side of the castle, everyone packed into the room where the three siblings, father and mother, were. Nemonisha blurts that her healing magic won't budge, and Vilio snaps back that he expected real change already, especially since their curses was shattered beyond repair, so there's no curse tool either, and he can't stop asking why. What it could be right after that. Then, like the universe just snapped its fingers, one more member of the group shows up in Orlando. Orlando can't help but beam, and Novello asks if he's really a friend of the protagonist, so Orlando nods and says, "Yeah, it's the same man who stuck with me on my journey. He's insanely skilled, and I just hoped he could forge him into a knight." Then Cassie snaps in, saying they've finally uncovered what's behind the two cursed tools. Schools that were on them, but they don't have a clue why they are unconscious. Then they snatched the guild mask and brought it over. Master pauses to look, then boom, she pops into view right. And he blurts, "Whoa boy, she's got serious strength, if you know what I mean." Wait, what is this? Our boy S freaking out and stammering like, "I'm a rank S." Hanksy adventurer and really the girl, swears she's heard everything about him from Orlando. But I still couldn't wrap my head around it at this point. The protagonist yanks out his guild card and growls, "This is the badge." Relia swears the guild card doesn't look fake at all, then adds, "And my idiot brother." She tells him to trust her, then swings the conversation into motion, introducing herself and revealing she's the head of the adventure. He's got a tense meeting going on at the headquarters out in the east, and everything hinges on what happens next. The royal capital, and once again she fires off a warning, saying she's heard way too much about. He's made it all the way from Orlando, and now that he's saved Navelio and Nerylina, you realize his rank doesn't even tell the whole story. Seriously, there's no way some C-rank adventurer could asterisk actually take down a knight and still keep the royalty safe. Not unless he's got some insane power we haven't seen yet. Even if he hasn't shown it to him with his own eyes, and even if nobody knows what tricks adventurers pull, he's still a damn precious person too. A guild master, when he hears it, he instantly freezes up, stammers out a thank you, and can't stop wondering if she's either praising him or shutting him down, but right after that she leans in and demands to know what's going on. Nemenisha blurts out that they've been out cold this whole time. She'd been out cold for what felt like forever, and when she finally came to, he pressed her, demanding to know if she had any clue. Relia says she's seen this kind of mess 1,000 times, but this time she's suddenly not sure. She's freaking out over what this could possibly be. Maybe some kind of magical drug did it, but it's not one. Everyone knows it, at least in legends. And plain and simple, it's an ancient magic drug, one that vanished long ago. Back in the day, oh boy, trust me, I'm already about to get into it. So yeah, you're right, there's nothing good hiding there. Even she doesn't know a thing about it because it's so brutal that the real cause can't be traced. But instead of a curse, it might have been the real cause all along. Narlina snaps after hearing it. Rage spikes as she screams it's impossible for this to be caused by a drug, and she insists her parents will still stay. The boy's stuck unconscious forever, and the guild leader snaps that the only path is to catch the culprit and undo his magic. But Nemenisha cuts in and warns it'll be brutally hard. Because the culprit's still out there, and Relia insists that even if they finally pin them down, it still won't guarantee anything. They'd finally tell the truth, if only they could find someone with knowledge that blows past everything the ages have ever known. They might have stumbled onto something, and when they say it out loud, you know our hero is about to lock in. Hiro blurts out an idea and then leans in, asking me how long before he even finishes. Ragnar's alive, so if they want answers, they're going to have to go ask him face to face. Poor old dragon never had a chance. A few minutes later, right ends. Inside Tada's carriage, she leans in and goes, "This is wild, why would someone ask me something like this?" To the girl who's about to be the next harem pick. Salona blurts out that she once claimed she was just a service girl trained to affirm people, but she insists that's where it all ends. Never try to get it on purpose unless Wazoo lets you. Then he lets her into his harem, because once she's in, her body and soul belong to him fully and forever. And Salona swore that they'd met there again and again, right in that very place. Yeah, it's a place made for grown-ups, so if they've chosen it, they've pulled that exact move a bunch of times. Oh no, she's about to take a brutal hit, she's getting. Rage hit him so hard he went completely red. Tada squeals with joy, yelling, "See, I was right," because Wazoo just flung her onto the bed with 4. When you finally tap into that power while playing, oh boy, the girl goes wild. Carl doesn't even bother lying, Salona freezes on the spot. Right then, Todd snaps back and denies it, insisting the MC never did what the story claims. He didn't even touch her, just pulled the girl into a hug and blurts out, "You're so cute," like she can't help herself. Salona couldn't stop teasing her, and that relief finally hit. She blurts that she's relieved, and honestly, she was terrified he'd get bored and leave her behind. Tada pivots fast, changing the subject, and then wants to know just how close she is to Wazoo, pressing her to say if she's at least. At least it showed her body, but the elf shut it down with a hard no, and suddenly I remember. There was a time when the MC caught sight of her walking with that legendary curve. While she was bathing, he slipped in and Tada blurts out that Wazoo has already seen her. Salona stops her mid-moment and says right back to her the exact same way, "I'm not letting this go." Says they're even, and the wildest part is, this kid didn't even. Don't you dare lay a single finger on them. Salona shoots back that Wazoo probably keeps his distance from relationships because he's just too good a person to get tangled up. Hearing that, he took it and Tada says if that's true, then go ahead, try seducing him when they run into him again. The elf still doesn't want any of it. So yeah, this isn't on the woman to carry, not the way it should be. Make the first move. There's also this huge thing about. Still totally inexperienced, and even worse, he was a complete purebred rookie. Suddenly, the girl throws her arms around Salona and gasps that it's unreal how she gives her whole body to the MCB. Because Wazoo wanted it that bad. She'd do the same, and right now she's way too inexperienced. She's terrified she'll disappoint him. It has nothing to do with experience or technique, it's pure beauty. And now Nivette losing that chance hits her hard. So yeah, that community was gone for good because she and he envies her like crazy. So yeah, if that's how it goes, that's all she needs to prove her love. Loved the MC Tada, telling them not to worry because Wazoo. Of course you'll cherish them and treat them like they matter. With great care, dude, just look at Evet's luck, she's about to break the. So yeah, the mood, she's gotta study those plus 18 things, and that's why she's about to. Meanwhile, poor Nenya had just heard the. He caught every word of the conversation, and now his mind was screaming, how long until this blows up? Mess will keep spreading, these people are hopeless, and on the other side. Wazoo finally burst into the scene. He finally made it to the dragon's place, ready to corner someone and find out everything they know about that ancient. Magical drugs, yeah, you heard that right, because they weren't talking about anything else. They were talking about Mare's parents, the ones who live for a long time. He's still not sure why it's happening, but he swears it's going to. It'll be way easier to ask Ragnar than to just deal with all this mess. As two goddesses rolled in, and meanwhile the poor things were stuck there, completely helpless. We're locked in, listening to literally everything. A little while later, Wazoo finally wraps it up and finishes. He's hauling himself up the mountain, but there's something hiding out there. Different because there's more. Right there, the whole group started chanting for. He calls for Ragnar, and just when everything goes silent, the protagonist bursts into the scene. He blurts, "Who are you?" And right then the monsters unleash their whole expo. Everybody turns and points, saying it's him who has to answer, and it's all because of the question. Why are humans even there, right here? He's Ragnar's buddy, but once those creatures get wind of it, the pressure spikes, because they four are the dragon. Dragon's closest best friends, his ride or dies. That monster looks like a lion to me, goes in for the attack trying to hoist the kid, but yeah, there's no way they can right that boy. That's way too much. When they hear it, the other creatures lock onto it like a direct challenge. And they all push harder together. Lunges in to smash the protagonist with a desperate strike. A little later, it's like the moment stretches, and there was. Ragnar burst out laughing, asking why all this noise was suddenly happening, and it looked. They're getting along great. Just recently, the protagonist hit it off with Wazoo and introduced them to their world. The antagonist leans in and tells them, smug as ever, that they're his. Time S on us, friends. These guys are called the peaks of the mountain creatures, and the moment they hear that, another monster snaps, wait, stop. After all that, they still got crushed by a human, so yeah, calling them peaks of the creatures is straight up laughable. And after hearing everything he just said, Wazoo clamps his mouth shut. No words, no reaction. Hushed in the corner. Then right after, Ragnar leans in and says it's no exaggeration to say. To claim Wazoo is the strongest in the world, because he can even lift him up and throw him like he's nothing. Slipped away like it was nothing, and once everyone heard it. Their way of acting, saying that if he's a friend of Ragnar, then he's also a friend of theirs, watching what we're doing, eyes locked on it. Seeing what was happening, the protagonist gasped, because just like that, they suddenly became. Ragnar steps in, and just like that, the whole group turns sweet as sugar. He introduces them and lays out the law. The lion's called Game, the werewolf is Zaire, the elf sitting right next to him is Rudo, and the necromancer. Neil shows up in the conversation, and the protagonist freezes. Wait, what's a high elf? As the guy starts explaining it. It's a killer question, and you can't ignore the truth. His race is exactly that. Is a high elf's, yet his heart. But your heart is different. Honestly, it's all because he's obsessed with elves, he goes and lays his hands on every single one. Every elf in his village paid the price, and just like that, they were all thrown out. They're pure, devoted, still clinging to that terrifying, powerful arm. If you catch my drift, the nobility of elves isn't just better, it's a whole different kind of power. Elves is huge, and if he had his way, he'd want to team up with every elf in the world and do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, wow, this is getting kinda inappropriate, huh? And finally, he just loves doing all this kind of thing, and then just like that, an awkward silence crashed over the room. Silence swallowed the room, then minutes later, Wazoo blurts that an excited guy yanked his attention away, and he blanked everything out, but one thought burned in his head. He had to ask. Drag the answer closer to the question. After that, the dragon finally got the full story, and in this case, it really mattered. Wazoo leans in and asks Neil, so, are you a necromancer? He leaned in, nodded, and said yes, because living a long life is the only thing he truly cares about. The protagonist pretty much spills it. This saving grace is probably a magical drug, but it might also just be the weird effect kicking in. Trying to describe the effect of an enchantment is tough until you've seen it. Because those magical drugs and enchantments don't just vanish, they have to be cancelled later on. If it's not done the right way, it'll blow up into problems fast, so Wazoo snaps, wait, can't there be some kind of cure? Anything. Because he can't just go back empty-handed with nothing. Neil tells him he can't hand over a recipe without thinking it through, and then admits he has nothing to work with, though if he could get back to his lab, he might finally cook up something useful. Wazoo pushes for them to go, but Neil shoots it down, saying it's way too far. For a human, then Ragnar snaps that Neil still doesn't get how this ST works. Wazoo's strength is unreal, and the kid grins like he knows it, urging them to come back ASAP. They rush as fast as they can, and he dashes to Neil's house. He can barely hold himself back as he finally reaches the men bonded by tomorrow's morning at his pace, and that's when the monster you know starts to show up. Who's a necromancer, and he just asked, what would happen if he suddenly showed up? In the middle of a human city, he'd get himself pelted with stones, and come back like nothing happened, fully back to normal. Completely traumatized. A creature is sobbing, and Wazoo just stands there thinking he's got zero confidence. Neil says that confidence can turn into a monster, and it might get him killed too because soldiers are ready to come for him. Wazoo just shrugs at the question, if it's sealed by mages, what's he going to do then? And he answers that he'll handle it because he's a superior creature. He has no clue why he's stressing so hard. He'd been stressing over everything, because if he wasn't a bad guy, then he'd finally stand at his side for real. So if something like that pops off, he'll throw himself in front of him, no need to stress, especially since he just met the prince and he's chasing after his ancestors' dream, fighting to help them, no matter what it takes. And if the king and queen can finally wake up and the whole family can reunite, smiles will light up every face. Streaked across their faces, after begging and pleading so much for the creature's help, he tells it straight up, if it's willing to go that far, then he'll do whatever it takes. Find a way to help him still. There's a catch, he's got to pull it off or else. To stumble across a skeleton with a jaw-dropping beauty. Beautiful clavicle, finally, it's about time. He was never alone, he had a partner, and hearing that sent everything spinning. Everyone went deadly quiet, then the protag finally broke the silence. Even though it's hilarious, he still agrees. Later on, the protagonist finally burst into the city, and the skeleton immediately thanks him for getting him there, but it all happened so fast it almost tore his bones shattered as he tried to switch the subject. The protagonist tells everyone, I'll meet the soldiers at the back entrance, then we'll read together. Push through the last stretch to the royal capital, because the place is packed with guards ready to stop you. He's scary as hell, so you better hide his face, because this might turn into a disaster and get him a real. Scaring everyone. Meanwhile, way out in the distance, Orlando was watching the protagonist light up with pure, unstoppable joy. That he'd come back. Now he's an apprentice knight, and the Velio had granted him special training that changed him for good. Glancing at the guy beside him, Wazoo blurts that he's a necromancer, and that he knows a ton about magical drugs. He brought him there, so don't worry, he isn't a suspicious person, because if anything even smells off, I'm not taking chances. Everything happens, he'll just quit the race, while the kid is still standing there, not done yet. It isn't nesting around her, just a few minutes later and suddenly everyone rushes into the castle, and Wazoo steps in to introduce everything. Navlio, the necromancer, presses closer, and he actually thanks Neil for the help, only for Neil to snap back with that he was completely shocked. He still managed to approach with unshaken and fearless, like nothing could stop him, but then it cuts off at XP. Expected of a prince, still, Navlio says. He admits he's a little scared, because even though he's friends with Wazoo, this is the first time he's ever meeting but he's clearly an intellectual, and it proves his worries were totally baseless. Fears crumbled in his chest, then the monster roared like it had something to prove. He tells them it's only because he's been holding back his intimidating aura, and that this kind of skill can't be used until he's trained up for it over time. Time it took to pull off this look, turns out it was no normal necromancy at all. Answers can't do that, Wazoo blurts out, and right then he asks, wait, were you low? Scared stiff of the soldiers and the dogs, still trembling like a leaf in a storm, he lies and then swears otherwise, affirming it with shaking courage. It's the truth. Meanwhile, the guild leader was locked in, watching the necromancer leaned in and asked like it was fate, so by any chance are you is the Mage King Neil really the one he's talking about? Because Neil just shot him a look and asked, wait, are you saying you happen to be a? Relia says that when it comes to him, you're talking about a truly legendary figure, one of the biggest names around, and everyone knows it. They claim he can wield any kind of magic, and the crazy part is just how massive his magical power is. The scope is gigantic, like it's begging him to step into it and take his chance. Would have the power to wipe out an entire country. He sweeps through it like it's nothing. Bottom line, he's an absolute legend. Man's here, and something inhuman is coming for him. Then the necromancer bursts into laughter, claims she's right, and throws out the name Mage King. Brings him flooding old memories, because someone out there still calls him by that name, so as he gets closer, he leans in and says she's really something, like an intelligent woman. Explains it, and the girl chimes in too. It's because she's the guild master. Master of this country. Then, just a little later, Neil stood there locked in, studying the kings like a threat map, claiming that there was something unbelievably rare sitting right there, waiting to be discovered. That got thrown at them, and no one could doubt it for a second. Out spilled this wild, magical drug. Maybe it was the eternity doing its work. A sleep drug sits in the room. Nemanisha leans in, asking if it would to wake them with her magic, because the monster outright admits it isn't impossible, but yeah, it's a brutally strong method. If they drag them awake by force, anything could explode. Nobody knows what comes next. So when it hits their bodies and they do nothing, boom, they'll fall into sleep. Sleep until death, but before you do, you'd better wake them the right way, because getting it right means you need to make a certain. A shady tantalization drug is on the table, so Mavilio snaps and demands to know how. The hero can't believe it, then the necromancer grins and says, piece of cake. I can make it with zero trouble. Still, there's one massive, absolutely crucial thing at stake. He's got one problem. He's missing the vampire fang ingredient, the key piece, and yeah, he's determined to use it. They'll use it as a one-time trigger, so their parents never get a chance to turn. Navilio watched the twist unfold, people turning into vampires, then he slammed the brakes with a warning. Neil says he knows exactly where to look for a vampire, but it's buried in an old memory and he's not sure it's still there. He has no clue whether there are still. Vampires are right there, and Wazoo blurts out fast that there's a real chance, if it's possible. Hearing that, the moment it clicks, they're buzzing with panic and fling themselves at the protagonist, begging him to save the day, like right now. Tell them where the place is, come on, after all, we need to know. And yeah, the two are coming too. Wait, I can already tell this is about to turn into a disaster. So this is gonna work out, right? Wazoo's all awkward, blabbing that they're princesses, so they're not allowed in. But then one of them grins and knows how to use barrier magic. And the other one, he's the absolute best with the swords. Mastered a skill that could change everything. Right now, it's their only shot at saving their parents, so they can't just. They're doing nothing, just sitting there, while Mavilio keeps his eyes locked on everything. And after all that, he leans in and flat out asks if Wazoo can do him this favor. And bring them with him because they'd already said it. They have to do something for their parents, and he can totally. Wazoo understands what they're feeling. Because hearing it that way, he's convinced there's no other option, and he says, don't worry, it's not very far. So yeah, he'll take them, and right as he does, Helia blurts out, Wazoo is an interesting person, because besides being an absolute menace, he's got that kind of energy that makes you lean in and listen. As a buddy of the Dragon King, he's a top-ranked sea adventurer, and he pushed right up to disaster so close you could taste it. To the royal family, and while that's happening, Wazoo catches every word, freaking out over what would happen if they learn the Dragon King is here too. Then his partner chimes in and the girl promises, fix all this chaos and I'll promote you to rank B. And that's when Wazoo gets. She got completely fired up. Honestly, she could have even boosted him all the way to rank A, but that would cause a whole mess to deal with. So right then and there, he's taking Nerlina and Namanisha with him. A few minutes later, the princess finally gets a full heartfelt apology. For taking forever, Wazoo, when he finally looks back, realizes every single one of them. Everybody got their gear because once they step out, they've got to vanish behind fake identities and stay hidden. To the royal capital plus, even being born into the royal family. They're not weak for a second, so they don't even flinch. Camping outdoors, then they hear this and the protagonist felt totally fine until everything snapped. Then his mind snaps to something weird, like, what is he even thinking about? Right, a few days later, Wazoo's been grown for ages, like way too long. That group packed up and fled the country, and Hidmet Mimancha shot down the whole plan. I hate this idea. Nerlina opens up about the dream of running from her country, and admits she packed up her home just to find something more. She demands a cure for them, but the girl snaps back. This all happened because of Floyd, Cumia, and Cassie, who backed her up like a lifesaver, yet even so, everything she did. She did it for her family, no doubt. While she fought for them, our hero was carving through a pack of monsters, telling them, don't stress, because he promised he'd do his absolute best so they could finally have peace. They were finally out of the country, and it had been a few hours, still bright as midday, and the horses were hauling so slow it looked like they wouldn't hit the destination until tomorrow. Meanwhile, he kept imagining wiping out that vampire solo, snagging its fang, and then coming back to the kingdom like a hero. The kingdom still clung to the night, right there in the middle of everything. Even worse, right in the middle of all this chaos, he only managed to set up one tent, so if more doesn't get done, they might be stuck sleeping wherever they can. Sleep curled up in a tight huddle, because hey, it's totally fine, you can. She can even sleep in a tree at night. Then, not long after, Nimanisha leans in and asks if Wazoo has ever thought about learning. Learning to ride a horse. Don't you dare be embarrassed, everyone starts somewhere, and Wazoo swears he's never had the chance. Then came the chance to learn, grab it before it vanishes. Then Nerlina blasts out the words that, if it's really true, she'll step in and train him herself. Then she'll quiz him, demanding he answer her. Her sister's nervous and she blurts out, wait, are you sure you want me riding up front? That's exactly her plan, so the girl just stays right there, wearing that smug grin like she owns the moment. She flashes a smile, then Nimanisha steps forward and positions the horse first, flat out telling her sister she won't let her take advantage of her. Right then the two snap into a full-blown argument, and the poor protagonist gets dragged into it. Is left behind, and honestly it doesn't even matter because he's got Maya stayed by his side, then she jolted off his shoulder and darted straight into the middle of. The argument hits hard, he tumbles to the ground and the feeling crashes over him. Feeling crushed, he realized the weight on his shoulders was brutal. He was forced to travel with two princesses. Even being alone didn't stop him. When it hit like this, he just sat down and threw himself into seated gymnastics, the exact routine he'd already learned. He learned it from his sister, and honestly, I don't get it at all. Couldn't even understand anything anymore. Because right after the two sisters came back and said they were done talking, the one who was supposed to teach him. Nerlina's about to start, and right on her heels, her sister shows up too. She can only teach the basics since time's tight, but the difference is huge for. From knowing nothing, in this, Nemanisha begs them to go all in because she'll be responsible tomorrow. Meanwhile, Wazoo can't shake the feeling he still doesn't get what's going on, but as long as they keep teaching, he'll be fine. Teaching him then just a little while later, the boy. He yelped like a kid twice his size, his tongue was on fire and he looked straight up like a 2-year-old. Riding that horse, his whole body trembles, because the way Narlina is touching him feels so intense he can barely think. Very dangerous. Meanwhile, Nemanisha and Mir Lenin, eyes locked on the chaos unfolding in front of them. With jealousy, our boy is trying to lock in, but all he can think about is her, right as jealousy starts to claw at his focus. She's a princess, and no matter who you are, even someone like him can't possibly have any say in what she's allowed to be. He suddenly realizes he has no feelings for her, then the girl reaches out and touches. Nemanisha's words hit the protagonist like a punch to the heart. Then, just a little later, she finally announces, "It's getting dark, so they hurry up and so they should take a break." And while the moment's wide open, Wazoo slips in a comment about what's going on with the conversation, saying that as for that whole vampire mess, I had an idea, maybe it'd be simple to bring the Fang back with him. But then I realized the whole trip would turn pointless after. He kept on walking for what felt like forever. Above all, it feels like you're hearing the truth loud and clear, like a line that cuts straight to the core. He doesn't trust them one bit, and you know the two of them have got to realize that this journey isn't for kids, because right here the boy couldn't force the truth out of his mouth, so he muttered something like, "I just ha." A little while later, the crew finally huddled up and started grabbing the ingredients they needed. Wazoo was scrambling for ingredients like it was survival, because if he wanted his harem, he had to master the art of trapping, starting with those messed up feet for practice. They're out on the road with the girls, then boom, the conversation ignites out of nowhere. And now it's all about the shampoo. And Narlina leans in and asks if Wazoo has ever heard. The protagonist admits he's never even heard of conditioner, and Narlina jumps in like, "They're not magic, just things you take." Nemanisha says his hair still looks amazing even after a whole day, so yeah, you've gotta take care of it. After a whole day of non-stop travel, our hero finally, if he can just steal a quick peek then, telling him it's seriously amazing. Then she thanks him quick heartfelt, and just like that, Narlina shifts the mood, saying it might be a bit. "You're asking this way too early, so I start wondering what he'll do once all this is settled." And Wazoo shoots back that he's traveling with me right now. Around Mindland, so he's probably off somewhere else. Later, though, Nemanisha is stunned and blurts, "Wait, won't you?" He won't stay in Mambond, and Nerlina snaps that he's an adventurer, so they can't twist his arm into backing down. The girl presses for the real reason, asking if he's chasing strength, and Wazer answers that he just wants to help people who are stuck in trouble. And that's the wild truth. His journey kicks off with one goal, building a harem goes quiet the moment they hear it. And after a beat, Nemanisha says Wazoo was so confident about their status that he stepped away, while Nerlina shuts in and agrees. They need that boy so they can finally become companions. Opinions or real women, either way, they won't stay by his side for long because he said he wanted a harem of his own, but this case is about to flip the script if. Once he starts to like them, it doesn't take long. Nerlina barrels into her sister and asks if she has a crush on the protagonist. Her face instantly burns, and she gets totally flustered. Embarrassed, and Nerlina just can't stop thinking they're about to wake up. She yanked her parents out of their sleep and begged them for their attention, their care, their anything she could get. With no strength left to keep pushing, the moment drags on. Then just a few minutes later, the sisters rip open the tent and Wazoo. The zoo was out there fast asleep, just like they swore they wouldn't go back. They break their promise and still stuck in bed, they stay there. Snuggled up to him soon after like nothing else mattered. After our hero snaps awake and he shot a glance to the side and still couldn't make any sense of it. Anything that was happening, right then there were two princesses clinging so hard it's gripping both his arms like his life depended on it. In the middle of it all, doubt hits him, was someone trying to seduce him. And then he starts spiraling, thinking about what could happen if he ever fell into this game. It's not like he hasn't seen a woman pass that way, and almost instantly it hit him like lightning. He remembered. Members Tada and Salona, both staring at him, wondering if he's living a super life, and right now his hair. Tarim only has Mir just like that, so when he looks at it this way, he has to admit he's blessed. Naval trusted him with his sisters, and now it's Tarim's job to bring them home safe. So don't stress, just a few hours later the sun's up and our protagonist wakes with a grin looking back like. The sky was bright and beautiful, but these two sisters were blushing in embarrassment because nothing had worked out like they'd hoped. Happened all night and a little later the whole group showed up. He finally sprinted to the cave Neil swore was there, and the moment he reached it, everything felt like it was about to explode. There was a vampire, of course, and the place was packed with a whole lot of trouble. Bats filled the air everywhere and, a bit farther down the road there was a asterisk. And there was a house too. Hearing those sounds they snapped to attention, something was definitely happening and it wasn't nothing. Someone swinging a hoe. There was this guy named Timming. He headed back to his plantation, practically buzzing with how good he felt. Right from the start of the day, everything feels normal. Until that moment, and the three totally blow past their expectations because this vampire is nothing like they've ever seen. Right after the vampire brags that the veggies are super healthy, shows up, and he's ready to load up on enough food to serve a whole crowd of mouth-watering dishes. The man snaps his gaze to the side and catches something. As if that's not already crowded enough, Nimanicia glances around and asks, Justin. He's a vampire and the moment he shows up, everyone starts losing their minds. They just keep staring at each other until the vampire's cheeks flare red with embarrassment and blurts out, "Why didn't you tell me?" There were girls there and the poor guy bolted straight to them fast. His house all desperate and the three can't believe it. Just like they expected, the creature is nothing like the usual type of. Marolna cuts in, swearing that they weren't supposed to get a vampire at all. And if she isn't misreading it, the vampire they're seeing is the real deal. I seriously hate sunlight, but somehow that one came out all tanned, so yeah, they should. They need to pull him aside and grill him to see if they can squeeze out any clues about who he really is. Vampires suddenly crash into the story, like the night itself just snapped shut. Suddenly the monster swings the door open again, wearing a totally different face and demands, "So tell me, are you the?" Ryu's enemies finally showed up with one mission, kill him. And in the name of death, he's the vampire hunter, sworn to tear them all down and everyone's about. And then bam, there's that painfully awkward moment. Toward a silence so heavy it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Even now with him still like that, they've seen him in a whole new light, so they don't feel as they used to like, not anymore. The tension finally breaks, and the monster suddenly turns crushed with sadness. Nemanicia throws in a quick apology and then tells them, if everything's fine, then breathe and calm down. Breathe, then hit reset and start over from the top. The vampire gives the nod and the protagonist grins like it's finally time. All right, I'll start. From the cave door they burst out. Just a few minutes later the whole crew goes. They rush back again, demanding to know where the vampire is, because they're out for blood and they need to catch their prey. Prey at all costs, because with that mansion staring them down they don't get to hesitate, they have to push forward. And just like that, a vampire suddenly appears. Then the poor guy is left scrambling because he's about to get in way over his head. Ends up coughing hard. If he can pull it off again, then wazoo is the proof. And then boom, they just keep doing the same thing over and over like a whole bunch of times I even dropped the ball. Every time something went wrong, the creature refused to quit because he still has to do it. To do this for the dignity of being. Turning into a monster, then right out of nowhere. Wazoo snaps and lands a brutal punch straight at a vampire froze in place, staring straight ahead. Totally out of ideas, just a poor guy stuck with nothing to fight back with. He dropped his guide bow onto the ground. He was scrambling to apologize right after his wedding. Begging them not to kill him, he begs for his life. Then the MC suddenly cuts in and says they did. He didn't step in to end his life, but Rio was so stunned he blurted the question right out. They wouldn't come any closer, so the boys' crew rushed in to snag a vampire's prey because they wanted his life spared. But the moment they heard that, the vampire went suspicious since his claws, flesh, and wings are priceless, yet they only kept pushing for his fangs. Right away, Neralina stepped in, saying they needed those fangs for medicine, and if he handed them over, they'd give. Ryo says he'll take nothing. If they aren't going to kill him, then he doesn't want any reward as a gift, and he yanks out his own tooth and says he's happy, like if it's something so insanely useful, wow. He finds the rhythm and slips it into a box like it's nothing, like it's exactly where it belongs. We're a Christmas present, and the moment they saw it, the three stay dead silent, then they hand the item over to the M's. Then the MC blurts out, "Are you okay with the sunlight?" Because in general, vampires get painfully weak when he's put on the spot like that, the vampire straight up says, "Yeah, if I'm exposed without protection, I'd be." Everything could have burned to ashes, but his hard work beat it, and he's standing there now facing the sun in total calm, while Nimanicia, stunned, realizes you truly can't change that. And it's not just that, this house looks ancient, like it's been standing there for years, maybe even forever. And then you realize even the shape has changed, so Wazoo blurts, "Why do you live here?" And the vampire snaps, "It's a long story and right." The second that vampire drops into deep sadness, everybody bolts, because his warning is clear. He won't take long, so they better hurry. You've got to hear his story, man. I swear I even feel sorry for him. After all this time, the only person he's met is this Anani. And he's craving to talk a bit more because, yeah, he's a weak vampire who's terrified of dying right after the three kick off their conversation because Rio. He looks painfully lonely, so they've got to stick around and hear the whole thing. Just a few minutes later, the vampire admits he's been trapped there for so long he can't even remember how to count the years. He counts the days like it's a countdown to something, and since nobody ever shows up there, he's totally alone. So when Wazoo asks about this Emini, she admits she drops by sometimes, but even so. He feels completely alone. Then he steps inside the coffin and everything starts to close in on him. Asleep, but when they showed up today, they were grinning from ear to ear. Honestly, the poor guy. Neralina heard that and snapped, asking. He blurts out, "Why don't you go check where Emini is?" And the other guy snaps back, "Because if I could, I wouldn't be stuck here, and that's where there's no barrier there at all," and Rio lines in, insisting something is waiting that has the. At that exact moment it hits them. This cave is crawling with bats and they can't help but wonder, wait, do we seriously have to ask if it has anything to do with it? Then the vampire snaps back, yeah, because. In the end, he's terrified no matter how tough he acts. If you don't want to miss what happens next, hit that activate button. Bell rings and I'll see you next time.